able to contest 100 Thieves and kind of fight them off that POI. It paid off well for them in some of those Storm point matches.
Yeah, that's where things got really crazy because I wasn't anticipating that kind of contest to carry forward from scrims. A lot of teams that were contesting at Antenna were starting to elect to land in that no-name area just over the mountain outside of Antenna, but this one, it got brutal, and being able to force such a top-tier team of 100 Thieves out, that just goes to show you that everyone that had Go Next as a dark horse, they were right, they knew something, and they came here to play.
But then at the end of the day, Dia, it was all about Dreamfire. I mean, the top of the leaderboard at the end of that first series, incredible performance out of them.
Yeah, when I talk about the rotations, to get a little bit more specific as to what was going so well for them, they, in our very first game, hit super early rotations, leaving before even 40 seconds had finished on the map. But the change up in that, based on where the zone was pulling, even minutely, ended up being really important for them on their World's Edge games, and I'd say Storm Point both. They had this really keen eye about how to prioritize a rotation that would give them high ground, whether it meant leaving early and approaching from their strong side of the map, or rotating further away onto the slow side of the zone in order to make that work. When we came over to Storm Point, it was a very similar story where we saw them interacting with the map in such a way that they would very quickly find themselves in a position where they could then retain high ground for the next couple of minutes and really stave off a lot of other teams.
Yeah, definitely looking strong to start off the day here for sure, but now we're moving into groups C and D, and obviously all of these squads want to be the ones to be going home with that trophy. So let's take a look at what Group C has to offer.
Chan is going crazy this game here.
They fly in, the dojo, they came out swinging.
You've just got to make sure you do what you can. Well, on the opportunity, they get the first knock on the story, make it 2 on that slot. Only 1 left mounted these, and Gambare Otosan.
And they put Alliance once again.
Here, Monsoon finishes off.
She got to arrive into trade on the roses. Here comes Zero! Zero! The captain! The IGL to send it back down under!
All right, Tiff. Lots of really good choices here, but after looking at Group C, I have to ask you which team you're going to be keeping your eyes on.
What, as if Dark Zero ending that wasn't good enough? Alliance in this group phase? But no, it's actually going to be someone completely different that has been making waves. My team to watch is going to be the Dojo, the roster of It's Timmy, Designful, and Enemy. And here's why. This is your team that came first in the ALGS Last Chance Qualifier for North American region. And Timmy, very much like a Shroud, right? Just so talented, pulling the roster together. You got Designful, formerly on Elevate, formerly on G2, but Enemy, who had played in Split 1 playoffs under Oxygen. This roster has came together under the helm of Timmy, who's being the IGL. Now, what I want to see for this squad is that they make it on Final Sunday. I know they can do it, but here's the deal. Timmy has to have confidence, and his teammates need to trust in the Timmy's calls. And I think that if they can have the trust in Timmy to make the right decisions, and hey, sometimes things go wrong and that's okay, but you trust Timmy, we see you at the top.
I've even talked to the Dojo, and I'm sure you've heard this from them as well, but they're very aware that the way that they got here was a bloodbath. They are a very kill-heavy team, and they have this awareness that in order to do that on the World's Championship stage, you need to believe that you can take on some of the best players across the globe. And that's a difficult mentality to maintain, so this first set is going to mean a lot for the mentality of this roster moving forward in the competition. This is arguably the most important set that they'll play, and it's the first one.
We'll have to see how they do. It's definitely going to be an exciting series, but we still have 10 other teams to round out this series. So let's take a quick look now at Group D.
Here's two huge thermite, huge arc star. Absolutely gonna take that. Oh, the beam!
The FC destroyed on doing it.
Classic one, get nice!
Did it 1v1 on the Walsy? No, it's moist!
Will the most that big shots hit?
Compliment. Right here on my pin, giving you knock.
I like the way that you can do this! MC destroy!
Cannot stand against KCP! In our team, Sheila and the Sheila bring it down! Oh my God!
Then Black Hand will take the win.
All right, Dean, now it falls onto you. Another tough choice to make, but out of Group D, which team jumps out at you?
I hesitate to say it's a difficult choice for me. Now, there's a lot of talent in Group D, but you know that I love highlighting South American teams, and we've got 2 of them. So when presented with this, you have to be looking at teams that we haven't seen before. Both Kick and Singularity didn't attend the Split 2 playoffs, and yet, notably, Singularity has made it back here, and they have to be my team to watch. There's no way about it. I think a lot of people across the world know Team Singularity the best out of South America for the waves that they've made before, making it all the way to finals in international competition, yet not making Split 2 playoffs after they lost Elysium. Well, Elysium is back, and back with a purpose, not just to play the role that he did before, but to redefine this team moving into the future. What a team that many have called the hope of South America now needs to prove that on the international stage once more.
I love that, Tiff. A little bit of a different regional representation here.
Yeah, that's exactly what we need, let me tell you. But looking at this, you know, you got Blackhand as well. And I'm really excited to see how they perform. I've been keeping tabs on Easy Flash, and I have seen some of the craziest plays come out of there. So we'll see how it goes for them. J-Lings as well. I ran into their coach Alex in the hallway just before this, and he goes, we are ready. We came out of Split 2 playoffs, and we knew exactly what the changes were that we need to make. They dabbled in their legend composition. I sat down with Noises, who is actually one of the nicest people I've ever spoken to early on, and hopefully you get to see pieces of that later. But honestly, this is the first time we're seeing C&D, and I'm ready to see what they can bring to the table.
Now, contrasting our previous set, A versus B, C&D is an interesting matchup because they hold some of our highest variance teams. The Dojo is a great example, so we'll start with them, but being able to frag out and take out an entire lobby is one thing, and yet you've also got teams that sometimes just end up not showing up, end up dropping 0-point games or something of the like. And the fact is that we have an incredible amount of fragging talent in C&D. We have seen them hit such high highs, and yet we've also got teams that can falter really easily, that don't have reliable macro. This is going to be an interesting series to define what this tournament will look like for them.
All right, well, a new series of matches also means a new series of predictions for the talent. So let's take a look at what we all had to say, our thoughts on this next matchup, because we've got a little bit consistency across the board again. Y'all like to be picking those top contenders, Tiff.
Look, I don't know. Anytime someone asks me where I want to eat, I have no idea. And trying to pick out of all of these teams, it is the most scary thing. I just start like freaking out. So I'm hedging my bets on Dark Zero. Let's hope Jen Burton and co are just ready to fry out. But Alliance, I love to see that for you, Glitter, because we actually really didn't get to talk about them at all in the opening show. Mandy is actually returning as a sub in for effect. And if you guys remember what happened in Split 1 playoffs, might I add, we had a little bit of jumping on the table actually because Mandy went off.
Yeah, we sure did. Dia, talk to me a little bit about your pick.
For me, the Black Hand pick is really based on what succeeds on the first day, and it's teams that have confidence in themselves, that have a game plan, and that also have an incredible amount of firepower. As I said, firepower really prevalent in both C and D, but for a first match set for both of these teams, or for all of these teams rather, Black Hand really stands out as a squad that has great macro, that supports a frag-heavy playstyle. They demonstrated that in Split 2 playoffs, and I'm expecting that practice that they got there to feed in really well to their first set on the world stage.
All right, well, it also looks like Genome agreeing with you on the Dojo pick.
It's a lot of Dark Zero.
More DZ and even more Alliance on this second page. Interesting, interesting. Both Onset and Gaskin going for one of those two top teams in both of our series so far.
Interesting.
That's
very like them.
I'm wondering if Alliance give us the go next treatment, because those are the two sort of mad scientist teams out of EMEA, and I'd really like to see them pull out things like Fuse, maybe things like Revenant. Alliance have so many team compositions to work with, and now that they've got Mandy, who has a lot of personality as well, I do wonder what that's going to turn into.
I mean, you speak of personality. I'm just hoping maybe they just get so far ahead that Mandy breaks out a path. We all know Hackers was comfortable on the Newcastle, on the Ashe at one point, but hey, who knows what's going to happen.
I mean, if they end up with a point cushion, like we saw with Dreamfire, anything can happen in this series. But if those teams are your favorite, or if you have some different teams in mind that you'd like to be keeping your eyes on here in the competition, well, our award-winning multi-view is back for our championship, and it is the tool that you need. All you have to do is go to the command center down below on your page and choose which perspectives you want to see, which in-game comms you want to hear, or which storylines you want to follow so that you can watch ALGS your way. Make sure you guys check it out. And of course, you know we could never forget all of you at home in the stream watching us for this entire week. We have some epic Twitch drops for everybody that's hanging out in the stream, a different one every single day, and all you have to do is watch for 60 minutes each day to claim those drops. And trust me, you want to make sure you get those in your account because they are pretty cool, Dia.
They are. It's been a fantastic day for me because sitting backstage, I get to open Command Center, I get to watch the broadcast, I get to watch a team, and most importantly for me, I get to have the map open because that tells you a whole lot about the game. So if you haven't tried Command Center before, try it, pull up the map, and you are going to experience the Giga Apex Legends.
He's not lying. That's exactly what he looks like backstage. He just prints out a copy of the map and he's like marking rotations. He's like, where's the ring console? They've got a beacon. It's actually the coolest thing I've ever seen watching him nerd out.
All right, well, we're not going to keep you waiting any longer. It's time to get into our second series of matches of the day. It's time for us to send it on over to Onset and Gaskin. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Lauren, and all of a sudden you hear the games are starting, the crowd starts getting loud out here in Birmingham, and that's what we love to see down there. It's going to be our first look at two new groups here. We've got C and D going against each other now, down into big names in this lobby, including one, Dark Zero.
I'm glad you remembered C and D as well.
Thank
you were going through it in the motions, but we are here,
man.
and we've got some amazing teams. I mean, for the most part, we're going to see the reigning champs. We've got Dark Zero, and we'll have to see whether we are going to see your son winning. Dojo also going to be competing in these groups as well. There's some mammoth teams here in Group C and D.
There really are, and you know, talk about Dark Zero coming into this. Are they going to be the team who go back-to-back with ALGS championship wins? Well, this is going to give us a really good indication of what we can expect from Dark Zero. No contests on their POIs anymore. They have great POIs for both maps. Dark Zero is certainly one of the favorites coming in here. A hot start for them will back up that. Kind of thoughts coming in?
And I will say, in international scrims recently, Dark Zero have been dominating, especially on World's Edge. Zero now playing Fuse. They look like a different kind of beast, and they were just racking up the points in scrims. So we'll have to see whether that can carry on. Now, other teams that can certainly make a big stomp in this group, you've got Alliance. We know what they usually do in group stages. Of course, they have the change. Mandy's going to be with them, and we're not going to see effect, but potentially it could happen. We'll have to see. And then FaZe. I mean, FaZe Clan had a great tournament that didn't really get spoken about enough at the last event.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think one of the unsung heroes and maybe one of the sleeper teams for this event will be FaZe. We also got a little look there, of course, at KCP. Pioneers looking very, very strong at the last event that we had, the Split 2 playoffs, and looking to go one further this time for Europe. This is your map rotation, though. C and D going up against each other. We've got World's Edge for our first three maps here. Smile on my face. You're correct.
It is, especially after we had so much Storm Point back in the day, but it doesn't seem to happen for us anymore. But World's Edge is where so many of these teams are very comfortable indeed. As I've already mentioned, Dark Zero seem to be dominating at the moment. Another team I want to keep an eye on, J-Lings. In those scrims where we saw Dark Zero rack up hundreds of points, J-Lings were the team that were just second of them. They were still able to find over 50, but we'll have to see whether they can do so if Dark Zero are going to be gobbling them all up.
Well, keep your eyes on Lava Siphon. We're expecting to make maybe see a contest going down there. And I'll first maybe look at Dojo as well to see how they come out. But it looks like we're almost ready to go in this lobby, Dan. And I've got to be honest, it's our first time casting here at the ALGS Championships. And I'm a bit nervous, man. I'm like shaking a little bit. It's a huge occasion. And I'm sure the players are feeling the same.
It's always an honor to be commentating in any ALGS event, but of course, when it's at the championships, it makes it that extra little bit special. That's how we feel. Imagine how the players feel. They're about to get locked and loaded. This is the lay of the land on World's Edge. As we mentioned, there could be that contest down at Lava Siphon, Dojo versus Kick. And remember, in the other group, we've got TSM dropping there as well. So we're going to see plenty of fights at Lava Siphon throughout this tournament. Elsewhere, most people have been able to find their own little bit of POI to work with. We might also see a little fight happening down towards Stacks. FC Destroy and GO will probably be dropping down there. But this is going to be an interesting set of groups. I think there are definitely teams that can get big points. So if you are one of those teams who's kind of in the mid-table, you need to be picking up regular points, consistent amounts, game after game. Even if it's just a 4 or 5 each game, you'll still find yourself in good stead.
And one team we haven't even mentioned yet, of course, Moist Esports, one of the most consistent teams in the world after their last 2 performances that we've seen them in the LAN environment. They're in this lobby as well. We know they like to get in some great spots early on. We're going to have to see how they perform as well. That is your lineup of who is going to be in these groups, who's going to be in this lobby. Pick your favorites and keep your eyes on them.
And of course, this means we're going to start to see how those comps are going down and what we're going to see being picked by these teams in terms of their legends. And we've seen a lot of interesting meta shifts since the last event. We've seen now no Seer. Seer was like, what, a 60% pick rate back then at Split 2 playoffs, and now he was a 0% pick rate in the early games previously.
Well, just a little update for you. That is what we saw a little bit earlier. That's not what we're about to see now. So we will hopefully get you a little bit of an indication of where the legend picks are going to be going. Otherwise, we'll have to wait until we get into the game to see what comps these teams are going to be running. But it's so interesting, isn't it, how we see this shift from event to event. Of course, we have the ring changes, we have weapon meta changes, and to be at the top of your game here in Apex Legends, coming around to the biggest tournament of the year, you need to be able to be on top of everything. We're going to have to find out who that's going to be, of course, when we get through the days. But for C&D, the first look is going to be exciting for sure.
Yeah, and I think a lot of teams are kind of adapting to what other people are playing, but there is always going to be that effort of comfort picks where people want to just play what they're good at, what they're used to be playing on. But we'll have to see whether things change as the tournament develops and people start to realize, oh, well, Fuse is very good, and oh my god, do I see a Seer? Suddenly that 0% pick rate might be changing, and that might be something to do with comfort picks.
Well, here we go then. Enough talk about comfort picks. It's trying to get a little bit uncomfortable for some of these teams as we head into match 1 now. As C and D will face off against each other. World's Edge will be the battleground. Man, it feels good to be up here, Dan. Let's see some gun shooting. Let's see what happens on these contests.
It feels good to be back, and I want to see who's winning that fight down at Lava Siphon. I can already see on the map that both of them are heavily sending it towards Lava Siphon, but who gets to drop first? Who's able to pick up any sort of weapons? That will be the real question for me. Does either team actually decide to swerve off? That could also very much happen.
Very good flight path for Moist Esports, who we always talk about historically liking to rotate quickly. Well, they're going to be able to rotate pretty much quicker than anyone. But there is going to be a contest going down here. It's going to be L'Équipe de France who are going to be involved in this one. You can already see a little bit of a poke, a little bit of a prod going down. And actually, excuse me, this is going to be the, looks like maybe not the right team overlays. This is going to be Kick in the Dojo. So we're going to have to see how this one plays out. And early on, it's going to be the first not going for the Dojo, make it 2. And it looks like this might be a Dojo home ground.
Yeah, I mean, already you can see the easy knocks coming through, and now it's just a matter of finishing here for Designful, Enemy, and Timmy. They are an incredible fighting team. We saw that in the LCQ. This is how they got to this tournament, by qualifying in that last chance qualifier, and they really showed what they were made of, and then the practice they've been putting in. They've shown that they can roll with the big dogs, and I'm very excited as this tournament develops to gain that experience as a squad where they can start to believe in themselves a little bit.
I mean, we did a little bit of content with him. We won't give away what it was and, you know, all that kind of stuff, but I can tell you that he is feeling extremely confident coming into this. The build-up to the event has been very important for them. He said getting the confidence in scrims, playing against the best in the world has made them believe and realize that they are not just a very good fighting team, but they believe one of the best fighting teams in the world. So having that confidence coming into these lobbies, certainly huge for their momentum as they go through the days.
Well, they take out 2 members of Kick. They are trying to scout out, see if they can find the third, but it looks like Kick are just going to scarper away. They don't have a ring console at Lava Siphon, but do have a survey beacon to work with, so they can at least get a rough idea, as that circle is going to be heading north, most likely northeast here. So this is going to be great for the teams dropping on that side. Complexity in a good spot. FaZe will be happy. Jay Lings will be delighted, as well as Moist over towards Overlook.
Yeah, going to be interesting to see who has that ring console on. If they get that little bit more information, if we're heading maybe a little bit more north, maybe a little bit more south from this, where the zone finds itself right now on the screens. But one team who are trying to rotate here, just in and around Fragment, is going to be Blackhand. And they're in a little bit of a pressurized situation, because if you're wondering who's putting some shots into their back, well, that's going to be Dark Zero.
So Dark Zero on their rotation will just try and challenge and damage where they can, but at the same time, Dark Zero will want to move relatively quickly, because they'll be concerned about the Harvester team arriving from the south. Because if you imagine you see a circle like this, you want to get over and past people, rather than being that team is getting held out and often gate-kept. Looking at the map overhead, it looks like we're going to be heading very far east. One of the biggest indicators for me is FaZe. They were able to get a ring console, and they moved over towards Overlook, or at least the buildings just slightly northwest of Overlook. And Dark Zero also going to start making their way over as well.
Yeah, I mean, we do have the ring console information. We are going to be going towards Overlook, and another great indication of that, we mentioned about Moist, had a great flight path. They also had a ring console. Where did they go? Nowhere. That's exactly where they landed is where they stayed, and Pioneers at the moment, oh, they're in a little bit of trouble as Dell has to get away, and it's NRG who are chasing them down.
Well, NRG are going to get the couple of kills. Whether they'll get the wipe doesn't really matter. I think what's important for NRG is they were at least able to survive that initial fight, and then they can continue pushing through over towards the eastern side of the map. And for NRG, I guess it's a chance for us to talk about them a little bit. We are always talking about, well, NRG this, NRG that, Sweet, one of the best IGLs that we've seen. Does he kind of compare with Imperial How? Well, lately NRG have not been up there. They have not necessarily reached those expectations, but it's one of those squads who you just know on any given day can suddenly turn up, can suddenly find victories. And I think we're going to learn a lot about this team today.
Yeah, one thing that NRG cannot be criticised about for sure coming into this event was the practice regime. They were playing multiple times a day. They were involved in every scrim, and they were putting in the work, which is, of course, what you need to be doing ahead of the biggest tournament of the year. Blackhand, they're in the respawn village just outside of Fragment at the moment, trying to kind of tiptoe their way towards the zone. And the one thing about Overlook zones that we always kind of highlight is once you're in, great. If you're not in early, it's pretty difficult to work your way up that hill and really contest. Elsewhere, and a long way away from where we find ourselves at the moment, you've got Gambare Otasan, who are having a little bit of a scrap. Yeah,
Ironblood Gaming on the other side of this one. Also, we did see Kick finally get eliminated, so they were the first team to get wiped. And this is a fight for kind of the southeast side of this map. If you win this one, you should get an easy rotation up towards Big Mord and then Geyser. Gambare Otasan, they don't really want to take this fight at the moment, but as I say that, they get the knock, and now suddenly they have a massive advantage.
Yeah, they'll be able to get this finish if they need to as well. Finish does come in, and there's going to be a second kill. Nice spray, just needs to get the finish. Try to make it flashy, falling down from the air. Oh, there is that initial finish, but Dogma will go down. So now it's a 2v1. It's just about taking your time, being patient in these situations. Zone is going to be closing behind them, though, so you just have to keep your eyes on those white heads.
Yeah, Ironblood Gaming just frustrating a little bit now. In a 1 versus 2, plenty of armor and health to work with. This is still winnable, I will say. If you can hit your shots here, but now losing all of those shields suddenly becomes increasingly difficult. And yeah, you see, the hunt suddenly comes through from Geo. They know they have the advantage, and they make sure they press it. So they will now own the southeast side of the map. But I say that, Dojo might have heard this. And if Dojo did hear this in the distance, they can certainly gatekeep here from the guys' side.
One team who's deep in zone at the moment is going to be the remnants of Pioneers. We saw them fighting NRG a little bit earlier on and not coming out of it looking too good. There is still one player alive. NRG going to have to make a very, very long rotation themselves, all the way from staging, of course, to Overlook. And speaking of which, here is the lay of the land in Overlook at the moment. And we mentioned about Moist Esports, how they love to play a god spot position early. Well, you can see where they are set up at the moment, right on the left-hand side of your screens, playing those silos, and we know how dangerous it is to control that height in the endgame.
So the teams that are going to struggle is going to be the late arrivals. Now, Alliance, of course, dropping down at Thermal Station all the way down in the southwest. As soon as they saw the ring console information, they would have known we don't need to hurry here because we are not going to be beating anyone to this zone. So instead, they are calmly walking and marauding their way across the map, as are the likes of NRG. And of course, we saw Gambare Otasan down in the southeast.
There is your map overhead for everyone at home, just to give you an indication of exactly what we're talking about. Pioneer's probably looking for a res inside a Skyhook at the moment, and NRG probably aware that that might be the play. You can see them kind of tiptoeing their way, or should I say scuttling would be a more better adjective to use in this situation, see if they can pick up a few free KP of some white shielded, no weapon players falling through the skies.
So the likelihood is on that southern side, Dojo will hold out GO, but then they will get pressed by Onyx Esports, who are holding down the building just below them, and it's going to be really difficult for them to try and break through, because when you do try and shift through those tunnels, it is so tough because it's so easy to hold those angles and ambush as you try and progress through the northern side of Geyser. But Humbly Artisan are now going to at least be aware of Dojo, so they're not going to get ambushed. That's one of the positives here.
A couple of shots coming in will give that information away to the Dojo, that there's a team wrapping behind them, and it's Geo versus Dojo, which is fun to say, Dan.
More fun than you thought.
That was really fun, honestly. I had a good time saying that.
NRG are being devious here. Now they are well aware that Pioneers have rezzed, and now they are just waiting for some extra bit of KP, it would seem. As Sweet starts to press up with the rest.
This is a game of hide and seek. Apex Legends style right now. Zane is hiding, NRG are seeking.
It's a little bit more difficult without a seer nowadays. So you have to use your wits and you have to use your experience, as Zane does get caught out. He's the first one to be found. But it does look like the rest of the Pioneers were able to at least scuttle away.
Yeah, the other two remaining members have completely split away from each other, just trying to survive. NRG do get those KP, but here is Geo versus the Dojo, and I mentioned it's fun to say, well, it's not fun to be stuck inside a Fuse ultimate, and Dojo trying to hold the line at the moment. Zypher's kind of moving in, but player has managed to sneak through enemy lines here. Up on that rock, Timmy takes some shots in the back. He's going to have to be forced to pop a shield battery here, but it's a little bit of a messy fight here. Nobody seems to have the advantage.
And these are two teams who also had early fights with Contest, so they're both going to be warmed up. They're both going to be ready. Dogma gets the first one to enemy, and Humbly Artisan have the lead now. And it's whether we can see any sort of reset here from Dojo, because this Phoenix and Medkit is going to be massive for Geo, because they're going to have such a health advantage going into this fight.
Timmy's going to try and stick the res here. Zypher's playing the height, but look at that angle being taken by Jusna there. He's trying to do what he can to cause problems. Enemy still down, but Zypher does get one. So the Dojo now back into this, and Humbly Artisan eliminated. The Dojo turn a 2v3 into all of them back on their feet.
Well, they said they think they're one of the best fighting teams. Well, you've just got a little bit of a proof of the pudding there, as they now win it 2 versus 3. Now, this was my worry, though, because they dominate South. They can push through the vault, but when they do push through the vault, it's going to be a very difficult situation around that vault side, and eyes on those vault little clicks. Now, NRG are going to be moving their way from the western side, giving up perhaps on the Pioneers hunt that they were playing. But Alliance were some late movers, and they've started to finally find some players to play with.
A little bit of the height outside epicenter they're trying to take away. They will be safe inside this next zone. Hack is going to himself finding a wall going up in front of him, just completely cut off the attempt at the push. So Alliance now retreat. You see the defensive barrage has come down as well from the Bangalore to make sure that they can't close that gap in the way they would have wanted to. But Alliance are going to be safe for quite some time. And I mean, I tell you what, Mandy, what a player to bring in, by the way. He has not let Alliance fans down once, anytime he's stepped on this main stage to fill in.
A very strange position for Mandy to be in as well. I mean, there was the time where he thought he was probably done with competitive Apex Legends, and then kept getting the call, kept coming back, and keeps proving himself a vital piece to any puzzle. I'm sure Alliance are delighted to have such a familiar face, and also someone that can step up on an occasion like this. But Alliance seem to be comfortable. They were able to force Northeption off of that height, and they can hold it for now. Whether Northeption re-engage, I think that's going to be the big question.
We'll still safe. Has shifted ever so slightly. Overlook was, so we've actually finished kind of in the cavernous area where there's kind of a little bit of rock cover. Onyx Esports in a great position, and Dojo, who we were talking about a little bit earlier on, being a team who are approaching from the south side, if they can force their way through the vault tunnel and exit safely, they might be in a pretty good position for this end game. But Northeption at the moment, who are the team who are on the other side of Alliance, just trying to wrap things out at the moment. Wait to see if an opening presents itself before they move up.
5 teams on the western side here are all going to have to progress into the circle together, and probably will take a couple of pop shots against one another as well, but that's only going to put themselves in a little bit of a tough situation, where those who are inside, the likes of Dark Zero, Blackhand, Pulverex, should be able to pick up a lot of free KP because of it. But you're completely right to focus on this southern side, because actually if Dojo can survive here, they're going to be pretty good for quite an amount of time. I'm just a little bit worried because Onyx Esports are sharing the vault with them at the moment. Dojo went one way, they got forced back into this tiny little choke here. And if they do get spotted out by some of these teams in No Name, then they have to be careful.
I'm interested to see if they try and just hold down the inside of this build, inside of the vault, or if they do make a play. Well, we're finding out the answer to that right now. Timmy taking some damage on the cross, though, and it's NRG who are kind of in the vicinity, looking to third-party this fight if it does take off. Dojo do can take control of the door, though, and 104 shots come in from enemy. Nice spray from him. Gonna have to use that Callus wall potentially just to stop this 3P being a problem, but for now the Dojo holds strong.
Dojo have lost one, and it's whether they can actually survive this fight yet again. Designful's gonna attempt to get back up on his feet, but I don't think they're gonna be allowed to because here comes the push.
Push might come in here, enemy. Gonna have to hold the line. The catwall will slow down and stall this fight, which is one of the best things about the Legend. Being able to take control of the inside of buildings, reinforce those doors. Catwall allows you to get that rest back up. Alliance have been eliminated in the meantime, and Dojo are back up to their feet, and now enemy decides it's time to swing.
Yeah, time to try and swing, try and get some damage that maybe the team can push out on, because at the moment they are being pent up in this building, but it's okay. They can survive here for another minute or so. They don't have to rush things, because you can see the circle is going to be moving ever so slightly north. The likes of Northeption, Dark Zero, Pioneers, Pulverex, they're all going to be in that next circle. So this building that was being so heavily fought for is not going to be good enough to stay in these next 45 seconds.
Elsewhere, you can see Dark Zero inside of this truck, which is always a risky place to have to play, which is why they're looking to have a little bit of aggression added to the recipe of what they find in this game. Jen Burton with some nice shots with that vault. Zero having to take his time to get those shields back up as well, but look at these shots coming in from Jen. Breaks the shields, almost breaks the hearts as well.
This northern side is going to be absolute hell, by the way. It's going to be okay for Dark Zero, who are still holding a very commanding position, as we would expect on World's Edge. Speaking of, Nathan's just taken down Designful, so that's going to be more teams taking fights, and Timmy might need to be helping with his team, and it looks like NRG were able to push in and shut down Dojo. It was a push that was a long time coming for NRG, but eventually they are able to conquer the Dojo team, who has been running a little bit of a muck of this lobby.
3 kills for Sweet as well. He's going to be the kill leader in this lobby alongside a couple of other players who have certainly put up some kills themselves, but NRG, they've still got some work to do here. You see, they're trying to smoke off. They're trying to kind of thread the needle with the rotation here, trying to make sure there's no lines of sight for them to get hit by as they make this cross. They're going to take the high ground, but they need to take a fight here.
Kill feed's about to go nuts, by the way. Northern side is mental, as now NRG keep pushing in, and they want to take this truck. They want to take advantage of this damage here.
Big kill coming in for NRG. They clear the way, and now they're looking to clear a little bit more space. Not just happy with one, but they will be safe. FaZe trying to work their way in as well. It's going to be Moist Esports who are eliminated in the meantime. Complexity, they've been taken out as well. FaZe taking a lot of zone damage here. Snipe down, I don't think he'll make it in. Yes, he will. But what can he do from this position?
He can slip, he can slide, he can try and survive, but eventually will get shut down immediately as everyone on that northeast side tries to force their way in. J-Lings go down as well, and FC Destroy have just been able to hold on to this northeastern side and these rocks, and now they give themselves cover. Northeption also eliminated, 10 squads remain.
Oh, Black Hole, big problem here. FC Destroy managed to take it down, but the problem rears its head once more. Amateur left on its own now. It's Onyx Esports who are moving in. They will get the cleanup on the fight and take that position we were talking about.
They've got 2 more teams to their north, though. This isn't going to be fun. FC Destroy get taken out. 8 squads now remain. One of those teams is still Dark Zero. They hold strong in the building we saw earlier, and they have a lot of room to play with on the western side, but they are going to have to move east as Crusader tries to get those extra shots, and will do so with a Havoc in the back pocket. A lot of presence being gained by Onyx Esports at the moment. They are trying to take as much space as possible on this eastern side.
Crusader, a new addition as well, showing why he is that new player that they picked up. Look at NRG though. They're making a play, and it's KCP. Still in the game, by the way. Still work their way to a top 8 position, but again, it's NRG who are haunting them.
Haunting them, but the White Armors have able to get Pioneers so far, as now NRG will come through.
Oh!
Great shot from Zane, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Pioneers will go down. Blackhand have also fallen. 6 squads now remain. Dark Zero, NRG, Pulverex, Onyx, Tom Young Kung, and Enter Force 36.
Onyx in a really good position for zone. If they can take out the team just to their north, which is Tom Young Kung, they might be in a great position, but that nade almost takes Crusader out of the game. You can see he doesn't look like he's got any shield batteries to play with here. He's going to have one dropped by a teammate, which is going to mean a slower healing operation for them to go through before they can get back involved. NRG making their move, and look at NRG. 2 red Evo shields, leveled up. Nathan on a purple as well. They are ready to fight.
Yeah, they're just going to be able to hide long enough, and they don't have to push in just yet, but that circle is going to be closing on their backsides. Pulverix are the team that are ahead of them. As soon as this wall goes down, you have to take the fight, and now it comes through.
Q comes through as well, trying to counteract it here, Sweet. He'll throw the black hole in as well. Gildersons is going to wrap it. It looks like NRG will win the fight against Pulverix, but look at the kill feed. Dark Zero managed to take down one of NRG as well. It was Jim Burton with a long-range frag grenade, and Dark Zero now still safe, still healthy, and still looking like they might take home a dub.
Dark Zero has slowly been going about their business on the western side, but they might now have to take advantage of this angle that they have on the tunnel. You can see they push in. Fuse is going to be the one to lead everything here. Zero trying to get that initial damage, trying to get that information. They have the grenades to work with. But I think the smokes and the cat wall should just be enough at the moment to give E36 enough coverage. But when this wall does go down, they could be vulnerable.
And of course, 36 know that they need to leave this tunnel. And they're using a lot of utility to try and do so. The longer this goes on, the more noise it is, the more likely that Dark Zero will come under pressure from multiple teams. And that's exactly what is happening. Now they're going to be forced to take this fight, and Dark Zero say, okay, we'll take the fight.
I'm so impressed with what Zainu's done here, by the way. He was on no shields for so long, but he did push in, but Dark Zero, they get wiped. And Enter Thor at first 46, they are able to stay alive, but now NRG, they try and pick up on the pieces here.
And they're going to be able to do so as well. You can see Sweet's just moving in. It's only one player alive at NRG. As a 2, Nathan has gone down in the previous fight that they were involved with, but they clean up the damage, and now they completely control the western side of this zone. Elsewhere, Onyx Esports, Tom Young Kung, they're having a fight themselves. Onyx only have a little bit of room to play with here, and I tell you what, if this fight goes down, NRG are in a position to third.
NRG do have a chance. Onyx will try and take the fight versus Tom Young Kung and get a lot of damage, but Onyx are not able to do so. They're still a 4-3 here, TYK. And now NRG are going to be a 2 versus 3.
2 versus 3 here. Tom Young Kung might be able to close this out. What a performance it would be for this trio if they can get a win in their first game here on the main stage, but it's a 2v2 now because Gildersons has just ripped someone apart.
He's ripped 2 of them apart, and now it's a 2 versus 1.
Gildersons might get them all. Gild! A one-man army walking through the lobby. 2v3, no problem for me.
Well, we said right at the start of this set, we're going to learn a lot from NRG. Are they going to be a team who can be real threats, real competitors here at the World Championships? There's your first look at them, and there's their first victory of the weekend, and doing it as a 2, nonetheless.
I think that was a monster game from NRG as well. Didn't quite catch how many kills they had, but how many times did we go to their POV and see them winning fights? NRG, were they going to be the team to fear at this event? It looks like they put the work in, and after game 1, they're looking dangerous.
I also realized how hard it is to say Enter Force 36 very fast.
Very tough.
I think I said Enter Force 36, and it's just one of those, but happy birthday. I love the signs, by the way. I love the signs from the crowd. It seems to get better and better every single event. We are raising the bar into the World Championships. I would expect nothing less.
100%. You see the NRG fans, understandably, very happy with what they just saw from their team, and I think the zone shift actually caught a lot of people out there. That's one thing that we should certainly talk about. Zone 2, a lot of people who got that initial beacon information probably thinking, hey, this is a guaranteed Overlook zone, but the shift away towards No Name and then almost back a little bit towards Overlook caught quite a few people out, and you can see it was NRG who actually worked their way through from the western side of the zone who managed to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I'm curious whether Dark Zero were just out of meds and out of shields. Zainu, when he was pushing him, was literally on a slim bar of health, but continued to go forward because they knew they had to take the fight. But I think there was maybe a couple of opportunities he could have batted up, but I don't think he necessarily had any. And then as soon as NRG kind of sussed out what was going on down in that tunnel, they pushed straight in and ensured they got those kills.
Will say though, NRG, it didn't look like they were going to win that final circle, but win it they did in the 2v3. And here's our opportunity to have a look at how it went down. I think a lot of it, Dan, was made possible by clearing this side of the zone, coming in and making sure they finished off the last remaining members of Dark Zero in this tunnel to make sure that they had an opportunity at least to third party that fight.
Yeah, Dark Zero wanted to make that fight fast, but it was not quite fast enough. NRG got the last kills on both Dark Zero and Enter Force 36.
Very
And
good.
then from here, I know, I got it right, thank goodness. From here, as a 2, you're thinking, all right, well, we're just trying to survive here. We're going for second place. Surely that's what most people would think about. But as soon as you hear all that commotion, as soon as you see that catwalk go down, you start to think, okay, do we have a chance? And then look, there's a nice little present that's available for Gilderson as well.
Gilderson goes, hey, I know how to use this thing. Let me just wait for my teammate to pick up a battery. Onyx Esports do get eliminated, but they did manage to pretty much fully reset in this fight. It was a full 3. Sweet kind of baits them out, and I think that just created an opportunity for Guild to take an off angle as they stepped out from that catwall. You'll see it here, it just takes this off angle from Sweet. Sweet plays his life, he is the bait in this situation, and then you see the R9 from Guild. He gets the first one, swaps to that L-Star. A little bit of help coming in from Sweet towards the end, but I gotta be honest, if I'm Sweet in that position, I want to fill my teammate with confidence and say, hey, you take all 3 kills here, and wow!
Oh my goodness.
20 kills for NRG. 32 points in game number 1, you'll take that all day.
Unbelievable from NRG, and to do it as a 2 at the end, the bait and switch was just incredible. What an angle that was being held by Sweet there. I mean, it really just showed his experience and how important it is to play your life sometimes in Apex Legends, but not doing it whilst cowering away and batting. Instead, he was just using that head glitch, taking shots, doing damage to keep them distracted. But a 32-point game is insane. Tom Youngkung and Onyx, I think, will still be delighted with an 18 and a 13-point game, especially considering Onyx came all the way from Tree and were still able to get on that southern side. They were the ones that were holding down that vault for so long, so when they saw that circle shift, they must have been smiling.
Looking at the other end of the table, a little bit of quiet start for Alliance. Complexity, the same could be said. Some good KP per phase, which gives them at least 4 points coming out of that one, but it was a pretty top-heavy looking lobby, and hey, when you're coming out of a game with a win and a total of 32 points, no surprise to see the teams at the bottom there, Dan, maybe struggling to find an opportunity to pick up points.
Well, NRG fans making sure that they are happy and letting us know how happy they are with the sides that they were able to bring as well. But you look at NRG's pathing in that game, starting it staging, getting ahead of KCP, winning that fight against KCP, which I think was massive, because then they were able to kind of build off that. They got the confidence, they got all the shield they needed, and then it was just running a train through everyone afterwards.
So it's NRG who take home in game number 1. What's going to happen in game number 2? We'll find out in just a few moments. We'll be right back.
WD Black, the official storage partner of the Apex Legends Global Series.
Welcome back, everybody, to the ALGS Championship. Match number 1, we had a 2v3 for NRG to take home that win. Gilderson stepping up huge for his team to give a little bit of life to the NRG fans here in Birmingham. Resorts World is where we find ourselves, Dan, and we also find ourselves heading in towards match number 2.
Match number 2, which of course will be on World's Edge as well, as will be match number 3 before we go over to Storm Point. And NRG, I think that's what you wanted to see as an NRG fan, but more importantly, that was why Gildersons was brought into this team, right? To be the absolute damage powerhouse that can win 1 versus 2s, that can be the guy to get that DPS outputted. While Sweet is doing just IGL and big brain things, it was the perfect combination for that final circle.
Very, very impressive from NRG. The question is, what is going to happen here as we head back into World's Edge? And I think the scary thing for a lot of the teams in that lobby was some of the teams who were involved in that endgame, like you mentioned, Onyx, NRG, tough rotates for them over towards Overlook. Certainly helped out by that ring 3 shift that we were talking about, where it pulled away from Overlook a little bit, and a lot of the traffic that would have had to leave would have kind of taken each other out and kind of cleared that side of the zone. But certainly something to look out for a lot of the teams making those calls, but we'll have to see, like I mentioned, what happens in zone number 2. But Guild, look at him on the end there, probably feeling very, very, pumped up, feeling very, very good. He's like, don't worry, just send me in, boys. I'll win the 2v3s, no problem.
And I think when you see a circle like that as a team who is going to be rotating from a distance, you hope it's going to be a less predictable zone. We do have some in Apex Legends which are very much predictable, and you're going to see everyone banking on the same spot, and you know full well it's going that way. But this one was a little bit more questionable, but certainly a lot of teams are up on that northern side of Overlook, and then they were punished for that early move. The likes of FaZe, the likes of Moist, who were for sure thinking it was going to be over towards Overlook. And that's always going to be a little bit frustrating, but that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes in ALGS. And sometimes you have to just accept the position that you went for right at the start and play your way out of it.
Yeah, it's interesting. In those positions as well, you kind of have to flip the mentality of we're playing for the end game to let's be the last team to leave this fight with a lot of KP, red Evo shields, and almost guaranteed to win if we can clear this side of the zone. Dark Zero, we talked about them in that game as well. It was a tough situation they found themselves in, just being stalled out on that fight down on the low ground. They had to take care of Ender Force 36, otherwise they would have been flanked by them as they had to move up that hill. So it wasn't that the decision was a wrong one, but maybe just the fight took 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds too long, and that allowed NRG to wrap behind and clear it up.
But what E36 did very well was utilize the abilities they had available to them. The ults went down, the smoke went down, everything they could throw down to stop the push from NRG. It just frustrated them, it delayed them enough that allowed NRG to push in and make sure it wasn't going to happen for Dark Zero. So that's always going to be annoying when you are trying to be the aggressors, but ALGS and Apex in general, it's all about frustrating your competitors. It's all about denying points of other teams that are going to be the ones that challenge you for those places in that winner's bracket.
We'll have to see if NRG can go back-to-back then after that performance. I'm sure, as far as confidence is concerned, going into a game like that, coming back onto the main stage here with all the focus that you wanted to have and all of the strategy you put together and the match plan you put together coming into the ALGS champs, well, it's kind of been vindicated in game number 1 with the way they played. Of course, they'll be looking a lot further in the tournament. They'll want to be winning to pick up that trophy as we now see our lobby and we see some of the legend picks going down.
Yeah, plenty of fuses as expected. Are we going to see a Seer? Yes, Phonyhead still sticking on that Seer and may only be the only one we have. No, we've got another. No, we've got J-Lings also playing Crypto. So you've got a few differences here, a couple of people that are straying away from the current meta. There will be rings, there will be certain times that you will benefit from straying away from the meta, and certain legends are really going to help you in those scenarios.
Well, here we go then. Game number 1 is a distant memory, unless, of course, you're an NRG fan and you might be talking about that one for quite some time. The dropship is live. We're moving. Interestingly, the dropship changed direction a little bit from south to north this time, which is going to be good for the likes of Pulverex, Onyx for those early drops.
And it'll be Kick versus Dojo again at Lava Siphon. Remember that Dojo got the better of them in the early stages, even though Kick were able to escape. They did eventually get eliminated in 20th position. It's not going to be a fun tournament for Kick if they keep losing these contests, because TSM and the other team that we contested them in other groups, but Dojo have already got the upper hand.
For Designful, Kick eliminated once more. It's 2-0 to Dojo in the contest.
As easy as that, and because it's so quick, now they've got a comfortable amount of time to be looting Lava Siphon and start to make their way if they have a ring console, which they do. Okay, so down at Dojo, for Lava Siphon, they have ring console and a survey beacon to work with, and they can get the information that we're going to be heading northeast again. Now, it's not going to be the Overlook prediction that most people were thinking in the previous game. We're going to be heading a little bit further up towards the likes of Epicenter.
Yeah, look at the likes of FaZe and Complexity here. Complexity are in the epicenter at the moment, and they do have that ring console they can hit, so it wouldn't be too surprising to see Cole may be thinking about trying to take that high ground over at Epicenter and play for that long game, because if they do that,
Nala
there could be
good
a big
super.
KP game for them with everyone else having to shift in.
Not
Moist
good at
Esports, you can
handle
see they're going to have
shot
a lot of
connect
access as
చేయలేదు
well
ఇంకా.
to that zone
Body
phase.
ఇంకా
They've got
tension
a
లో ఉంటుంది.
map room scan, but that's not going to be quite what they wanted, especially with this early game. Everyone's starting to stack up in Fragment. Could be one of those little misleading ones if they take that info.
Yeah, if FaZe take a while to loot up here, which they might, just giving that initial circle, then the survey beacon could very much work out for them, give them that player information, and they should be able to stack up. But I think it could be one of those that you say, it's slightly misleading, they might push away, and they could later be left frustrated that they didn't stay a little bit closer to Climatizer. We'll see how quick they are with their rotation. You mentioned complexity as well. I think that is going to be a good circle for them, especially having that red console information. And I'm curious to see whether complexity can find that right formula here at this tournament. They have the players, they have the capability, they have the IGL,
They have the vibes.
they have the vibes, but can they finally find that formula to be a team who kind of competes at the very top
ఎనర్జీ
level?
బాగా
Well, Moist
ఫస్ట్
Esports
నుంచి
are going to be moving away from
అందరి
Overlook
మీద
here, and you can see quite
ఎగబడ్డారు.
rightly so. Jailings looking for a little bit more of a comfortable game than they had in that game number one, and they are looking in and around that height of Epicenter that we were kind of hinting at a little bit earlier. Maybe they're going to try and play for the height and the distance, and exactly what they're going to do, but the only problem is with the
Top
passive
20
from
లో ఎవరు
Valkyrie,
ఉంటారో
they're going to find that
వాళ్ళు
somebody's already calling that
డైరెక్ట్
home.
ఫైనల్ కి
When
వెళ్ళిపోతారు.
Noises was back on IG, he knew everything about
లేని
World's
వాళ్ళు
Edge, and they
మళ్ళీ
were one of the best
ఆడతారు
World's
కదా.
Edge teams that we had in any region, but they haven't really been able to replicate that success ever since this Jailings roster was formed. The addition of Nags, of course, an incredible slayer.
అన్ని
just being
గ్రూపులో
able to
అన్ని గ్రూపులతో
put so
అన్ని
much
గ్రూపులో అన్ని
output
గ్రూపులతో
when it
ఆడతాయి
comes
కదా.
to his
అన్నీ
DPS,
ఆడతాయి.
but they are
రేపు ఆడితే
playing a
మిగతాయి.
more
ఈ మిక్స్ అవుతాయి రేపు.
type of formula here, just having the watch
ఏబి
A&D అయితే
రేపు
A&D
ఏసీ
అయితే
అవుతుంది ఏసీ ఇంకా బీడీ అవుతుంది ఎల్లుండి మళ్ళీ జంబుల్ అవుతుంది ఫోర్త్ డే
Defensive with the EMP, but not with your gun.
ఎలిమినేషన్ రౌండ్స్ ఇంకా అన్న ఆ రోజే ఎల్లుండి.
But Dark Zero, they're already making a quick rotate as well from Harvester. They're moving their way past Fragment, pretty much to where they died in that last game, just outside of the Overlook
10th రోజే
tunnel.
final
Team
match.
Singularity, you can see they're set up here.
Sunday.
They're going to be playing for the long game in this little snake
అది
building themselves,
వాళ్ళకి
which is certainly where
TSM
we
వాళ్ళ
have
కన్నా
seen some of these
భాష
zones finish
చచ్చిపోతారు.
before. But I
ఎక్కువ
think Moist are in a great spot. FaZe and Complexity, we talked about them as well. They're trying to play the height for as long as possible in this situation. And speaking of DZ, look at this. Flashbacks, I'm sure, going back through the tunnel this time.
Yeah, it's a very similar rotation for Dark Zero because the pathing of the circle was almost identical for the initial, so they were already moving that way. But now they're going to have to realize that when these kills start to flood in, when that round one does closes, they will realize they have to go a little bit more north. They were far quicker at going across to this eastern side this time. They didn't take that fight with Pioneers, which I think, even though it was good they got those initial kills, it slowed them down quite a lot in map number one.
We're looking at elsewhere. Dojo, they're currently crafting, I think, over at Climatizer. Oh, excuse me. Climatizer, they're nowhere near Climatizer. At Harvester at the moment. Alliance making their way towards staging, so they're kind of having to play edge again. A pretty tough zone for Alliance to access once more.
No,
Ironbark
Monsoon
Gaming, the
player,
same can be
very
said for
poor
them.
on top first
Overx,
half.
interestingly, holding down the bomb tunnel at the moment.
మాన్సూన్ ఉన్నాడు చూడు బెంగళూరు.
Between Geyser and Overlook.
వాడు
Complexity,
poor
one of the
అంట
teams we
చాలా.
were talking about holding down this height. This is where we have seen end games before.
అట్లా వచ్చాడంట.
And having that information early on in
ఊరైనా
this game might really pay dividends for them towards
పార్ట్
the
టైం
end.
చేసుకుని ఆ డబ్బులతో వెళ్ళి
So I am
ఆడేటోడంట.
noticing on my map overhead, one team who's trying to go a little bit outside the box, Tom Young Kung. They've managed to get above the likes of FaZe, of Complexity, who were holding that high ground that you were talking of. And maybe if Tom Young Kung can surprise one of them, they can steal that position away from them. But suddenly we start to see a little bit of commotion happening as all the teams are sussing one another out. Who's where? What kind of comps have you got? What legends? What utility are you going to have to use against us? As Dark Zero are still trying to make their way ever so slightly north. I think what Dark Zero have done well here, they don't have ring information, but they're very aware of the movements around them. They're keeping an eye on the teams that have been able to go northeast, and Dark Zero kind of shadowing people at the moment.
Yeah, also taking the height as well on the very eastern side of this zone. This is such a difficult spot to play, and with everyone starting to stack up a little bit later on, Dark Zeros have some premium position with the geometry to fire down on anyone who's trying to rotate across that open area, or anyone who's maybe taking a fight themselves that they can see as an opportunity to third party, especially with Zainu taking this height as well. They're going to have some great lines of sight.
Mandy
Elsewhere though, we've got
Mandy,
NRG in a
okay,
fight
Mandy
against Alliance, who are
వాడుతున్నాడా?
trying to push them back.
NRG versus Alliance, but Dojo is
Maybe
in the
red
area.
change చేస్తారేమో.
Dojo will get involved if they hear
Huh?
or see any
Isa
sort of knots going down. So
confirm
you've got to be
వాడనంట.
careful if you're either teams, and you also would
అంటే
expect
ఎట్లా
potential push
ఆడతారంటే
from the likes
వీళ్ళు
of Dojo. They could be
ఈరోజు
going on this
మ్యాండే
rotation.
ఆడాడు అనుకో రేపు వాడు ఆడతాడు.
And Alliance
లే,
are
లే,
just
లే,
gonna
లే,
try and
cook.
cook. If they can get damage,
Oh,
it
this
might
is
be
చేస్తారా?
gonna cook.
I tell you what.
90 bomb. Where's the second one though? Does he get the
అయినా వాడు
damage?
చిన్న పోరోడు.
Package, but look at the movement from Hackers.
కానీ ఘోరం కొడుతున్నాడు తెలుసా వాడు ఎఫెక్ట్
Forget about your cat cues, but now he's getting challenged on the high ground. Nathan goes down. Hackis. That is an unbelievable play.
But now the Dojo are starting to have a little peek at this one, getting involved as they add to the damage. You can see Timmy's just taken down Sweet, and now Energy have lost 2, so Alliance are going to still be
Sweet,
healthy. Dojo, of course,
Timmy
are healthy because they're
got
the last
Sweet.
arrivals, but NRG are the biggest losers of this fight.
Looks like Alliance all up on the high ground now. Timmy does get the finish onto Sweet as well. And look at Designful. Look at him taking this angle. If he can hit the black hole here, he might be able to suck all of Alliance into it and cause so much damage. 38, the only damage that's coming in though. It's not huge. Complexity eliminated in the meantime in our kill feed. Somewhat of a surprise as Designful has taken the height.
Yeah, it was Jaylings that took that fight elsewhere, but Designful gets one onto Yuki, and now Dojo, they have the complete advantage here against Alliance. Timmy took so much damage with them, was able to back off and get that bat in, and then it meant that Dojo just had the extra player on the map. But now we're going to see whether Alliance can hold on as a 2.
Well, they did get the reds. They actually got Yuki back to his feet, so I'm not sure if the Dojo managed to push the issue quick enough to make this a straight 3v2. So that's why you see them just take their time here, make sure that they're in a position to get healthy before they re-engage with this fight. Still got a minute or so until that zone starts to close, so they're not going to be forced to make a play. And Alliance are indeed back to a full 3.
And if you're wondering, where are NRG getting involved? No, NRG are gone. They, as a 2, decided to escape and just try and play their lives. And maybe if they got that banner, potentially go for a res over towards Skyhook. And if they've done things as a 2 before in game 1, no reason why they can't. And you can see they do have Sweet's banner, so they can definitely get him back over towards Skyhook, just as the Pioneers did in the game before.
It's almost a complete reverse of what we saw a few moments ago, or should I say, exactly what we saw position-wise from Alliance. Mandy, once again, excuse me, Hackis on our screen. I was misled by the player cam. This time he doesn't have the frag grenades to maybe force the team off of height, but the Dojo still on the hunt here. You can see they love to fight. They're never afraid to shy away from an engagement.
The one thing for NRG, who are going up towards Skyhook to get that res, by the way, is because they went there to stop Pioneers previously, they know they still have the time to go for Skyhook as a 3 and get into the circle and not really worry about it, and they were still able to get a victory last time. Sure, they would have been a little bit more healthy, they would have had plenty more utility to go with, but it's something for them to at least have some confidence. As this landslide fight is kind of stalled, it's died out a little bit, but the circle coming in may speed things up.
Evac Tower going to be used by Alliance, and they've decided, you know what, we don't want none. We're out of here. We're going to try and reroute and replan how we want to approach this zone, and they're going to take a harvester rotation instead. Should be a pretty clear move for them. Dojo kind of win the battle of landslide, you would say. Coming in as that initial third party, they got some KP out of it. And now they'll be able to rotate and, more importantly, craft some medkits as well.
Well, Alliance also hit the survey beacon on their way through staging, just to get an idea of where people are. They are going to see that the kind of southwest side by Monument and Fragment is pretty open, so once they do rotate through Harvester, they should have a comfortable old journey up to Fragment at the very least. But it's going to be a little bit more difficult when they start to get further northeast towards Climatizer. Now, Onyx Esports, who came third in the last game,
Japanese player
they really showed us what they were made of, and they had an incredible journey all the way down from the southwest side as well. Looks like they've been able to find themselves in a somewhat comfortable position, but there is a lot of teams on this eastern side at the moment. You've got Gambaryo Tazan, you've got Enter Force 36, you've got Pulverix, they're all around Dark Zero as well. So when this circle does close, this eastern side is going to be terrible for everyone involved.
So many different elevation changes as well. Dark Zero, I think, are holding the highest of the high grounds, where if a fight does break out to their south, as you can see on our map overhead, they will be able to swoop in and clean that up extremely easily. The only problem is you've got to do it quick enough that you don't give that spot up. Maybe it's going to be one player staying to anchor, the other two swinging out to clean up the damage. So Dark Zero in a great spot as we, I say great spot, well, not as good as it was a few moments ago. Moist Esports though, dropping over at Overlook, they are slap bang inside of that zone.
And also Tom Young Kung, remember they dropped at Skyhook, and they were a team over towards Trials who were able to go all the way around and get the northern side and ensure that they could now hold what is one of the best positions in the map. They were able to get behind FaZe, get behind Complexity, and slowly creep their way in. A fantastic rotation, but here comes potentially a fight.
Pulverix versus Dark Zero. Zero's going to find that out very, very quickly. Oh, the knuckle cluster does go in. It connects for a little bit, but the Arcstar's going to do even more. Jen Burn now moving in, looking to finish it off, and Pulverix gets swept aside.
Zero with the Arcstar onto Shunmi. Incredible from Dark Zero. They were more than prepared for that fight. And another reason why you have that fuse on your team, so you can just pelt grenades into your enemies' faces. As now we're going to see Zane Dalanaski move on in. The KC Pioneers Are they going to be able to find a home? The Newcastle to make sure they can create their own home. Homes under the hammer. Maybe that could be the next Nasky piece.
Nasky looked really happy with that rotate, by the way. See as they landed, there's no one there. He was like, nice. Good job, boys.
Good job, guys.
We're cool. Let's see what they can do from here. Bang inside a zone. 17 squads still remaining, by the way. So this is certainly going to be a game that's going to explode to life when that next zone does close. With everybody being forced in. Still a lot of room to play in and around the climatizer kind of, around the epicenter high grounds. As Dojo, who we saw a little bit earlier involved with the fight with NRG, well, look who's on our screen right now. Designful does get a knock as well onto Mandy. So it looks like Alliance, they're going to get back to a 3. That was a long time ago. I think that was just him maybe mistiming some meds.
Yeah, he went down to the ring, which is not good, and Alliance can now have to work as a 2, because Alliance will lose one to the ring, because they've had such a tough journey going through Fragment, and they're going to get held out as well. All these teams on this western side are going to get held out as, again, Yuki's gone down to the ring. Nathan's, though, just gone down elsewhere as NRG are trying to move through.
Trying to move down, and interestingly for Alliance, they are getting cut down at the pass at the moment, as Iron Blood Gaming are looking over the top of them. Now it's going to be NRG just as a 1. Iron Blood looking to finish off the pieces at the moment. We'll have to go back just to make sure that they're safe as that zone does start to close, but it looks like Alliance will have to play this one out. As a solo player, the ring was a problem for them, and it's interesting to see why that decision was made, because they wrapped all the way around, remember. Made that Harvester rotate, but they just didn't have the meds to make it.
Yeah, Dojo will be more than happy because it was 2 free KP for the Dojo players, who are now going to be in a very tough scrap here with Iron Blood Gaming. Alliance maybe will take a look at it, or at least the last remaining player is Designful is going to be the first to fall.
I was going to say, Enemy was just trying to see if he could find anywhere to play there that was going to be safe. The answer was no for a few seconds. NRG eliminated in the meantime. It won't be back-to-back for the team who dropped a huge amount of points in our game number 1. They might be able to get the res here, though, Dojo, with that cat wall going down elsewhere, just outside. You can see a couple of teams starting to get into a little bit of a scuffle.
Dojo doing so well to stay alive as a 3 at the moment, and actually just really covering each other's bases, making sure those bait and switch goes down well, but Designful tries to push in, does manage to stay alive, Enemy alongside him. And suddenly you're going into the lava here.
Might be a little bit of a surprise on the low ground for them as well. There's a team on that bridge. That's going to be Blackhand who are looking at them. Iron Blood Gaming looking to clean up this damage at the moment. But you can see, with the comps that these teams are playing at the moment, it's so difficult to get a clean fight. You're going to be constantly stalled by smokes, by bang ults, by catalyst queues. All of these things make it so difficult to get that clean finish on a player.
And I really wonder if these fights are just going to be in vain anyway, because you are going to have to push up as round 4 closes. Gambare Otazan get taken down. We're now 15 squads remaining. Every team has gained 1 placement point, so at least that's something to add to the tally here in map number 2. But all these teams on the western side are going to have to suddenly force themselves northeast, and there are going to be several teams to make life a living hell.
The evac tower got taken down though, and you can see Iron Blood Gaming, plan A. Well, it's going to have to be plan B, as they can't take to the sky, but they do have another one. Maybe this time it will be a little bit more durable on the way up.
Plan B was evac tower, plan C is also another evac tower. How many have they got of these damn things? As Moist Esports, they're getting pelted by grenades at the moment. Alliance get eliminated, as do the Dojo, and Iron Blood Gaming were the last team to survive on this western side, or were they? Because they're still getting involved in this fight, and even though there's so much damage, again, it's all in vain, as Blackhand will be the last survivor.
On it gone, Moist gone, Iron Blood Gaming gone as well, as Blackhand might be the next team to die as well. This is the complete war that's going down on the southern side of the zone, because everybody has to move, everybody has to head north, and there's only enough room for certain teams to make it out here. One of them might be FC Destroy. However, they're still under pressure here. They do get that res.
So tough for all those teams that were coming from the southwest. FC Destroy and J-Lings held them out. Dark Zero still alive. As our FaZe, remember right at the start, FaZe were dropping over towards Climatizer. They would have had a rough idea of where this circle was going, but they've slowly gone about their business, and they find themselves in the northwest side, as do Pioneers and Tom Young Kung, who made that giant rotation all the way from Trials over towards Climatizer, and they find themselves in a good spot. Now, FC Destroy, who have held this southern zone for quite some time and have picked up 1 kill because of it, now we're going to have to try and assess how on earth do we get to this northern side and get past Singularity and Dark Zero here.
Well, Yuka Predator is going to be asking his teammates if they've got any heavy ammo right now, because he's only got 6 bullets left for that hemlock. And that, even though it might chip away at some shields, isn't going to be really enough to do some damage if they do have to rotate and cross with Team Singularity holding them out. This is the zone, though. This is where we expect teams to be taking that final fight. And Pioneers still stuck under this building, but they're quite comfortable being there.
Yeah, Pioneers were delighted with that rotation. It's an interesting game, isn't it, where you haven't taken a fight, but you can be absolutely ecstatic with the fact that you have been able to make what seems like the perfect move. And when you see that circle then coming towards you, it just seems like you are being rewarded even more and more for making that risky move. But having Serdal on the Newcastle here means that they can continue to make that fake cover and can be a real threat in this final circle.
Team Singularity and FC Destroy, they're having a scrap, and here is that scrap indeed. Elysium on his return to the ALGS. He's gone down in this fight, and now it's up to his teammates to try and hold it down. Enterforce 36 have been eliminated in the meantime. That was the solo player still alive, and that might open a rotate for Dark Zero as well, as FC Destroy do survive, but for how long with that zone closing?
Yeah, they survive, but they're trying to avoid the fight with Singularity, but may just walk into Dark Zero as J-Lings have been griefing every single squad on this southern side at the moment. Remember, they had a difficult journey to get into this circle as well, but they were able to force out complexity as Team Singularity now go down. FC Destroy also eliminated, and we're down to 5.
And that's Dark Zero have just cleared that side of the zone. They just kind of avoided the fights until the teams were forced to engage. They then pick up the pieces, they clean it out without taking any damage whatsoever, and now Dark Zero are safe on this side of the wall.
And you can see there on Dark Zero's POV where that circle's going to be moving, almost bang center of this current zone, slightly north, but pretty much central, where everyone is going to have to move. But the teams that have to move first, FaZe and J-Lings. Pioneers, Tom Young Kung and Dark Zero can be a little bit more hesitant with their play here.
Snipe Down trying to climb up, Phonyhead trying to climb up as well, and it looks like it might be a long way up for them. Can they make it? That's the question, or are they just trying to say, undetected for now? Well, the security camera comes out from Noises with that drone, and he's going to give away their position. This should be an opportunity for J-Lings to pick up some KP.
Yeah, I think that when J-Lings saw that this is a 2 from FaZe, they may try and just get this wipe, because then they will dominate the southwest side. It's going to be a far easier last circle for them if they can take out FaZe here. Otherwise, FaZe could shoot them in the back.
Well, Nags has also got a Prowler from that care package, so he should be able to make quick work of them. There's Phonyhead, he's going to go down, and look at that. Kill feed, Nags, Prowler. That's exactly what you want to see as Snipe Down's just trying to survive.
They really want to take down the last member of FaZe here, but they may just have to forget about it because they have a chance to move up on this circle, and Tom Young Kung now trying to press on the likes of Dark Zero, who are going to be pushing into those areas as well.
Was Dark Zero trying to survive here as Tom Young Kung take this high ground. FaZe have been eliminated. Speaking of Dark Zero, we have a listen-in available as they look to pick up their first win. Let's jump over to Dark Zero and hear the comms.
Batting on me. Look at my fuse on, shoot.
On the back,
Yeah,
watch
I'm swinging that
out.
shit.
Come on,
Swinging that
come on.
shit.
Swinging it with you.
He's jumping on them. I stuck
They
him.
jumped.
Kill left.
Look, left maybe.
Fuse damage, pick underneath.
Playing on you. Here,
Okay,
here. Nice, good ball. Swing
I'm
this.
chilling a bit.
Come on.
I'm batting.
Okay, we're chilling. Chill, Zion.
Chill again, chill.
Okay,
Chill.
batting.
I'm healing. I
Shoot us up. I don't
There's
have
other
any
teams
of
on
them.
the left side. We gotta make sure that team dies though.
I need lighter heavy now.
Here.
I need heavy too.
Here.
Jet take.
Yeah. We're gonna slide forward. The team's on our left.
Okay, I'm down.
Slide on me now.
Yeah. Doing it. One at height.
Crypt on me.
1 to the 50. Gonna swing.
I keep chill a bit. Chill. Bring back drone. AMP.
We're gonna swing up.
They got swing. Chill.
Yep.
They're fighting each other.
Dark Zero
I'm
na
taking them all. They're right there.
kattanga.
Care. I'm picking Jen.
Above. Armor stop. Grabbing.
Take fight. Oh,
Dude.
no, bro. You win this. On me.
Get up.
బాగుంది ఇంకొట్టని రాడు పైన రాడు
Close, but not quite close enough. Dark Zero come in second because it's J-Lings who take home the win in game number 2.
I feel like I've got the opposite of a caster curse at the moment. I said, let's look at NRG game 1, then I say, let's look at J-Lings, and suddenly both teams have found victories, but quite rightly so that J-Lings do get a win on the board. They have looked fantastic in World's Edge scrims, and maybe looking like the team they once were back on IG. They know how to play this map, but I think they were just waiting to try and find that perfect composition. And even though it looks a little bit janky, having Crypto, having a Watson, they made it work. They got aggressive when they needed to. and they find themselves finding a W, but Dark Zero still putting big points on the board and showing great consistency.
Yeah, so close to winning that game as well, but it is going to be J-Lings who step up for Europe in game number 2. And one thing I liked about how J-Lings approached that end zone as well, they weren't afraid to engage. Sometimes we've talked about J-Lings sometimes being a little bit too passive when it comes to those end games. They're waiting for almost too perfect a moment instead of trying to create one themselves by outputting damage. You saw Nags going in there. The Prowler is certainly going to help in those situations, but I think just being a little bit more proactive certainly helped them close out that end game.
Well, it was something that happened off screen as well in the early stages where J-Lings were able to force complexity out of their position, win that engagement, and take that northern side alongside the likes of FaZe. And ever since then, they had one of the more commanding positions of the map, and it was how they played it afterwards. Slow when they needed to, but also, as you say, aggressive at the right times, which is usually the perfect blend for winning a game of Apex Legends. A chance to look back at this final circle from J-Lings' point of view, as of course we were on board with Dark Zero throughout that one. Catwall being down meant that they just had to hold out and wait to get any sort of info before they could really get involved.
Yeah, they had this side of the zone all to themselves. So you can see just making sure they didn't get poked and prodded. You see a few Horizon Qs being thrown down, Nags. More than aware of that situation. The question is, did they have an EMP to use? Was it just a case of peaking the right moment? And it looks like that might have been the case. Surviving long enough to be the third party in these situations, Dan, that is the secret of winning games of Apex Legends.
Yeah, survive, use the Dark Veils to your advantage, and then as soon as they drop, you really have to know where other people are going to be. So if you have got any sort of info, you have to relay that to the rest of the team. And then as soon as Pioneers get eliminated, it was this damage right straight away, getting that first knock, which was massive for J-Lings. And as soon as they did have that advantage, you'd imagine they were confident, you'd imagine they were comfortable, and it was just a matter of playing the circle, using it to their advantage, and forcing Dark Zero into a sticky spot.
Yeah, really impressive stuff from Nags there, the controller player at the end doing what is required of him, hitting the shots to give them that win. 25 points overall after the 13-kill win for J-Lings. Dark Zero just in behind them though, 14 kills for them, end up with 23.
And as I mentioned in those international scrims, it was Dark Zero just dominating, taking so much points, but it was J-Lings who are kind of second behind them, still finding those consistent games. So it did have me curious, can they replicate that when it comes to tournament play? Because it's all well and good talking about scrims, a very different manner of style that you play when you come into tournaments here. You probably don't take as much risks as you do in scrims. You probably are going to be a little bit more conservative, holding yourself back at times, and J-Lings perhaps taking advantage of that sometimes.
Yeah, one thing to point out as well, just Pioneers, they came in third place there, they put 8 points, but the position they found themselves in didn't really give them many lines of sight to pick up KP towards that end game of teams who were rotating in, so you can understand why their score looks the way it does. Great placement, but just not the kills to go alongside it.
And as you look at the bottom half again, it was a tough old start for Kick, and I'm very concerned about their tournament with the amount of contests they have at Lava Siphon throughout the day. Complexity also were taking out one of those teams that I said J-Lings were focusing on in the early stages. This is the lay of the land, though. NRG on 32, Dark Zero just behind them on 30, and J-Lings starting to close that gap on 26 as well. Now, Tom Young-Kung, they're a team without a victory that still find themselves very much in the runnings in these groups.
They certainly do. Those top four separating themselves from the rest of the pack at the moment, but that always gives you an indication if you're one of those teams who's had a little bit of a slow start, that one big game and all of a sudden you fly up those leaderboards towards the top, and there is the family members of Dark Zero, the biggest fans that you can possibly want. You got your family coming out to support you, and playing pretty well, Dan, putting smiles on faces.
Consistent, they got into pretty much both of the final circles. The first one didn't quite go so well, the second one so close, but I think that they will probably feel like they could have won it if they had done maybe just some small adjustments, but it's one of those things that happened. It was the damage that was initially taken. Very difficult to recover from that. That's what we expect from Dark Zero. They are one of, if not the most consistent Apex Legends team we have alongside TSM. They are the two front runners in the tournament without a shadow of a doubt. There may have been, you kind of scratch your head a little bit if we saw TSM and Dark Zero both struggling today, but they both looked good.
And also, you can see Zero Type in there. He's, shall we say, performing some psychological warfare in the pre-match lobby chat, which is always fun to see. Not going to reveal what it is, but he's always looking for a way to get an advantage, which is always something I love about Zero. But Dark Zero, like you mentioned, looking very, very good. One thing that stood out to me was that fight they took against Pulverex early on, where they just ran them over. And I think that Fuse Q really did kind of completely scupper the plans of Pulverex as they moved forward, and then they were just getting shattered, slowed, whatever it is. Damage being taken. Easy fight when Gem moves in like that.
If you give me a Nessa plushie, I'll tell you what they were saying in the pre-game. I can be bought, and I can see everything that's said from all of the players, and I can put their careers as
don't do that.
I could have. No, I won't.
They they will ruin yours even
That's
quicker.
true, they very much will. But they say nice
Hey,
things,
Brett.
really. I'm only joking. But a great game 2, and that gets me excited for game 3.
It does indeed. Another thing that gets me excited is some of the cool stuff that we've got here at the arena, which these wonderful people who are sat in the crowd can certainly check out. And we the people is going to tell us exactly what that is.
What up, everybody? So earlier, I showed you guys some of the funnest activities you can do here, some of my favorites, but I never showed you guys how to claim your prizes once you fill out your passport. So we are here at Resorts World Arena in the forum right in the beginning, and I filled out my passport, and now it's time to collect some loot. I want my loot, please. Please, please. You can absolutely see my photos. So we got that,
the content creator.
that, and that. That's it. Let's go. All right. So if you're one of the first 30 people in the day to complete all your passport, you get a secret prize. Let's see what we got. We got an exclusive ALGS Messi golden with the little crown. Apex tokens up in here. Some more prizes. Come get yours.
Absolutely love that, Dan. The first 30 people.
First 30 people get it. Are you off? You really want one? Okay. Oh, he's not joking. He's actually left. So
Two matches
right, well, ALGS just with Dan Gaskin has gone and left me. How does he do his job again? Doesn't he usually say things like he locked and loaded? I don't know what he says nowadays. Oh, he's back. Thank goodness.
You look so nervous.
I was really nervous. You're my comfort pillow.
Launch point.
Comfort blanket. Excuse me. Comfort pillow. One of the two.
Getting weirder.
It's fine.
But look at that thing, it's beautiful, isn't it? And of course, if you're not one of the 30, you can fill out the passport. They are available here, so you can go pick one up, and they are looking extremely good on the FaZe desk right here, and certainly maybe something that can get the confidence going here for FaZe, because a little bit of a slow start for them so far.
Yeah, they were
Where
they had to kind of stay in their area over towards Climatizer when the circle was pulling towards them, but as a lot of the people started to arrive and they lost their first player, it was just a matter of survival for FaZe. They were never really able to get going or get any kills on board that allowed them to get the shields up and making sure they could be competitive in the final circle. Instead, it was just a matter of avoiding fights, and that's never a fun way to play Apex Legends.
Yeah, and we've got to talk about a little bit about the war that happened over at Landslide early on as well, because it was almost a carbon copy a couple of times of the positions and the fights that were going down, and Alliance will want that game back, to say the least. They make a rotate, they don't take the time maybe to craft as much as they would have wanted to, because it looked like they rotate in towards Fragment through Harvester that they decided to take after saying, hey, we don't want any part of this. It looked clear for them, so I wonder if it was a timing thing, maybe it was the ring changes that caught them out a little bit, but it certainly really did hurt them, and to come out of a game where you're dying to the zone, it's kind of going to hurt for you moving forward.
And when we have two very similar circles as well, certainly with the patterns of play, J-Lings will be delighted that they were able to take advantage of a circle that was certainly closer to home. They drop over to point onwards, it was just a matter of bullying the other teams that were arriving late. Because if you are a team like Alliance, like NRG, like Onyx, who are coming from that southwest side, those were two of the hardest circles they could have asked. Now you're hoping and praying to the Apex gods. This is going to be a more comfortable circle here at number 3.
We'll have to see what that zone does, Paul. It looks like the lobby is just on the verge of getting ready to go as the players sit back down in their positions and they lock in for this game number 3. And I always feel like game number 3 is an interesting one. Like game 1 and 2, the nerves are there. You're a little bit, intimidated by the main stage. Maybe it's your first time you've been on the main stage. A lot of these teams should have the experience at this point to deal with that pressure and the situation, but now you've felt the lobby out a little bit. You know how teams are going to be playing, who's going to be making what rotation, who's going to be more willing to fight in certain situations than others. And this is where I feel you start to see the better quality of game, where everyone kind of knows what their play is and what they can expect from other ones as well.
Yeah, I can't say enough how important that win was for J-Lings. I remember back at Split 2 playoffs, they only had 27% of their points were on World's Edge, 73% was on Storm Point. You can't have a golfing difference like that when it comes across the two maps. You need to be consistent across both. And a team that has always fared well on World's Edge, I was very surprised with their lackluster performances. But it seems like they have very much worked on things and they have impressed here coming to the World Championships. And now it's about whether you can go back to back, not even necessarily with victories, but with consistency here. You've got to stay with the front runners. This is an amazing chance for J-Lings to pick up points.
It certainly is indeed, and I think confidence is a big thing for J-Lings as well. I know we're talking about confidence, I know it's almost like a buzzword when we're up here in the commentary booth, but you would be surprised as a player how much your gameplay can be affected by a win in a team fight or win in a game of Apex as you move over to the next game. All of a sudden you feel confident and engaged, you're more willing to swing in a situation knowing that you're going to hit your shots. Some highlights, of course, from our game number 2 for you right now. I've got to say, this play from Hackis is one of my favorite I've seen in quite some time. The way that he navigated and moved beautifully over that cat queue to take the high ground and finish it off. Masterful from Hackis.
Frustrating though, I'm sure, for Alliance because they had made such a good push onto NRG, but then the dojo came to ruin Alliance's day. Dark Zero had that fight on the eastern side, using Zero's fuse as best as they can to get an Arc Star into the face of Shunmi and take down Pulverex. The team I do want to talk about, Tom Young Kung, and their consistency at the moment.
What are you doing with Kraber, man?
Targeted with the drop spots that they currently have on both Worlds Edge
The
way they're playing and the points they're picking up, it is not a team you want to fight against. It is definitely not someone you want to try and rip their drop spot off if you are struggling with your own, because for teams like Kick, for example, they may want to find a new home as this tournament goes on.
Yeah, you have to keep an eye on what Kick's play is. Alliance eliminated at this point in the game after, like we mentioned, a little bit of a, should we say, a miscalculation on meds by the looks of things with that zone coming in. Dark Zero, this fight for the truck was a really important one as well, because this allowed them to be in a position to clear out this side of the zone. And you can see it right here. The Prowler from Jen Burton is always a terrifying thing, but when you are the only team with cover on this side of zone with everybody having a wrap in front of you just to survive, it's pretty much free pickings for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that just accepted their fate a little bit on the southwest side, so they took those fights, they tried to get their KP. In a zone like that, when there's little to play with, you have to be one of the early arrivals, and if you don't have an evac tower to try and go above people, you're probably going to be cannon fodder and taken out by the rest of the lobby. Now, as we got towards the end of the game, Dark Zero, the ones who took out the Homes Under the Hammer team. Unfortunately, Pioneers were not able to create a stable enough house, but Dark Zero were not able to capitalize and get a victory. Instead, it was J-Lings who held their ground in that final circle, and when you're trying to push over a wall with a ring to your back like that, it's always tough to get involved in an engagement.
You say Homes Under the Hammer, I call them basement dwellers. Oh wow, we all know one of those.
We definitely do.
Dan Gaskin.
That is me, that is I. But I think Pioneers, they might look at that one and say, did we miss an opportunity? We were in a great position. Did we play too passive? Because I think when you have a composition like that and you have a Newcastle, you almost want to play passive. You want to be the team that's on the more defensive side because you have so many tools to do so. But I think they were punished a little bit and maybe caught off guard by a Dark Zero who wanted to get aggressive.
Yeah, Dark Zero never want to shirk away from the opportunity to fight. If they feel it's a fight that is going to be productive for them, either by taking space or clearing a position they believe is one to win a game from. Elsewhere though, I think we always have to talk about the bottom of the leaderboards as well, because a couple of teams certainly had some slow starts. Alliance been one of those teams. Yes, they've had some pretty rough zones that they've had to go through, but also a little bit surprised to see Moist Esports a little bit quiet at the start.
Yeah, very quiet indeed, and I think that when you look across the other groups, it's always going to be trying to find points where they are available, as we can look at a comparison between JMW and Jen Burton, two players who are trophy lifters.
I was going to say on the same team.
And it is incredible to see JMW finding success after filling in and being a part of that roster alongside Jen Burton. And it is going to be a chance for Dark Zero to show what they're made of as they try and do it again.
Yeah, interesting to see. No surprise to see the difference, shall we say, in kills, not just because of play style, but also because of legend selection as well. Jen Burton on the Catalyst is always going to be poking and prodding through that cat wall and able to do that entry damage in fights that gives Dark Zero so much success. He's also so good when damage has been dealt, immediately moving in and putting himself in position to clean things up. Comparison now between Nags and Zero. You've got Valkyrie versus Fuse.
2,700 for Zero. I mean, he's always just going to have the ability to pummel nades towards enemies, so damage is always going to be increasingly high when you are playing on the Fuse. Only the 3 kills, but plenty of assists. Now we've seen what Nags can do with a SMG in his hand as well, whether it be Split 2 playoffs or whether it's already so far at the champs. He's a very confident player who is more than happy to get involved in any sort of fight.
Well, elsewhere we can see, understandably, it's only right that we go through the entire player comparison and give Noises and Zainu a little bit of a shout out, by the way. Zainu, by the way, what a wondrous rise this man has had. He probably thinks Apex Legends is the easiest game in the world. Turns up to his first LAN, wins it. Turns up to ALGS Championships, he's hoping he'll be able to win it as well.
I mean, we saw Gilderson's popping off earlier, and now we're seeing Zainu on our screens. 2 players who were brought in to be that guy, to be the damage-dealing youngster who can kind of learn from slightly more experienced competitors, and sometimes you need that, like almost like robots at time. You point here, you go there, you kill that, and Zynu proved exactly that at Split 2 playoffs, what he was capable of, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has his hands on another trophy come the end of the ALGS Championships. But a lot of teams that they'll have to go through if they want to get there, but it is looking good for Dark Zero so far. But for J-Lings, at least a promising start for them. They've shown that they are going to be competitive, not just in this lobby, but this tournament.
Complexity game in there, just at the bottom of your screen. Shout out to all of the boys on Complexity. I mentioned good times, good vibes. They genuinely always look to bring that, and you can see Dark Zero looking very relaxed about the situation they find themselves in at the moment. They've done a lot of their heavy lifting so far.
Only one guy.
As we see these two groups match up and the amount of points that they put on the board, especially even in that second game there, just one thing that's impressive about Dark Zero is for when they win a game or they're in the top 3, it's not like a win a game with 4 kills. They usually have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They've usually taken a really important fight before they've got into that end game position that puts them in a position not only to be involved in the end game, but also kind of gives them a scope of land where they can third party, they can influence other flights, pick players off, to clear the zone for them to move it.
I'm more confused about them trying to do the FaZe logo at the moment. I'd be trying to create a Dark Zero
That's not
logo.
a FaZe, that's a thumbs up.
Yeah, but before.
In fact, that is a textbook thumbs up from Jim Burton. My goodness.
Yeah, as expected. I mean, everything this man does seems to be.
He's got 2 of them. Wow.
And those thumbs are very important. You need to keep them in good stead to make sure that you're going to be hitting those shots. But Dark Zero, are they going to fulfill maybe the expectations on this roster? There's always the comparison of Dark Zero versus TSM. TSM, the legacy.
Bro.
That's Zero.
Last time.
They comparing little fingers.
I don't know what they're comparing, Dan, but with that note and on that bombshell, we're going to jump to a quick break. When we get back, game number 3 is going to be live. Don't go too far.
R99 ఇంకేముంటది ఏముండదు కదా R99 ఉంటుంది మెసేజ్ ఉండదు R99 ఉంటుంది అదే ఉంది ఇప్పుడు అదే ఆన్సర్ వచ్చేది ఇంకేముంది
Welcome back to Birmingham, everyone. Welcome back to the beautiful main stage here at the APexlegends Global Series Championship, the biggest event of the year, the one we've all been waiting for. And speaking of waiting for things, Dan, the wait is almost over. Game number 3 looks like it's almost ready to go here. And this is going to be the last time we can see World's Edge.
Yeah, and for all these teams who have been finding a lot of success on World's Edge throughout scrims, your last chance in Group C and D to try and pick up those points before we move over to Storm Point. It's another reason why I love this format, the fact that we will have 3 maps on World's Edge and then 3 into Storm Point is you have to make it count when it's there and available because things very quickly change up going into match number 4.
Interesting to see how this game does approach as well, because I was talking about it's a green stream, Wing and Green can't actually hear that. I can confirm that. Can actually 100% confirm that. Wing and Green can't actually hear.
It'll be nice when they do turn up to an event.
If you think you see someone like him, it's not like him.
Yeah, one day they'll turn up and it'll be great to see Wig and Greek, but unfortunately not today and not here at the championships. But it is a good green screen.
By the way, I'm going to make an investment before the next land. I'm bringing fresh pairs of socks for everyone, because the amount of times I see socks on that main stage, and let me tell you, they ain't looking too pretty.
You can tell the difference between those who wash their own socks and those who have mothers at home or fathers at home that wash theirs as well.
Fanatic one కూడా మస్తు అంటారు
Someone was caught off guard. Oh, yes, care for the Nessie.
Oh,
love the Nessie.
వాళ్ళు 1v1 సింగిల్ గా ఆడినా అనుకో ఈజీ కొడతారు తెలుసా
Big F-Champ fan as well, understandably so, but that's how you should treat your Nessie, everyone.
1v1 ప్రతి ఒక్కరు కొడతారంట తెలుసా వాళ్ళ దాంట్లో అదే అంటే వాళ్ళకి తెలుస్తారంట పక్క
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Maybe I feel like I'm an influencer.
It's a very
now.
you thing
it is
to highlight.
I feel like I'm an influencer because now they're here and they're exclusive.
ఫస్ట్ మ్యాచ్ గెలుస్తారు
Maybe it's because people saw you were one. They were like,
that's
hey,
what I'm saying. I'm an
we make
influencer
money off that
nowadays.
thing. Well, good news, everybody. Enough of us talking. Game's loading in the background. It's almost time for us to get back on the World's Edge and almost time for us to see how World's Edge will finish up before we head over to
బుద్ధిగా డోజో ఫైవ్ చూపిస్తారు ఏదో అనవైతే చూపిస్తారు అయ్యా
thinking we need a game here then. We need some points on the board.
Well, they need something. I think these
వాళ్ళు మంచిగా ఆడతారు టీమ్ వాళ్ళు వేరే మంచి కొద్దిగా
not much to kind of
కొద్దిగా హైడ్ చేయడం కొద్దిగా
maybe 4 or 5 points here or there from a couple of fights and a couple of engagements. You can hurtle yourself up those leaderboards. Hello, mate. If you are able to get a big game.
All right, Gazer.
All right, buddy. How's it going?
Yeah, Monday ఆడిండు బ్రో
Quiet games for them, but I did mention they've been pretty rough.
ఆడిండు అలెన్స్ అనుకున్నా ఆడిండు
Dojo, a couple of good fights.
ఆడిండు బ్రో వాడు
Test 2-0 at the moment, so
బయట కాదు ఈడనే ఆడిండు లాన్లోనే ఆడిండు గుర్తుంది
It's time for us to see World's Edge for the last time between these two groups. See how it goes.
See if there's any drastic changes that we can notice in compositions as well as the players fill in which
Hometown
legends
కదా bro
they're going to
వానికి
be competing on. But I imagine this early in the tournament you are not going to see too many changes. It might be later on as you get into the elimination bracket, perhaps their teams might start to change things as they get into
అయితే ఇప్పుడు కూడా ఎఫెక్ట్ గా అసలు అయితే రేపు
something more familiar or try and go drastic changes to change the meta and maybe find that one legend that could be the difference maker.
Little bit of Bloodhound, quite a lot of views.
కూడా
Little bit of Newcastle, little bit of Crypto, but nothing too
ఫేస్ టీమ్
crazy
వాళ్ళు
in this
సీరియన్
one.
ఎందుకు
We're
పెట్టుకుంటారో నాకు
talking
అర్థమవుతలేదు
with that Newcastle
సీరియన్
composition
ఎందుకు
probably the
పెట్టుకుంటారో
standout.
అర్థమవుతలేదు నాకు ఫేస్ టీమ్
But the game is live and the dropship is flying straight
సీరియన్
over
ఎందుకు
World's
పెట్టుకుంటారో
Edge.
నాకు
It's going to be
అర్థమవుతలేదు
similar flight path to what we saw in game number 1 with Moist Esports able to hit the ground almost immediately at Overlook, moving from west to east.
Yeah, now we're going to see a similar circle again. That's going to be the biggest question I have. And is it going to be a matter of 3 for 3
వాడు
for
మా సార్తో
Dojo
స్నైప్ డౌన్ గాడు బ్లెండ్ డౌన్
Kick,
తోటి
which keeps on happening?
వానికే
It seems to
ఇచ్చేదండి
be constantly going much better for Dojo, who have been able to find guns, whereas a couple of times Kick have been caught with their pants down a little bit and haven't even had a weapon.
Well, it looks like Dojo want to get aggressive. When you 2-0 up, you usually feel pretty
Oh, dear.
confident.
స్టార్ట్
But now not so confident. They lose the first, and that's going to be now a 2v3 situation. Kick get the advantage.
So can Kick make this count
it
and
will
finally
take
get a little bit of
revival.
revenge here? Going into game number 3.
అరే
Maybe get
డిజైన్
something going,
దొరకలేదు
because if
బ్రో
they are
డిజైన్
able to
గా
win this
బాగా
engagement, this
కొడుతుండు
is going to be
అప్పటి
their first chance at actually getting some points on the board. And if you can find yourself into the top 5 after getting a win, hold on.
Hold up a minute.
What's going on here? Dark Zero having a little peek towards Lava Siphon, but doesn't look like they hear enough commotion to get engaged just yet.
They'll be back.
సౌండ్ గా
Gunshots.
అబ్బో దొంగ ఫోకల్ చూసినావా
Oh, there's some nice
Dunga
shots coming
markalo.
from
Listen,
Designful.
third
That wingman
party.
to make things a bit interesting. Designful got them all last time, can't do it this time.
Oh,
It's
Timmy.
all up to
Oh,
Timmy. Timmy puts him to sleep, but here come Dark Zero, you little what's-its.
You little rascals.
Ah,
The
the
Dark Zero
design guard
boys
must
are
want to
going
ring
to
under
come from down under and make sure they pick up any sort of pieces here, and that's going to be frustrating for Dojo because they've done so well to win that engagement in a 2 versus 3, but that's always the problem of being in a contest. Everyone knows you're contesting, everyone knows you're available for maybe getting that last little bit of damage, and both Dojo and Kick taken out of the game.
Say what you
Glenn
want about it,
Markalo.
in my opinion, that's very smart from Dark Zero. Free KP for them, easy to pick up, and now they can pick up all the loot as well from one of the highest tiered loot you're going to have in Lava Sight. From one of the best POIs with the best loot, you're going to be able to leave feeling extremely strong. The only problem is they now have to change their rotate. We're going to be heading right towards the northwest of the map. Always takes me a second there just to get the physical.
ఆస్ట్రేలియాలో అందరూ అంతే బ్రో
It's a struggle.
అన్ని దొంగ పనులు
We'll see a
చేస్తారు
little bit of countdown
ఆస్ట్రేలియాలో
and going maybe towards the back of trials.
వీళ్ళనే
It's
ఉంది
going to be a chance for
ఏ
some
మా
young
ఏ
Conga
గేమ్
team
లోనే
guys
అట్లనే
that have been
చేస్తారు
doing very well and making sure that they
Huh?
are rotating accordingly to the further
ఏ
circles.
గేమ్
Now
అయినా
this
ఇదే
is a
కాదు
circle right next to them over towards trials, and they were in 4th position.
ఏ
They
గేమ్
were
అయినా
able
అట్లా
to hold
చేస్తారు
down that
కొడుకులు
consistency, and now they might be able to pick up some big points here if they are able to survive. But KCP were having a little peek at them and maybe could try and get involved in a fight here.
Mike got a little armor check as well. You can see that all blue for Pioneers. There's only one purple alongside the 2 whites. So that's why Sir Del is going to get the castle wall down and think about hitting a few shots to just
కావద్దు
maybe double up on that armor check to see if there are a couple of whites that they will be able to play off, because that's the building that they want to maybe take off of them towards this end game. This is a difficult spot to hold for, I would say, the long game, just because you've got essentially no cover over your head. It's kind of just dipping and diving around the beams. NRG have a little poke here at Lava Fisher as well.
Well, I guess we're seeing KCP trying to set up, use the castle wall to give them that extra little bit of cover, and they'll try and reside there, but you're completely right. You can be vulnerable to a lot of damage coming from several different areas, so they'll have to play that one careful. But all these teams are going to be moving up through Lava Fisher, through Countdown to try and get to this northwestern side. So finally, all those teams who have been on the west, having to have the treacherous journey across World's Edge to the east, they get rewarded for their patience.
Staging did have a ring console as well, so that's why you're seeing NRG in this position early on. And you can tell how quickly they're rotated as well. Nathan having to hit the replicator to make sure that they can get a little bit of extra loot as well.
It was another reason why Dark Zero quickly pushed out of their drop spot and went towards Lava Siphon. They got the ring console at Lava, so not only did they get the extra KP, but they're also able to get ring console information so they can make their rotation. So a very, well, it's a very deliberate decision from Dark Zero. They maybe wouldn't have gone for it if they had had a ring console to work with at their drop, but they were forced into it a little bit, and they thought, you know what, we could get very much rewarded here.
I mean, Dark Zero are going to come out of this with some serious loot if nobody's rotated through Harvester as well. They're at Harvester at the moment, and obviously you have that high-tier loot pool down the bottom that they will be picking up on their way through. So they could be in a really dangerous spot for the rest of the lobby with the amount of loot that they're going to be able to pick up on their way through. Elsewhere, though, in the northern side of things, we mentioned FaZe. Bit quiet so far. They're working their way through Skyhook. Complexity doing the same, and it'll be interesting to see if Enter Force 36, who are kind of sandwiched between the two that we look at now, will be able to survive long enough and not get run over by one of those teams.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot of teams trying to get to that far northwest side by trials, but those who are arriving a little bit late might just have to take whatever they can in Skyhook or in Countdown, and you just hope then that there's a circle shift if you are one of the late arrivals. But we saw it happen in map number 1 and the difference it could make for those teams who had to go a little bit further on their journey, so it's still very much possible. We'll have to see after Zone 1 closes, those who might be able to get a little bit of ring console information on their way through.
FC Destroyer in a really good spot as well. We do see this zone sometimes pull back towards them, although it's more likely, you would say, to pull to the houses on the back side of this zone, where NRG are looking to maybe take a little bit of a fight now. Alliance coexisting with them, and this is exactly the place I was talking about. Sweet recognizing he believes this is where the end zone is going to be. You control this house, you almost guarantee yourself top 5.
These Arc Stars could be important for NRG, but Nathan's gone down. And now NRG is a 2, but they've done this before. Sweet and Gildersons, they may be able to get the res as well. Alliance, I don't think we'll be able to push up on this one just yet.
I think they're interested though, Alliance. They see that not coming in. They know that they can clear the building. The question is, can they find the bodies? Can they get the kills? All of a sudden, shots coming in from elsewhere. And Alliance might have made a little bit of a mess of this, but no, they hold strong. Alliance will take NRG down. It was a brave play from Alliance. It was a brave play from NRG to try and take this spot. But if you win that fight, a lot of the time, you will be the team we're talking about in that end game.
I feel in that building with the amount of smokes that had gone down. I think it was just the griefing that happened from a distance, which was a real struggle for NRG. As they tried to make that push, you saw the charge rifle in the kill feed, and they were really damaged in that initial fight. But on this western side, everyone has started to make their way over now. There are a few later rivals, Gambariotis being one of the later. There's still teams even further back from them. So as Geo arrived to this southeast side, they could hold landslide and maybe pick up some teams that are arriving even later.
Dark Zero also taking their time, I think, to craft over at staging, so they're going to be about, if they don't come in with ready evos and like everything gold, I'd be surprised.
Well, Dark Zero should have that. I mean, they were able to get a little bit of damage from what they picked up. And also they've just had so much time down through Harvester and staging that they're going to have all the goodies in the world that they could want. And there's the map overhead for you. You can see how many teams have made their way onto this western side. A few teams having to just relocate a little bit outside of Lava Fisher and going towards Countdown, but now they're going to see with any ring console information they'll have to move a little bit further west. There's another reason why Dark Zero were waiting down at staging, because now they have that ring console information they were able to gather. This has been a very well-played game from Dark Zero so far. Didn't have the ring console on drop, so they go and push the teams that are contesting. They take the ring console information. They see they've got quite a journey to go. They then loot Harvester, then they loot staging, and then they're rewarded with another ring console to now get even more info.
info is not going to be a problem for them. It's execution at this point with so many teams already
no,
inside of Lava
market,
Fissure. Alliance, one of those teams at the moment, and holding down what we believe to be potentially where this end game is going to be taking place. Good damage we saw a moment ago from Mandy with that Hemlock. Not enough to get that knock and maybe make things a little bit frisky. Jim Burton and Dark Zero, though, they're making their approach now from that low ground. And in front of them is going to be Gambare or Tosan, who are holding down this building.
So Dark Zero just need to be careful that they are not having anyone behind them. I think that they waited and they probably, during their rotation, had a little check to the southern side, and they should know that they are going to be mostly safe. It's only Iron Blood Gaming who could potentially throw a spanner in the works if they ever make their rotation on that southern side.
Dark Zero,
they've got time to work with here. It's not like they need to force themselves in straight away, but if the gap opens, Dark Zero will take it. The risk would be taking the zip line to try and get underneath teams. You're very vulnerable then, and I don't think they will go for that anytime soon, but it might be a last-minute decision, as I say, that I see on the minimap. Dark Zero have made that decision, and Dark Zero will now find themselves at the bottom of Lava Fissure.
And the Force 36 here, stuck inside of Trials at the moment, and it's FaZe who are kind of holding them out. Both teams kind of in a little bit of a sticky situation because they're both going to have to leave at some point. And looking at the kill feed, you can see that F-Chan has just taken down Jim Burton. So it was a risky play that we saw, and now you can see on our map overhead exactly what we're talking about. Dark Zero down to 2, but they do get that res, so they will... Oh, another player has one down in the meantime, and it's Jim Burton this time. Should be comfortable, though, once again, to get this res off.
So I thought it would be risky. The zip line is always going to be a tough one because it gives such an audio cue to all those teams that are above you. But they now managed to find themselves in one of these donuts, and they've... Even though they're being targeted at the moment, there's a lot of eyes on them. If they can just reset, if they can hold here, then at least they're going to be comfortable for quite some time and should be able to watch a lot of the lobby get wiped out before they arrive to this circle.
Yeah, if you think about inventory as well, we saw them crafting on their way over numerous times, and they should have a lot to work with. And look at that, Zainu, 14 cells. He's got 4 bats, or did have 4 bats as well. Which means they can kind of take a little bit more damage. They can take a more risky spot to play, where they're going to have multiple angles available. They might be getting chipped at by different teams, but they're going to be able to heal through it. So Dark Zero playing the long game here. As we take a look at that backpack that you can see on Zainu, 13 cells still, 3 bats, Arcstar, and lots of other things like the Ultic cell we're seeing popped as well. So Alliance we mentioned as well in that house that we were expecting to be the end game, where they're going to be safe for the next zone as well, as Pulverex have a little peek.
So the fights we're expecting in the next circle, FaZe and Tom Young Kung are going to be up towards Trials, Complexity and Enterforce 36 up towards Skyhook. That should be 2 fights that happen, and actually the winners of each fight may end up scrapping against each other with Onyx getting involved as Pulverex. They're under a little bit of distress.
Pulverex taking damage. And you can also see in the kill feed as well.
Dark
Zero having a fight, and oh my goodness, excuse me. It's going to be Dark Zero eliminated here. We talked about how it was a risk to try and take that position early. Well, it hasn't worked out for them this time. FC Destroy looking for a third-party opportunity here. Can't quite get the angles.
That's going to be a frustrating one for Dark Zero, and they're probably asking, well, how was Geo not punished? But no one else wanted to get involved in that fight. As soon as you hear commotion happening in those areas, sometimes that's your best chance to try and find a new position or walk up ever so slightly to your next rock that you can hide behind. As Complexity are going to be making their move, and this is going to be a rough landing potentially, because there are a few teams at countdown, J-Lings being one of them.
Oh, you got to hope that they haven't got something that can clear you out from this low ground as well, because Monsoon and Luna both got to pop bats, and you can just see the shots flying in, and Cody's trying to do what he can, but look at the frag grenades, they're all there.
Dark Zero helmet
for us to fly, and Complexity, as they fly, Complexity will fall.
Easy as that, 15 squads now remaining, and J-Lings, that was a gift from the heavens. 3 extra KP, which puts J-Lings still securely in 3rd position. And of course, with Dark Zero falling, there is some real points to be gathered by those left in the lobby. And J-Lings maybe with an opportunity to top the group at the moment going into Storm Point. And they'll be happy at countdown for now. They don't have that ring console information, so they don't know they're going to have to move a little bit further west. And J-Lings might be able to get another gift here, as Enterforce 36 could be the next team to just feed them a few kills here.
Question is, do they have the grenades available to flush them out of this position? Having just used them all on Complexity, Enterforce 36 should be safe enough for now. Interestingly, kind of mirroring what we just saw from Complexity. And Complexity take the brunt of the utility, and it looks like Enterforce 36 are going to be able to survive because of it.
You almost slipped there. You almost did a me.
I held on.
E36, I think, is the safe option, but when it's there on the screen, you just want to read it as enter
What
force.
it is not 20 teams
We should be better, and my tongue and mouth should work more than they do at times. But we will see that FaZe were able to win their engagement up towards Trials. E36 won theirs, and that's why they're now just underneath J-Lings. But Onyx Esports are still in the vicinity and could certainly prove to be a real hindrance to those squads who are arriving a little bit late. But all of them are still going to have to move further southwest. But we have 5 teams in the next circle already, but everyone else, it's not so easy for them.
Actually taking a little bit of damage here. You can see he's trying to do a bit of scan, trying to see if he can find some angles and maybe plan out what that next play is going to be. J-Ling's still in countdown. They've got a long way to go. You can see they're on the far side of the zone. That's going to close really, really quickly behind them. Over at countdown. As Noises sends out the drone, if he can hit an EMP, that's going to be the signal to push and try and take advantage of the high ground of the damage that was done. JMW with the Arc Star as well. Can he get the damage? Can he clean things up? Are they able to get these KP?
This is a tough one for J-Lings. They need to force it soon, because otherwise they're just going to be caught in a position where they're rotating. But now with one going down, J-Lings can continue to push up on this. But Onyx Esports might get involved. You've got to be fast.
Next does get that kill as well.
Dark Zero in there.
J-Lings do get the one and the finish. Question is, are
Dark
they
Zero
able
in there.
to move quick enough to get into a good position? Well, having Valkyrie in your comp is something that maybe underutilized at the moment. She can still take to the sky, she can still get you into a spot, and with 15 squads remaining, now it's about threading the needle and finding somewhere to call home.
Well, this is just hoping for the best here. This is a Hail Mary play from J-Lings, and it looks like they've just about found a home, but it is a home that is already occupied, so they might have to take a fight. FaZe have lost one, but might be able to get Phonyhead back on his feet. They're trying to do similar to what we saw Dark Zero do earlier and survive down low and hope to go unnoticed.
The one good thing here for them is they do have those smokes. Elsewhere, you can see Geo just been eliminated by Alliance who control all of the space in and around that house we were talking about, the Hill House, the Golden House. For them in this game, and for anybody who can control it. And having controlled that house and now having the high ground, they've got so many lines of sight. As Hackett steps out and starts to shred away his shields.
J-Lings down, E36 down as well, and Alliance certainly hold the best position in the game right now. They just need to be bullies, keep people away from their home. Make sure they say no to anyone ringing that doorbell. Northeption are trying to push from the north. Singularity also taking a lot of damage, but Elysium doing well to go on his own.
He's back!
But unfortunately, another team arrives, and it's Tom Youngkung. They come on in to swoop up,
Pick
pick up the
up the
pieces, and get their extra KP.
Pulverex trying to stay alive. One has gone down, and that is going to indicate that it's time to push for the team below them. F-Chan trying to survive. Can he get the bat off? No, he can't. And Saku now left on his own, but you get the feeling this will be the end of Pulverex's game. It is indeed. And just like that, we're down to 7 with FC Destroy coming out on top in this building.
I bet you a Nessie plushie that Alliance win this game. Take it or leave it.
Ah, go on then, I'll take the bet, I'll take the bet.
He's done a handshake and everything. I mean, Alliance are in a very commanding position in the moment, but sometimes when you hold this spot, you can feel a little bit too safe, and it can very much change when two teams arrive at the same time. As I mentioned, they just need to create as much space. Don't allow Moist to try and progress over towards this west side. Keep an eye on the northern side so Northeption don't come down and ruin you on the tracks. You just have to make sure you are outputting enough damage to keep people scared. But Alliance are the only team in this circle, whereas we need to now see 5 others, make it 6 others, all try and progress across to the western side together.
Blood Gaming playing on the outside of Moist Esports right now. They're the team who are inside of this building. The Prowler, though, that could be a difference maker. When you fly in and you do damage like that, surely you're going to push off the back of it. And that is exactly what they're going to do. They get that first knock, but it's exchanged. The damage, though, surely was done.
Tom Youngkung, Moist, and Blood Gaming all fighting each other, but they're all likely going to die as soon as they exit the building because there's going to be so many eyes on them, and the ring's going to do so much damage. Alliance are still watching from above. FaZe are now making their way on this eastern side, as are FC Destroy, but Blood Gaming are just running and gunning right now.
Ziki, my goodness, that spray was a beautiful thing. Wasn't enough to keep them alive, though. Moist Esports eliminated, Blood eliminated as well. Tom Youngkung once again inside that top 5 or so. FaZe still alive as well down in this low ground. The only problem here for FaZe, no horizon in the comp to get back up high.
Can get back up high. Alliance still trying to hold this house building at the moment. FC Destroyer on the northern side, but Northeption have been able to work their way around all the way on the west, and they've got a little bit of ground to work with here as well. Alliance just have to be careful that the Northeption don't catch them off guard, because Alliance still hold one of the best positions in the game, but this circle is going to end dead center on those tracks.
And if you're not sure, hit the ring console next to you. That would be the biggest Giga Chad play ever from Alliance. Pretty sure they know where this one's going to be ending, though, as Yuki goes up onto the height. FC Destroy on the low ground, though, Dan, still holding this building.
If FaZe were able to get up, FaZe could really influence this fight, but FC Destroy now can at least blockade themselves in. Again, it's a composition that will really work out in this endgame. Newcastle and Watson to annoy Alliance, and all the meanwhile, Northeption now probably find themselves in the best position of the game because they have the high ground over these tracks, and they also have a little bit of coverage with these rocks.
Yeah,
Don't fight there, don't fight there, we don't have...
Maybe for a fight to go down. And it's interesting to see that Alliance, I'll tell you what, my plushie is looking good. It's looking pretty good right now. Because if Alliance can't hold this high ground, while everyone moves up, and they take damage from multiple angles, which they are susceptible to, then this could be a bit more difficult. Snipe down on his own. FaZe survive, but Snipe down as a solo is going to have to do something magical here for FaZe.
FC Destroy did leave.
Snipe
They got
down
away, so Alliance will
bro.
still hold this side, and Snipe down is going to at least try and rat his way maybe into a top 3 and could be a hindrance. And Northeption and FC Destroy at the moment are fighting one another, and Alliance will take the southern side.
They will, and Snipe down just looked inside that building and was like, oh, no one's here. Well, Northeption make their move now. FC Destroy wiped. They should be able to get the shield swaps pretty comfortably as well. We'll be pretty safe at this point. Hack is trying to take center zone as well, but Hack is going to have to watch his back here because there was a player behind him. Mandy does get the kill though.
Alliance got involved in this fight very early indeed, but they are still alive. As I say, that Yuki goes down. It's Alliance versus FaZe, but it's just one last player remaining. It's a 2 versus 1. It's easily cleaned up. The plushie is mine, and Alliance will take the game and show that they can still get it done, even with the new player coming in and a substitute playing for them. But it's the same old boys. Mandy once again rescuing this team when they needed him most.
A big win for Alliance as well.
Well
They
said,
close
huh?
out World's Edge with that W. FaZe getting towards that
Any
end game
good
as well.
action?
I'm pretty sure the Snipe down managed to rat into a 2nd place there as well, which is incredibly impressive from the rotate that they had to make. But, I mean, Alliance stepping up when it matters. And I'm kind of heartbroken that I lost to you. But do you know what? I'm a man of honor. I'll buy you one.
To be fair, the odds were very firmly
Those
stacked
are
against you,
correct.
and Alliance were the only team in the circle with 8 remaining.
True.
It was looking good for them until FC Destroy then took their building and were residing in their building. It was when FC Destroy decided to leave and take that northern side that it really opened up the game for Alliance. Their only real threat was the last remainders of FaZe. But what Alliance did well is they took the southern side, but they left one player to just challenge Snipe down and say, we're not going to allow you to just surprise us. We're going to keep tabs on you. As soon as they saw all that damage then happening on the north, Alliance flew. They made sure there was no reset that was going to happen for whoever won on the northern side. So the Northeption didn't get the chance to reset properly. Alliance got the shutdown, and then it was a matter of finding that one remaining rack to clean up the game.
I think Alliance did a great job as well in kind of the mid-game, I would say, just controlling so much space around them. We saw nobody was really able to coexist. It was one team who tried to make the play to coexist with them, but they immediately wiped them. It was NRG, I believe, who tried to take their building. They knew the value of that building, but Alliance didn't let it happen. They got that first knock and then immediately decided it was time to push to clean them out. And from there, they controlled the space so well down that it was difficult to see Alliance losing it.
Group
so
stage
much
Alliance.
so that I was even happy to take a bet because I thought it would be fun.
Well, I'm looking forward to my plushie. I'll make sure it's not a gold one because I've got one of those and I want a different color one. I don't care what color it is. You can paint it if you'd like to. But I'm very impressed with how Alliance played that one. Also, I'll give props to Northeption because they were able to get into that end game. It looked like they were maybe going to struggle. They slowly were able to sneak around on that western side, and they took quite a commanding position. And had not FC Destroy changed their position late on, Northeption could have maybe had a win.
Yeah, interesting as well that Alliance, a team we talked about, who hadn't put too many points on the board, and up until that, of course, only 3 games in for them, but getting a win in that game.
Don't go. Another team is there.
After landing over at Thermal was pretty impressive for them. So congratulations to Alliance. Very excited to see them progress through the tournament. And of course, that's going to do it for World's Edge, Dan. It's Storm Point time now, just as things get comfortable up here.
Yeah, Storm Point going to be next, and there's going to be a few teams that will be very happy about that. I mean, throughout Split 2 playoffs and throughout online seasons in general, we've seen big differences in squads. A couple of teams that maybe a bit frustrated they didn't pick up more points. Dark Zero probably could have dominated a little bit more, but they were still solid, and they're still up there in the top 5.
And one thing that I love, Dan, is
right?
I know this might seem like a tenuous link, but it is. And one thing that we love, of course, is the chairs that our players get to sit on, right? And it's a wonderful thing. And the Herman Miller people, the wonderful people that provide these chairs, well, look at them, they're beautiful. The Herman Miller gaming embodied chairs are being used today at this event, Dan. Would you believe it?
I believe it.
Check out the new colorways on the Embodied Gaming online. The new colors have a white base with Galaxy and Amethyst upholstery. Be sure to check out custom Herman Miller Gaming heirloom embodied chairs created for this year's ALGS Champs winning team. If you're wondering what that looks like, by the way, there's one out by the entrance, and it is a thing of beauty.
Wow, yeah, it certainly keeps your buttocks nice and joyful throughout any games that you may be playing, but I'm hoping you'll be playing a lot of Apex Legends when you were able to get one, if maybe we ever get one.
You
never know. Anyway, that's going to do it all for World's Edge and from ourselves, from the Casters booth. We're going to throw it back to the desk now to let us know what we just saw.
All right, I don't know about you guys, but I was waiting for another desk jump out of Mandy after that. I mean, phenomenal bringing it back out of Alliance for that final game, Vicky.
Yeah, they went from, what, 19th, and they skyrocketed with like 9 KP at the very end of that game on
Mirage,
top
can
of
you
the
help me?
dub, and I believe now they're sitting in the top 5, top 6. Really highlights how volatile as well our overall standings are after 3 games alone. Very nice to see the difference in comparison to our last 2 groups that we saw play.
And also, Gina, we were talking about this while we were just watching that last game. Huge, huge performance out of Tom Young-Kung.
Yeah, a really good solid effort from those guys as well. Apex South really seem to be showing up so far this tournament, don't they? It's been a very good start from them, known for fragging out, and certainly we've seen them pick up a lot of kills as part of their way to the top of those leaderboards.
Now, for those first 3 games, Bill, what moments really stood out for you?
Look, I mean, right there at that end game, I mean, the way Alliance played that map, that was beautiful. You know, they had hackers playing the pipe. They made sure no teams landed behind them. That was just really nice.
All right, well, you mentioned it, so let's talk about it. That final circle, we're going to take a look back at it, break it down a little bit for us here, Bullet. I know you started, but there's some intricacies we got to talk about.
For sure, for sure. No, so they just played they played their time. You know, they had the height. They just were sitting there. They were
Come on, only one guy.
Pressure. Made sure nobody else, you know, decided to make an aggressive play against
Bro,
them.
why are you going
that was,
from
like,
inside?
really, really nice. And then you'll see, like, towards the end, they managed to wrap the catwall against the train team, and then they just cleaned everyone up. That was so nice.
Moments that jumped out for you, Vicky.
Well, they also had to traverse through that west side of the map. We know that Alliance landing all the way by Thermal and then traveling to the north side allowed them to get on top of this high ground as well. And then going from around the catwalk here, in addition to the smoke, when you're rocking the Digi, they're able to clean up the opposition that was on the other side of this catwall. Then with the black hole, they're controlling so much space without even the catwall that they were utilizing for themselves.
And it's not just you've got to get around
What I punch you flat line,
really important because you've got to like
combo
gravity lift there, right? That's one way you can get over those catwalls. But if you can save that and just walk around it really does give you those extra options because it's a very important piece of utility going into those last fights.
It is really speaking to Alliance's ability to, in such a short time frame, adapt to having to use that stuff. Still coming out on top, 9 kills plus the win to close out match number 3. The first half of our series here today. But still some other impressive numbers up here. I mean, FC Destroy 7 kills. We've seen a really phenomenal performance out of, like Gino was saying, so many Apex
Yeah, so I mean, the way FaZe managed to rat their way in, that was so beautiful. Like, you know, playing on the low ground, unable to get up. You know, Snipe managed to get up and he just played it so well with bank smoke.
There's always just like a single tear rolling down your eyes as you're still alive and you're watching your 2 teammates and you're like, I can't help you, I can't res you down there. The right play is to just stay alive and
And you can see just how points top heavy that first page was. A little bit of a sponge going on for those teams there at the top as we take a look at the second page here, Vicky. For surprises for you at the bottom.
Well, we saw what happened at the beginning, all right? It's the elephant in the room. Well, not for me, because I was very sad while Gino was cheering in the talent room. What happened to Dojo after they won another contest between Kick and then Dark Zero saying, hold up real quick, this is some KP that we can clean up. So easy for our last game on World's Edge. So seeing Dojo all the way at 19th, what could have been is the story that we can't see anymore from them.
And it is something that you sometimes see just on the 3rd game of a map, right? Because you do a game 1, game 2, they're expecting it. The next time you come in with one of those unexpected plays on game 3 and it's like, well, see you later, we're on store point now.
Either way, this is where the series stands. Like I said, Tom Yum Kung in first place, 1 point above NRG. Bullet, any other squad jumping out at you, or just how close the series is right now?
Honestly, Jailings. Jailings have been playing so well. Like, they've been doing so much damage. They've just been, like, going crazy. It's so nice to see. And the best part is, like, they're playing a bit of an off-meta comp, you know? They're playing crypto. They're playing Watson. They're playing Valk to capitalize off crypto scans. Like, you know, they're one of the only teams that are playing that comp, and look at how well they're doing. They're doing such a good job right now.
Well, we're going to have to see what happens now that we have switched maps, or will be switching maps, on over to Stormpoint, see what happens with our squads, where they're able to end up. But we're talking about Alliance a little bit, and nothing is confirmed yet, but if you have seen social media, there may or may not have been a tweet that has gone out. This is probably as good as time as any to talk about it, because I don't know if you guys saw, but Effect has his visa. That's what he has said on. It's not confirmed, but we might be seeing Effect here at Champs, Vicky.
That is so exciting. I mean, now you can see the tweet pulled up on your screen. Shout out to Effect, everybody. Here he comes to Birmingham. We got to see how this plays out too for Alliance. Also, you know, this is group stages. This is the perfect time. If you got your visa now, this is the perfect time to scoop in and take advantage of the rest of the week here.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly thought there was a little bit of an asterisk on this tournament without Effect here, because he was, in my eyes, the single best player in the last tournament, at least, at the very least, as a fragger. He was just that phenomenal. Looking at those stats, he was so far ahead of the pack, even amongst, you know, the elite controller players in this competition. So, look, I honestly never doubted that Alliance would be able to get it into the finals, even without him. Obviously, we just saw, you know, winning games with Mandy, like, you know, doing it for MNK, let's go. But as long as Effect turns up by that final day, I think us, the crowd, and Alliance, everybody here is going to be happy to see that.
I mean, and talk about a great situation to come into. Mandy putting in work, making sure the squad is where they need to be by the time Effect shows up. Bullet, I mean, that's got to feel great for a team. Obviously, you can speak to that experience as a pro.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's so nice to see, you know, especially like with Mandy stepping in as a sub, you know, like that's tough. It's not easy to just jump in like that and, you know, perform well. So hats off to Mandy, you know, he stepped in last minute, and yeah, they're pulling it together.
It's crazy that he's a content creator. I mean, obviously he's been a pro in the past, right? But, you know, to be out of the, you know, the pro scene for a little bit and still be
content he's come in with like, what, 1-2 weeks of scrims, and look at him go, like he's going crazy. So yeah, love to see it.
All right, well, we're talking about social media. That means we have to tell all of you to make sure that you're following along with all of our action at Play Apex Esports, because you don't want to miss a single second of what we've got going on here at the ALGS Championship. We have 5 days of competition. Make sure that is where you are. All right, now, we're talking, you didn't, Dia did, okay? We talked about it before we got into the series. We saw a decent performance out of Team Singularity. Well, I actually got a chance to sit down with Elysium before this competition and talk to him about what it's been like to come back into the fray and how he feels about the squad. Today we have a man who spent 2 years playing with Team Singularity, a team that dominated their region. His career was put on pause as he stepped aside for personal reasons after Week 5 of the South American Split 2 Pro League. Well, now, Singularity are back. And he's back. Welcome back, Elysium. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, first I retired because I'm on university studying chemical engineering.
Chemical engineering is wildly impressive, so that's very cool. I did not know that.
So I didn't have so much time to practice with the boys, so we talked before I retired. And we talked with Dean first, if he want to join the team, so I step back at that time.
How hard was it for you to step away after you had initially worked so hard to make a name for yourself?
I always have the idea to finish my career. It was more difficult to them because playing with another guy after 2 years almost, it's very difficult to raise the level again.
And I love this push from Elysium, the best controller player in South America with the RE45! Oh my God, Elysium, you are a monster!
What was it like when you had to watch them not be able to make those Split 2 playoffs?
playing with Bean. He's another fragger, but he has another way to play. It's not something you can like build in 1 month, I think.
True. Obviously, Team Singularity were the only team who made it to finals during the Split 1 playoffs. You guys got 11th with that original roster. So how important a moment was it for you as a team making it there, and then what did it teach you about competing on a global stage?
I think the most important is that we can do it first. We can make finals, we can fight with other teams face-to-face.
Well, here we go, 101 with a Pacekeeper, and Elysium ain't missing with this thing. That'll be the knot they're looking for now. It's a simple job of cleaning up the 3v1.
Championship USA there. Like, we were playing so well in groups. We got 4th, I think, on groups, and then we get eliminated on losers. So it was pretty annoying for us because 2 days we were on the highest level, and then we fell off.
So what can we expect from Team Singularity, and what do your teammates bring to the squad?
Now we have Beskar as our coach. We changed him, and I think we are pretty confident because we train a lot. It's going pretty well, so we are gonna be here fighting for the trophy.
Do you think that you guys can go farther in this competition than you did last time?
Yeah, I think so. I think that we are pretty confident, and like we have the experience to be in the finals now, so we are gonna make it again.
Always fantastic to be able to chat with any of our players, but that was a really, really fun interview for me to do with Elysium. Obviously, we're only halfway through the series right now, so Team Singularity have an opportunity to do well in the next 3 maps. Stormpoint, a map that they typically get a little bit more points on, so we'll have to see how they fare in the next match, because it is ready to go right around the corner. Tiff and Dia, take this one away.
Thank you so much, Glitter, and it's always good to hear from Elysium, especially on the main stage. I was talking to Besk prior to the champs, like just a few days ago, and he was talking about the situation in South America and how dire it is right now for them to perform at champs at the highest level and fly out.
It really is, and what really strikes me about the story of Singularity with the return of Elysium is the story of self-sacrifice that the roster has gone through. Elysium stepping back earlier than he needed to make space for the roster to adjust to Bin, to make sure that they were ready to play at the top level as soon as possible. And now Besk stepping back into the coach role to allow Elysium to come back and help develop Bin as a player. In fact, Elysium didn't even return to the same role as he was playing before, where he was their fragger. He's now jumped into the position of being the team's support, and it is fantastic for them. I like seeing that at least the vibes are high as we prepare to get into this game, because as Glitter said, Stormpoint should, in theory, be a better map for them.
Hey, and that's right, we are moving on over to Stormpoint for the final half of the series, but match 1 winner, NRG, with that 32-point game. Such a massive performance by Guild. I was talking to Natty after that. She's like, bro, I am shaking. That was such a strong performance, and seeing it cut to her immediately after was the cutest thing. J-Lings Esports coming through on match number 2. You know, as soon as we walked up to the stage, Alex was like, did you see game 2? Did you see it? And I was like, of course, I mean, obviously, we saw it, of course. Everyone here did. Who did it? And then Alliance to come off that news effect, potentially going to be here soon and getting a win. That's got to feel good, Dia.
It really does, and even before the competition, Mandy was talking about how he is going into this expecting that he's here temporarily. It's about making space for effect, no matter when that happens, whether it be during championships or not. So now that we have the idea that it could be a little bit earlier than not, I'm sure that Mandy is just as happy, because you still get to play on the big stage. You still get to play with a squad that you've put a lot of time into becoming the best with. Alongside that, J-Lings, it was Bullet that talked about it on the desk, but super importantly, being able to take a more active role in the game this time around, even with a composition that is typically more passive, is a fascinating way for them to have adjusted off of Split 2 playoffs.
Well, their macro is absolutely incredible. Their zone calling is, it's just crazy to see. They're already making their way there, but when we move to Stormpoint, they're landing in High Point, and we talk about that POI as a whole. That is a very tough rotation if any of those zones start to pull south. But before we even start thinking about rotations, rotations, it's the contests that we have to worry about once again. Dojo not only contested on World's Edge, but they will be contested on Stormpoint. And honestly, I was keeping an eye on player chat, and that kind of hurt me a little bit. I saw Zero throwing some shots. He was like, "Don't worry, Kick, we took out Dojo for you." And I was like, oh boy, here we go.
If there is one player who is always ready to talk a little bit of trash in the lobby, it is Zero. So as to be expected, and I don't think that that'll stop, especially now that they are dropping over at Mill. Dark Zero's been doing this forever, but given the recent changes to loot, Mill has in a way only gotten more powerful, which is a really interesting power imbalance to factor into their return to Stormpoint.
That is kind of crazy, you're right, but that Pulverex versus North Eption contest that I have witnessed time and time again over there in Thunderwatch, it has been an absolute brawl out. I've seen Pulverex take the win a handful of times, North Eption a handful of times, but it's just crazy because the North Eption roster that we're witnessing today isn't even the same that we saw in Split 2 playoffs. They were forced to make a lot of last-minute changes. You've got Ling joining in, you've got Leica from Naked, and now it's almost like a completely different North Eption roster.
We're asking ourselves the question, if you slowly replace each piece of the ship, is it the same ship? And that's a question that's going to be answered stylistically. North Eption really had a distinct way of playing the game when we got to Split 2 playoffs, different than any other team, different than any other team from APAC North. So, as we jump into it, we'll get to see how that play style ends up cementing itself during the course of these games. But keeping my eye on the Legend Select now, Pioneers electing to go for the Newcastle. We also saw Seer picked up by FaZe, one of the only Seers to be played today in its entirety.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy, right? Sir Dell used to play a lot of Watts, and now coming in has been adapting to that Newcastle, and it's been really nice for them because they like to rotate super quick, anchor down in a building, and throwing down the Newcastle wall is essentially kind of what they're doing to lock and load. But this is it, guys. Match number 4, our first one on Stormpoint for the second series. And okay, you know what? Happy birthday, Raki. I saw the sides. I saw it on Apex Wikipedia. We know. I think you're what, like 21? Now you got a party.
Let's hope there's cause for celebration as we jump onto the map, because we did say that C versus D, a little bit higher variance than our first stage matchup of A versus B. Now getting into Stormpoint, that is even more of a high variance map. There's the chance for anybody to come out on top. Every point matters when you start thinking about the eventual end of group stage, as strange as it may be to think of that now since we are so close to the beginning.
That's very true, and as we get locked and loaded in the dropship, you can see the trails as our teams are making their way to their POI lines, so they're going to have one of the last stops on that dropship, and you know how long it could take to lightning rod, but let's check in with Kick, who have made their way over to Cascade Falls as opposed to landing on the Dojo.
Now this is going to come with Crafter, so whoever comes out of this engagement on top is going to benefit really nicely, being able to grab a few more resources before eventually relocating out of Cascade. Kick are playing it pretty slow right now. I'm a little bit concerned for them, of course, as they jump down onto the low ground, but this is the contest we were talking about earlier, versus North Eption.
It's 1-4 He has taken to the roof, trying to make this happen. He literally
don't go alone.
On this side of Thunderwatch and will loot up on weapons, whereas Ling and Leica will typically land on the other side. But you can see that the engagement has made its way over here. They're sticking together, which is smart. You don't want anyone getting caught off guard.
This is such a we are better than you composition as well. When you pick not just Bloodhound, you don't need Bangalore apparently. We're going Horizon on top of it. It is simply a composition that is meant to frag and use your own tools against you, which is something that North Eption have done really well with the Horizon now, to get a little bit of verticality that's super important when fighting over this specific POI.
And it's so crazy to see them fighting over this area, but getting the high ground and forcing Pulverex into an unfavorable position. Even if Leica can connect a couple of those shots to force them to utilize any of the shield cells, you only get 2 off rip, and if you haven't found any, shoot me right now, trying to kind of hold down the push, using the piercing spikes to avoid that from happening, and F-Chan able to kind of hold with the PK, but only has 5 bullets, but this now is a 2v2 situation, and we're gonna connect here.
Oh my god. Peacekeeper shots, they get me excited, especially when you're hitting for 90. I'm hitting for 9s more often than not, but it looks like it's working on Pulverex's favor. Getting a quick thirst, a shield swap, and now perhaps the end of North Eption is just like up here, but Pulverex gets surgically taken down by that wingman. It is an instrument of precision.
You couldn't even get out with the, this could be the end of North Ebb when Leica just goes pop, pop, pop. I'm not even, you know, Vicky makes better weapon sounds than I do. That's
you know,
we'll leave it to her.
She's done her whole education in that.
That's
it's
true.
difficult.
She does have a minor in it.
Yeah, I'm taking summer courses right now to try and make that up, but you know what? Trying to make up a little bit of lost time. It seems like NRG are jumping into Cascade, taking out Onic on their way in. We've still got a few squads left around here as Kick recently relocated out, but ever more so, we've got squads that are crowding into the center of the map as this zone is starting to drag everyone together.
We'll talk about why NRG has actually already rotated through Cascade Falls. They land in checkpoint, they had the ring console available, and as soon as they grabbed that information, they made their rotation straight out to it. The fact that Kick has made it out alive and hasn't run the gauntlet into their path, pretty good for them so far.
Yeah, at this point, NRG would like to get a few more Evos under their belt, but it's about picking the best priority spot that you've got in Cascade. This, I want to say, high ground building that they've got at the moment is a little bit inflexible. However, it is very close to some of our end game finishes, so they're gambling a little bit because it's a difficult place to extricate yourself from in the mid to late game. However, by holding on, you're saying, well, if the zone does pull over here, we're likely to get at least top 3 without really having to put forth any effort.
Oh, but a big one, right? We've got Dark Zero. You have J-Lings that have made their way into that building, already starting to anchor down with the Watson fences. So keep an eye. They usually have really good, accurate calls, but Zero is just looking for a way to take this building, and fighting for the priority spots early on can prove to be such a fruitful thing. And I mean, honestly though, Zero just trying to find the cheekiest angle.
These windows just super difficult to play against, especially when you are trying to hold the inside of these small skeelers. However, as you say, Jen, one of the few Watsons in the lobby, you are a whole lot safer. Zero's still struggling to find a way in. Finally gets a break on the fence, but there's still no opening damage. Catalyst Wall comes up to give Dark Zero the opportunity to push in a little bit further, but this is being masterfully controlled right now by J-Lings.
Zero's acting like the big bad wolf trying to infiltrate. You can see J-Lings is forced to relocate. Nag's going to fall. Zero finds noises as well, and J-Lings just gets annihilated. Textbook work. Jen even waves to the camera. What is this?
It's just a little bit too passive from J-Lings, if I'm honest. They're going back to how they felt in Split 2 playoffs, hesitant to get involved, and this time to their detriment. NRG still holding on the high ground, have actually taken ultimate height within Cascade, their weakness being the high ground even further above as people come out from Command Center.
Monsoon on Complexity over here. They made their rotation out of Cenote Cave. They're uncontested here in this group matchup, so they had a nice carefree experience to really focus on just looting up and prioritizing that rotation. They've made their way into kind of the center of that next zone, but as teams look for good spots inside of Cascade, I'd imagine a lot of teams are focusing on poke damage, but NRG, they're actually going to elect to take the high ground.
Interesting. This is a eternal struggle, honestly. As you go further up onto the high ground, this is one of those things where somebody always has higher high ground than you. So NRG do expose themselves to a little bit more risk since they have a lot less cover to work with. But with a nice smoke on the high ground, they can buy themselves some temporary safety, even going on an aggressive push out towards Command Center.
We do have the Bang ult to work with should anything come through, but they were able to find another elimination onto Zane, which is good for them, right? They were sitting at 32 points, but those 32 points came only from map number 1. They had a 0 in maps 2 and 3, so starting to get back up there is what they needed to do on Storm Point, because most of your teams, they were talking about on the desk earlier, the point sponging that has happened so far in this series, anything can happen as we move into the second half. You just have to get a good game under your belt.
And it all happens so quickly, just beneath NRG. FaZe has quickly slotted themselves into Cascade, a place where more teams are deeming as a more flexible position to go into the late game. Zone is again going to be shifting around a little bit, but less squads have data as we approach the center of the zone, with a lot of our beacon scans being now in the red. It'll be teams that are rotating late, say like Ironblood Gaming from the south, who've just hit up Barometer for a little bit of information, that will have a small advantage as they finally approach the endgame area.
So that's really tough, right? We talk about teams that aren't getting that information throughout the mid-game, and you're just kind of relying on what other teams are doing and following their macro. Jaylings can usually position themselves in the dead center and predict where that zone is pulling. And if Dark Zero realize, hey, that was Jaylings, we know which building they're holding, that will be Godspot eventually. And so far, it could appear that that would be the issue. But for the teams that have the information but are far outside the zone, trying to get in, it's going to be an incredible battle, especially trying to break into cascades. You have all of the rocks, all of the water, the openness. It's going to be tough. But I mean, hey, if you're Naskia, just hop in and try it.
Yeah, just hang out, see what you can find. I will say, not everybody's rotated into zone, so this is risky, especially with only white and blue armors, but they're taking it for the moment. It seems like Pioneers have got themselves a little bit more spare time. They're running to Team Singularity. We'll find out if they survive. However, as we look towards the next couple of zones, the big question does have to be about Dark Zero, about that power position that you mentioned, and the two teams above them, Dojo and Moist, that will both have to rotate right past Dark Zero, if not directly into their faces.
Oh, Dell on white, last alone as they lose out on Naskia, and just like that, eliminated. 16 squads remaining, but Ironblood Gaming, we're talking about their rotation coming through the south side. They have made their way in, and they are going to keep on going. We're hitting the evac tower, smoking it out. You know what, Dia, something that's really cool about the utilization of the evac towers, they're getting poked, prodded, that gives them the information, but teams that run Horizon have been using the grab lift to jump up higher onto that, but I mean,
make it a little bit less predictable, right? Just make sure that you're not just on one line the entire time. NRG have been anything but predictable this series, rotating negative out of the zone to go and find kills, push themselves further ahead, but Guild overextends and gets taken down.
He was trying so hard just to get to cover and have his teammates suppress that fire, but Sweet able to go ahead and get Guild back on their feet, and just like that, now we can turn the tides to the team that is looking to approach, has the Prowler in hand, throws the Grappler, looks up the heels, but Mandy's like, no, we're not gonna let this happen. We are riding on such a wave of confidence and excitement, given the news and coming off that win.
Alliance know they have an advantage to push, even with Yuki down. And he's got some good long-range cover. Hemlock really putting in work, as burst weapons tend to do at long range. An extra 52 keeps him all the safer, and now we got a res onto Yuki, as Hackies does absorb a quick push. Doesn't have a Digi on this R99 and is in trouble, but he gets to retreat back to what is now a three-man squad. Mandy falls, Guild and Nathan are on the push.
Look, if Guild and Nathan are on the push, they are ready, but Hackies tries to make something happen, and unfortunately it's going nowhere. And just like that, Alliance are down to NRG, but it's going to be North Eption coming for the cleanup.
The masters of edge play in Split 2 playoffs, and now we'll see what happens. And we may have hit a quick pause here with NRG recently having been taken out. There's no better time to evaluate where we're at in the game. With North Eption currently holding off to the western side, we've still got to think about the center around Cascade.
Yeah, that's definitely tough right there. We'll have to wait to see what just happened. But we think about the map and where it was. We had Dojo all the way out on that northwestern side. North Eption was trying to go out and hit that cleanup. And just before the grab lift, they were sending up, right? They were like, we're getting ready, and you'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, as we look forward, and Dojo looks forward to the rest of this series, to the rest of this game, the zone that we're seeing pulls us further towards Bunny Slopes, which is the area just below the ski lift. If none of you are familiar, if somebody in the audience is wondering, it says sort of as you exit Wall, right between Wall and Cascade. And in positions like those, the later we get, the more important it becomes to control the center of Bunny Slopes. Not just the buildings the Dark Zero are holding, but the trees that come a little bit further to the southwestern side than anything else. Chom Young Kung are currently set up there. Enter Force 36 have the opportunity to take them out, as this would be an isolated 3v3. We've still got Kick approaching from the south side. Kick, another South American representative that we haven't really had the chance to talk about because they haven't made that much noise yet.
They definitely haven't, but now would be the way to do so. If you start getting involved in those early game contests, you kind of don't even get to play the game just yet. So electing to kind of jump on over to Cascade as opposed to challenging Dojo at the wall. But, you know, with the zones favoring a wall rotation, maybe, but regardless, the fact is they're still alive. And you mentioned Enterforce 36. Well, I haven't really seen them since Split 1 playoffs. So they had a little bit of a roster change. They're coming in, and honestly, a lot of their merch was some of the sickest merch I had ever seen at Split 1 playoffs. So I'm really happy to have them back here.
That's an important buff to any team. Having good merch. I said it on the desk. You look good, you analyze good, you look good, you play good. Got good merch. It changes everything. He knows. He knows what I'm talking about.
He's agreeing
Team
with you.
Singularity, they got some nice merch. I do really like the blue on them. You know, having a nice rich blue is...
I can agree. I can agree. I got blue on. I got blue eyeliner. We're all blued out right now.
Elysium's dripped out as well. He's got like really nice chains and everything. He's got a really nice earring that you can't see because he's wearing the headphones, but I'm envious. I don't have my ears pierced, but I do really like the look of it, so it's inconsiderate.
It's pretty unique, but let's go ahead and think about where we were prior to this. And if I'm Dojo or Moist coming from the wall and I'm looking to hit a rotation where Dark Zero is on the bunny slopes in that building, what is my course of action? Because you know, after what happened on that World's Edge game where DZ kind of third party that contest so early on, if I'm the Dojo and I see them in there, I want their building.
I think it's a very likely possibility to see Dojo contest up against them. As we got the game unpaused, Northampton are right back in it. We were talking about Dojo's course of action on the opposite side, and they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. They can either move over to Moist, as they appear to be doing, or opt towards Command Center, one of the few beacons left in the lobby, one of the few bits of information. Northampton very well might take that route, while Dojo have chosen violence today.
You know what? Sometimes you just gotta wake up and choose violence, so I'm very excited to see how that goes. We got Timmy, Enemy, and Designful. Designful taking a little bit of the high ground route to do some scouting, but no, it's because he's got the Senti. Charge it up, and that thing will go crazy. We just need an opening shot on to Moist. We were talking about them, some powerhouse team that had a couple bit of a roster swap, but the nades! Fuzzy going down to an Arc Star, and I didn't even realize that was done and dusted within 5 seconds. They chose violence indeed.
They didn't even need to shoot their guns. At that point, Designful didn't hit 2 Sentinel shots, Horizon ulted, naded, and that was it. That was a perfectly placed ultimate, and honestly, a pretty big misstep on the other side, falling victim to a Horizon ultimate that can easily be destroyed. It's very difficult to navigate in 3v3s, of course, but that mistake is going to cost you big.
That's a pretty good high ground. Now let's talk about this isolated 3v3 fight that we're briefly mentioning with Enterforce 36 and TYK. So exciting about this, they do have to be aware that there are other teams obviously still on that southern side that they probably have knowledge of, especially Team Singularity. So this isolated fight has to be quick.
Yeah, you ideally want to finish this fight once it truly starts. Once you've got at least somebody's shields broken in under 30 seconds. Because as you said, otherwise teams start to take note. You see one knock, the fight extends for a little while longer, and things get very risky. Now, Enterforce 36 don't actually technically have to move just yet, so it is to their advantage to stall out the fight for a little while longer and allow another team to come up and put pressure on Tam Yong Kung.
Oh, that would be quite interesting, but it seems that TYK is going to hit the rotation, maybe not go for this necessarily, but we'll tune back in to kind of the congestion down at Cascades. You have FaZe over there, Snipe Down Frexes and Phony on the left, Complexity, Blackhand, Ironblood Gaming. And the question is, where did Northampton decide to rotate, right? They're looking at taking a lot of space on that right-hand side as Timmy and co are looking to close the distance, but Dark Zero is directly in front of them still.
Unfortunately for Dojo, having just expended the Catalyst Wall, they don't have a lot of cover. This rock is the only bit that's still safe for them. Dark Zero should still have ordnance to layer in pressure on top of them, and that Horizon ult, I mean, we've seen Dojo do some good things with it. It looks like Dark Zero about to do it to them.
Jen Burton throwing down the Dark Veil. They already had the Black Hole, and they are swarming around the Dojo now. So let's see what happens. Zero's gonna get cracked, but there's so much damage going out onto to the other side. A Thermite trying to stave off, but another enemy team is going to throw some nades, and just like that, Dojo are eliminated.
And it's just the right application of
Eliminated
pressure from
Dojo.
Dark Zero. They don't overpush. They don't commit when they know TYK are on the other side. They just let this be a dance of two teams taking out one, collaborating for the good of them both. TYK benefit because they've cleared their backs, and Dark Zero have just done the same thing. Now getting to think about their rotation towards Cascade teams. Cascade teams that have played it safe, that have sat in zone and have farmed up placement points all the way up until 9 squads remaining. At this point, though, once the next couple of zones start to close, that's where things get really difficult for teams like Complexity who now have to share space.
They have to share space, but they don't want to. They will have a favorable position in zone, but as a duo, things can be really challenging. There's no way Luda's going to be able to get rezzed back on the outskirts of this.
Like ఇట్లాంటి టైంలో గిబ్బి కూడా అవసరం వస్తుంది అనిపిస్తుంది నాకు కదా హారిజన్ కన్నా గిబ్బి కాదు హారిజన్ కన్నా గిబ్బి డౌన్ వేస్తే ఎడిగిపోతాడు చెప్పాడు మాడమే ఉన్నారు కదా ఒక్కడుంటాడు ఒక్కటో ఇద్దరు ఉంటారు అందరూ ఉంటారు
Blood is going to expire. Beast of the Hunt no longer providing the additional coverage and safety that it once did. You got to hope that it's back up by the time you eventually
హారిజన్ క్యాటలిస్ట్ అయితే ఆడతారు పక్కా ఉంటారు కదా బ్రో హారిజన్ క్యాటలిస్ట్ అయితే పక్కా ఉంటారు నేను థర్డ్ ప్లేయర్
as Dark Zero do not get that favorable zone pull, so they have to rotate out of the safety of their building and cut straight to Cascade. So that'll be very tough because we know North Epson was holding that right side, so they have to fight forward.
As you say, it can only be North Epson that's contesting Dark Zero right now. We know who's contesting now. Enterforce 36 has been right alongside them the whole time. TYK gave up the rotational pressure that they had and now have to fight Enterforce 36 on even ground. With that nade, it's become rapidly uneven. They're being shot in the back by Dark Zero. TYK have nowhere to go.
Enterforce 36, they said you may have not seen us at Split 2 playoffs, but we came to play at Champs in Singularity.
అయితే కిందికంటే ఎలిమినేట్ అయిపోతుందేమో ఎలిమినేషన్ రౌండ్ కాకముందుకే
17 points, but everyone's point sponge, so this could be the game where if they start out really strong here, throw themselves up that leaderboard.
Great play from Elysium, hitting a battle for a moment, making sure that he's pushing to support Ben. It keeps Team Singularity moving as one unit, keeps them from falling to a little bit more aggression from Dark Zero, and now they get them to make the push down to the low ground. It's a weak squad already, and Enterforce 36 get taken out in 7th.
DZ able to take out North Epson on their rotation as well. So now that we're down to the final 6 squads, it's going to come down to all the teams that are still on the outskirts of Cascade. FaZe, Iron Blood Gaming, Blackhand, Complexity, and the 2 on the north side. Singularity taking on DZ.
These two know they have to kill each other as well. There is no way that you are sharing a rotation in across open ground, but with a sliver of rock between you, you're leaving too much to chance. And Dark Zero fortunately have priority on this rotation, so for them, they're actually in a slightly better position. Team Singularity have to move through the low ground, through the open ground, and hope that they can hold out as other teams from Cascade will be causing a little bit of chaos. They may be able to third party as they did moments before.
That's really tough for Complexity as they've anchored down in that building. Yes, they've made it to top 6, but it looks like they might be out of shield cells and batteries. So they're just barely trying to hang in there, but Blackhand, who's coexisting with them on the underneath, have not only fenced off that door, they are stuck in there. Complexity is going to have a tough time.
And let's not forget what's happening over here. IBG, they've got low ground, but right above them, it's FaZe that took this building away from NRG, and that is a fantastic spot to be in right now. Still a little bit complicated to extricate yourself from, but the only team that you truly have to worry about is Dark Zero. And if you can get a few good shots in, if you can push IBG to a position where they also have to deal with Dark Zero, FaZe have a genuinely good chance of winning this game.
Exactly that. Meanwhile, Complexity as a duo with no heal is just trying to delay the inevitable, but FaZe, perfectly healthy, have plenty of utility amongst them. And it's so interesting to see. We knew the Nemesis was incredibly powerful, but how many people have been crafting that throughout our first day at Champs? A lot of Hemlocks, a lot of 30-30s, but even more Nemesis.
But burst weapons just incredible because as soon as you hit one bullet, you're probably going to hit a few. And it's really nice because especially with the kick up, you manage to land a little bit more damage more often than not. You headshots here and there. FaZe, they don't want to gamble, however, are going to push up onto IBG. A nice disengage from Rex even keeps them safe. But only a few seconds left as the zone's starting to close. And now it's do or die for FaZe. Are you going to wipe out IBG? Are you going to play the opposite side of the building? IBG, they don't come out on the better end of that trade. But now it's time for FaZe to move. Time for FaZe to face off against Dark Zero.
They have a Dark Veil, they have a Bangle, they are poised and ready to make this rotation out. But Dark Zero, you know they have been waiting for this to happen. The fact is, Cody last alive for Complexity in a top 5 situation. Not too bad though, because they need every point that they can get, only coming in with 5 for themselves. And with Monsoon down, at least you get a little bit more cover there with the knockdown, but Snipe goes flying, and Snipe is 1 HP, and Jen Burton making the move onto Frex.
Another pause as we are in the final zone. This one's going to decide it all, but we saw what just happened with FaZe jumping up into the air. Horizon gravity lift, it is a fickle mistress. Sometimes it saves you, and honestly, especially in ALGS lobbies, it can often be the cause of your doom.
Definitely could be the cause of your doom, but DZ and FaZe going at it. Blackhand looking to make a play onto that rotation down on that southern side. If they can just go kind of a little bit of southeastern and clean up whatever engagement is happening between FaZe and Dark Zero. Meanwhile, Team Singularity out on that western side, relatively scotch-free. They should be able to just kind of poke and prod, throw some damage down, and then move in when needed.
Now, while we have the time, we've got 5 squads left in this game. We've been focused on FaZe and Dark Zero. We know Complexity is routing, and good job, by the way, as long as you can stay alive. Every position means so much more now. But the other teams that we've got in this lobby, Blackhand and Team Singularity. Now they're going to both be approaching from the south side, Blackhand a little bit closer to Cascade. Singularity is in the power position that we talked about earlier, holding a lot of open ground. They also are one of our teams, much like FaZe, that have the opportunity to win this game. And we've even seen squads like Oxygen do it before. Oxygen, who are renowned for excellent team fighting, for fantastic coordination. We already know what Elysium brings to this squad. Team Singularity, their whole deal is building synergy at the cost of sometimes even their own stage time. Them being able to win this fight would put a lot of trust in them from all of South America, and most importantly, would give them trust in each other with this return to the international stage.
And that's exactly what we need. We just watched the Elysium interview prior to this, and it's almost as if that content piece hits right when they start to fry out in game. And if TYK and E36 hadn't necessarily stalled that engagement, right? It was supposed to happen a little bit earlier. TYK rotates to the north, kind of ruins the dojo's rotation as well. But then that fight eventually happens, and Singularity is like, well, this is the third party that I was wanting to have happen. And now they end up in such a power position as a result of those rotations.
And let's not forget what this is about as well. We've talked about the stakes for the team. A lot of this, it comes down to Bin as well, who is being put in the position to frag out, the position that Elysium used to hold, the position that brought Singularity to fame. Being able to execute in situations like this, even if you manage to find yourself in top 3, as long as Bin is able to be the catalyst for why that happens, pun absolutely intended and enjoyed, you should be able to have a little bit more confidence after what has been a difficult split 2. And finally qualification here, and that is what the early days of championships is about. When you are playing in the group stage, it's time to try things out, feel out other teams, and most importantly, get the good mojo going. We've already talked about Mojo very much needing to do that, and they're just not the only ones.
I think I saw a sign that said Mojo's got the mojo, so I want to see that get kicked into gear for the last 2 matches on Stormpoint, because it just seems as if, I'm not going to say teams have it out for them in these lobbies, but it just seems like they are getting such unfavorable rotations from other teams pushing straight into them or making interesting decisions that I wouldn't have anticipated them making. So that's all about that adaptability piece. So we're learning here, we're on our 2nd series, and the teams, as they learn from our team's rotations, they're like, all right, so next series, that's what I have to make it play, that's what I have to change, and we go from there. But looks like we may be kicking some things off in just a moment. So let's
Should
see.
be back into the game, so let's bring it up. This is, as we said, our final circle. Dark Zero still facing off against FaZe's Complexity have gone down, so have FaZe, leaving just Blackhand and Singularity in the way of Dark Zero.
All right, well, DZ, they took the power position from J-Lings early on. They knew they had to rotate, and they are fighting forward. Jen Burton going off, but trade is going to come out, and the black hole completely sucks them in. And Singularity clean it up.
Let's go Singularity, able to pick up the win. We talked about it on the analyst desk, and now, having come right into the first game of Storm Point, they very much live up to the expectations for themselves that they've set, that South America has set. The world requires to be met for the sake of the region. It's fantastic that we get them coming out on top, especially after we talked about how much this means for them as a team and individually.
We knew what the stakes were coming in. They told us, they were like, it is do or die for us in South America, and we want to show the world what we have at championships in year 3, and what better way to do it than in your second series of the day, in their first, making their debut.
Yeah,
that's gotta feel good.
Yeah, Vesk, for those of you who may not be aware, may not have kept up with it, is the player that stepped back into the coach role for this and did prep them up. You can see him sitting behind the team right there. He gave us the download on how they were feeling coming into the competition and how he was feeling and what it's meant to him. And so being able to prep up a team that ultimately takes a win was big for Start a Fight earlier in the day. Now Singularity get to have their time in the spotlight. But we had some really good plays outside of these folks, as Dark Zero did control that really well. I think they made the right play pushing down, and we ultimately saw how important it was that Dark Zero and Singularity deal with each other earlier, because the very fact that Dark Zero didn't take out Singularity before the rotation in ultimately handed Singularity the win.
It's crazy because they were so close to each other, and we'll get to run that final circle back and definitely look at that, but that's what I'm talking about. All these rotations, all the minuscule details are what make Apex Legends so fun. So now you can see it running back. Here's Elysium on your screen. Complexity eliminated as they found Cody. 4 eliminations thus far. That's going to be a good one for them.
And immediately here, as soon as you see the push from Dark Zero, Singularity's own wall decides the course of this game. What is otherwise a 50-50 rotation, maybe we engage, maybe we don't, gets them height, gets them priority position, and Elysium is able to go through the wall, managing to get a nice off angle and support the team in this way. That isn't typically the way that you'd see the game play out, but it speaks to the way that Elysium has been able to succeed in South America by understanding the game at such a critical level. It's a fantastic game for them, a 19-point finish. But let's not forget, Dark Zero, they had their own things going on. They picked up plenty of kills on the way in, and the champions aren't ready to be dethroned just yet.
12 eliminations, a 21-point game. I think they came into match number 4 sitting on 31, so they'll be north of 50. But Blackhand, who was able to live in Cascades for so long, able to take out 7 eliminations, as well as Ironblood Gaming sitting on 7, so 10 points and a 6th place placement. I mean, hey, that's not bad.
No, not at all. Complexity even picking up just the 4 placement points is going to be, I want to say, close to a success. Complexity do set their bar a little bit higher, but they're not the only ones that have a little bit more to reach for. We've got plenty of teams in the bottom 10 that do need to push that a little bit further. Gunvarioto-san, I think, for me, definitely a team that I'd like to see jump a little bit more forward. However, first day for them, absolutely forgivable. NRG very much surprised me, and pleasantly as well. They've had a good day so far, and this match, while it may not look impressive on paper because of the finish in 14th, along with 6 kills, makes it a very, honestly, solid game for them.
Yeah, it's really impressive, right? They start over there at checkpoint, they immediately grabbed ring console information, hit that rotation, cleaned up a few teams, and not before getting third-partied themselves, though. Sometimes Karma be like that, but as we look at the series results, Dark Zero have moved themselves up to 52 points, NRG sitting on 39, and TYK on 37. Singularity, though, with that win, move up to break into the top 5.
This is really big for them, and with 2 games left to go, we've got plenty of opportunity to jump up, even above 40 points. They could beat out our previous South American squad from earlier today. Putting these 2 up against each other, it's pretty clear how this game went down. Dark Zero's damage numbers specifically just so high, and it's due to the very active position they took on the map. Singularity in a very different situation, coming from Barometer that typically has a nice way to rotate into zone, but isn't a POI that's built for fragging as much as Mill is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely can see that. They came here, they were looking to fight, and they definitely did, immediately taking on Jay Lings right there, getting that building, and they essentially sat in there, were poking, prodding, trying to keep damage going out until they had to move, but this is what's going to be exciting. But guys, that was match number 4. We're gonna cut to a quick break, and when we come back, we'll have match number 5.
Monster Energy, the official energy drink of the Apex Legends Global Series.
What's up, everyone, and welcome back. It's the Year 3 ALGS Championships. It is day 1 in Birmingham, UK. I'm SpiderTip up here alongside Dia, and we have 2 more Storm Point matches to cast over for this series. And Dia, that one was, I feel like, everything that you wanted to have happen with Singularity on top.
I can't lie, I was pretty happy about it. I was cheering on the inside. My inner Brazilian was very happy to see them succeed. And given the fact that that was just the first game of Storm Point, the fact that we have 2 more, and that Singularity wasn't the only team to have something really cool going on. Even though they went out early, NRG are very much carving their own path in this series, and I really love the autonomy that they've taken in creating their own legacy throughout the group stage. They're not going to take this one lying down. They're going to play aggressive, and they're playing, honestly, very differently than you might see them in a finals lobby, and it's to speak to their experience on the international stage. Take advantage of group for what it's worth. It's a little bit uncoordinated. Teams don't know exactly what they're doing. Go out, punish them, farm it up.
That is very true, exactly. And if they had just had maybe 10 more seconds prior to that third party, that fight would have looked completely different. But there you can see Sweet. He's probably planning out the next 2 games and maybe breakfast, dinner, and everything tomorrow because he's just one of those IGLs that likes to plan out 20 steps ahead and then go that route. So it's really cool to see NRG here. And we're not going to talk about the conversation we had on Monday when we sat down about NRG, some of your hot takes, Dia. So we'll just ignore them here, and maybe they'll come to fruition later, and we'll tell you guys at home what Dia was really thinking about NRG, because that sounded a little different.
Hot takes are hot takes, you know.
It was a hot take.
You know, I win when we get good Apex Legends.
I mean, that's true. That's a win for all of us, right?
Yeah. NRG can do whatever they want as long as I'm getting good Apex Legends. That's the only criteria, and that has absolutely been fulfilled today. We're about to jump into the second game of Storm Point, where we could see them running back, very, very much so. Checkpoint is a fantastic place for them to be starting off. It gives a lot of flexibility, even more so than a lot of our other edge POIs, simply because of its slightly more central position while still having a lot of lootable areas, as well as smooth rotates out that nobody's really taking into Checkpoint.
I'm really excited though. On Stormpoint, we've had a nice variation of zones and even zones in Legends. So as we get into our Legends Select, a lot of Bangalores, a lot of Horizons, and obviously the Catalyst has been so fruitful. We thought that Split 2 playoffs was the rise of Catalyst. No, it's been even more powerful here at Champs.
It's fascinating because right now, the meta as such, especially around teams that are at the edge, really favors the Bangalore Bloodhound composition. It takes up 2 slots already, and you got to decide what the third is going to be. Some teams have chosen to run with things like Horizon to give you even more aggressive capability, but Catalyst is so valuable because of the chance that you run across a beacon. First of all, just blowing her up so far and being able to get so much more value out of that pick. And then even if you don't, the flexibility that she allows. I was talking to, I think it was Graceful while we were in the green room, about the instant deploy of just a little bit of stall, being able to play with doors as FaZe did just before their exit from Cascade, provides nearly infinite value to a team that wants to take a little bit of a risk.
Exactly, but not only even stalling, but the fact is you could go up into an engagement, reinforce their wall, deny them the ability to exit, and that is so fun to be able to see. But we know what also is fun? A little bit of Fusey as Pulverex makes their way down for that contest against North Eption. Now, mind you, Pulverex did lose the first one, and Onyx in a bit of a mix here with Kick as well. Raki, though, we need a birthday present. We need to just stay alive here and take down Kick. If you mind you, Kick did leave early on.
Come here, I want to see you. Happy birthday. Not going to get the shots through the floor, unfortunately, and Raki's got no verticality. The curse of, unfortunately, having lost your Horizon leaves him with very little autonomy now that Kick is on the roof. So Onyx are going to have to disengage, and there's no support legend for them. They, unlike Pioneers, have not chosen to run things like the Newcastle. They haven't chosen to run the Loba that we've seen earlier today, and it puts them in a spot where it is fight 1v3 or wrap for the rest of the game, and it's not a decision that I envy.
Yeah, that's going to be actually really tough. You know, Kick coming here from initially going towards the wall, but they're finding the success that they need. And Onyx did have some roster changes coming into Champs. Their prior player had already went over to Moist Esports and joined that roster, so it has left them maybe a little more vulnerable. So Kick felt confident in going here, but let's check in at Thunderwatch. Is that a little bit of Pulverex? Are they the last ones standing?
Oh yeah, and feeling quite good about it as well. That's 6 points that's been collected for them over the course of the past 2 games. So Pulverex come out on top, and that's with the less initially aggressive composition as well. They're running Catalyst and Fuse that really benefits from their positions in zone later in the game, and not really paying any respect to the contest that North Eption are giving them. They're fighting it fantastically, but compositionally, they're just saying, well, we can beat you no matter what, and they're doing it.
What's really unique about them, right, is you think back to when you saw them on scrims or even in Split 2 playoffs, they ran a lot of Loba, especially on World's Edge and even Crypto. So moving on to such an aggressive comp here, it just isn't going to allow them to shine. But Fuse, when you're contesting, is everything that you need. But DZ working their way out of the mill, hitting the Trident for a nice little rotation as we have yet again what appears to be another central zone on Stormpoint.
And I can't help but look at this and go, wow, triple purples and a Trident. Mill is crazy. Mill feels so good. And it puts Dark Zero in this position where, as one of the teams that has fought and won Mill so many times, they can abuse that power and get it to the point where this Trident rotation that would be risky for any other team, that was risky for Pioneers last game, just puts them in the center of a map. And a map that, as you say, is closing almost directly on top of them. Moist have taken a slightly different approach, and they, to be honest, had a little bit less far to go, starting over by Command Center. They put themselves on this slope that should provide them a decent bit of security towards the end game. It's not a particularly coveted position, and that alone should keep them nice and topped up, because there's just not a whole lot of teams that are jumping on top of you.
Yeah, this is going to be a really tough zone. They're fun to watch, but Jaylings, right, running into a little bit of early game interest. We saw them go out of the hands of Dark Zero in the last map, but now with JMW already done and dusted, Nags and Noises are going to have to throw it down. And Noises, going back to that Crypto throughout scrims prepping up to this, he had tested out a couple of different legends on Stormpoint, such as Horizon. He had a brief stint on Wraith. That one didn't last very long, but he looked really strong on Horizon. So being able to show that they can flex and adapt throughout these group stages is powerful.
And if you are planning to play zone and perhaps be a little bit more calculated in your approach. I've talked to other IGLs about the power of crypto as well. At face value, being able to throw out a drone, having to jump into the drone, it may not seem like it would provide an incredible amount of power, but the reality is that in competitive play and in coordinated play, the quick snapshots that you can get of everything around you, you don't have to rely on your team comms, you don't have to rely on imperfect or miscommunicated information, you can literally just see everything that's going on. It provides IGLs a fantastic way to make sure that they are making the right calls and to trust in their team, to follow what they're saying and not have to do the two-way communication path. It was Kashera who was really an advocate for this pick a little while ago, and unfortunately haven't seen too much of it today, but I do like that J-Lings are prioritizing it, though the position they held will be a little bit more difficult now they don't have a Watson. Tom Young-Kung on the other side, they've got a whole different set of problems. They're outside the zone, but that's really just about it. Their comp itself, I don't dislike.
It's pretty strong, but this is going to be a very tough rotation, seeing as how many teams have already made their way over. For those teams that land nearby, you mentioned Moist earlier, coming from Command Center, the short rotation for them, but so much action, and the Dojo just cannot have a break after this early game. Does get taken down, but immediately prioritizes the smoke and res, but not before Enterforce 36 decides this is an opportunity that we would like to expand on, and there's something to be said about the Havoc. You don't really see it in too many hands, and it goes crazy, but the double AR, Enterforce 36, pushing straight in, and the Dojo will be eliminated. IOI gonna clutch it up and hit for the quick res.
That was way too close for Comfort, having lost two in the span of a second. Enemy really earning his paycheck for a moment. Ultimately, Enterforce 36 do pick up kills, and they're kills that they did not have to grab either. It was even a little bit risky to go on a push even after they got the knock, simply because of the possible presence of other teams, but they were decisive, they went for it, it got them an additional 3 points. Now, in a slightly worse off position, they do need to find their rotate back, but at least they've got the temporary benefit of a few points, and ultimately, as we look at the map, nobody's coming to them anyway.
Yeah, NRG and Kick would be the nearest teams, and they're electing to hold their position. Kick is actually sitting on a survey beacon, so they can use that to deny anyone from pushing that area. But you can see right there, J-Lings once again calling another zone, have already made it from High Point down there, and Zane as well.
How do they do it? How do J-Lings do it? I know, beacons aside, zone predictions are hard. And this was what they became known for at Split 2 playoffs, was just flawlessly being exactly in the center of zone. They're continuing to manufacture this result, although down a member, it is going to be a little bit less valuable for them. Pioneers on the opposite side of this ring are going to be moving up from this southeastern side of the map. It'll be a slow move for them, but over by Launchpad, you've got IBG, who could rotate up behind them. So it's going to be a slow play. There's plenty of squads in the area, and this traffic jam as it is tends to provide a little bit of safety, even if it seems tense.
Yeah, Tom Finger here, revving up the Rampage, and we've seen a lot more Rampages today as well. It's also kind of like a wild card weapon pick, but it's so nice, especially when you need to break down Catalyst reinforced doors, the Black Hole being expended, and frags to double down as they make their push across to KCP, but electing to play that Newcastle on Sir Del. They're not going to have a Jenny.
Another quick pause gets thrown our way, and the Pioneers going to take a moment and really think about the way they want to handle this push. There are a lot of options for how they'll deal with it. A mobile shield, of course, providing them good disengage options if they need. They can post up inside this building with plenty of catalyst walls and spikes. But importantly, right now, Zane is separated from the squad. Did a decent amount of damage onto Tom Young-Kung as they came in. But since he's trapped on the outside of the building, there is a momentary weakness in KCP at the moment, and they could be taken down by a decisive push from Tom Young-Kung on the other side. Just want to see who plays this game of chicken better.
Well, it's really tough, right? Anytime I see a Horizon on a team, I immediately look at their inventory. Not only am I looking for bats, but I'm looking for how many grenades do they have? Do they have frags? Do they have thermites? Do they have arc stars to double down on the utilization of that black hole? And that's exactly what that Horizon had, and immediately starts throwing them inside the building. And with Sir Del on the Newcastle, as opposed to Watson, as historically had been played, they're not going to have
Raise
that
me,
Jenny.
raise him.
What's a Newcastle's worst nightmare if you have a wall down?
What's the Newcastle's worst nightmare?
The nade spam. The nade spam.
I was thinking of Jenny in my head, and I was like, this is just the perfect combination.
Yeah, imagine. It's almost like people used to play Newcastle Watson, but not today. Not when everyone is so aggressive. We got rid of Seer, we got rid of that legend composition, and now it is so aggressive. So you have to be able to answer back with that. But Dell, behind the wall, still alive, even has the tactical up as well, and Zane was able to grab a knock and a full.
కానీ నాకు డౌట్ వస్తుంది పిన్ని వాళ్ళు ఇప్పుడు ఆడలేదు కదా రేపు ఆడతారు అనిపిస్తుంది
What's your whole deal going into championships?
అలవాటు అవుతుంది కదా బ్రో.
That was the whole thing. I'm just gonna throw Zane at people, and if it works, it works. And right now, it's working.
Go get him.
Yeah, they got a nice little corner of heaven there. Meanwhile, Alliance,
వాళ్ళ
perhaps
మీద
not heavenly, but at least safe for the moment.
All right, Alliance, probably has a radio out there somewhere. I saw their setup. They've got radios in the merch booth, which is the coolest things ever. And as they push forward, Mandy, Yuki, and Hack is working together inside the building, trying to make sure that that team does not push onto them. Kind of what was happening to KCP, the Dark Veil being expended, but Yuki still has his.
No, we've got two squads around Alliance. We've got Gumber Aoto-san and Enterforce 36. Kick just went down a moment ago. NRG taking them out. And Alliance are playing aggressive now on the outside of the building, not giving up high ground, but definitely skirting the borders of safety as they battle for control of this building against two squads.
Darkstar's incoming, but Yuki using the stairway to hold off as Ironblood Gaming falls alongside FC Destroy and trying to peek through, but no Digi is going to be on that car, but the reinforcement of the door will stall just enough.
The confidence from Yuki, knowing that he's got coverage from his team, gives them so much more ability to stabilize and push these two other squads together. Enterforce 36 and Gumber Aoto-san, they've got no choice but to deal with each other because they simply can't walk up and straight up deal with Alliance. And now we are going to have other squads joining the fray. It's just been simply too long. And Gumber Aoto-san, I think, make the right call, disengaging a little bit because Team Singularity just rolled up. We could have two separate 3v3s going down, but Aimbot goes down. Enterforce 36 are taken out, and we're right back to the three-squad tango.
And this is exactly what they needed, rolling off the confidence of their prior match win, and some things to be said about throwing the grab lift inside a building to defer on that push. It forces them out the other side. They're expending the Bangalore ultimate, and now they're going to prioritize potentially rotating ahead of this and maybe cleaning it up after, but Geo has to keep moving, and Alliance has not left their building.
And Alliance have been fantastically coordinated so far. Very few gaps in the defense, and they've really managed to post up against two squads. However, the rotation is still going to be a problem, and their coordination, as much as it has saved their lives so far, is a lot more difficult out in the open, where Catalyst can do great things, but provides so much less in terms of actual solid cover that you can use in the form of these doors. So Alliance will be slow playing this, about a minute left as they need to rotate into the zone. A zone that, by the way, Dark Zero predicted really well. They still got so far ahead of the competition and managed to secure themselves a decent position. So looking towards the next couple of rings, they're going to be playing things out of the south, Black Hand having priority over the north or high ground of the upcoming zone.
Well, I love this rotation here from Gumber Aoto-san. They were able to negative rotate out of the ring, just kind of navigating on the other side of the mountain and coming in from that high ground area. So now they'll be able to walk around and see potentially a free building. That doesn't happen too very often. And now going towards Stormcatcher, you have to think about the survivability and the ability here to play on multiple levels. We got Nags and Noises there on the right side, and then Pulverex, who won the contest against North Eption, have made their way down here from Thunderwatch. Not a bad rotation, right? Just a couple grab attempts.
Not at all. I gotta be honest with you, Jeff. It's been a pretty bloody game. We're only at Zone 3, and we've got 11 teams left. There's been such a culling around the outside of the zone that there are still plenty of spots available when you really think about how to play out the later stages of the game. Dark Zero, as we said, play towards the south, Black Hand towards the north, but Moist are taking up way more space than they really need to or should be allowed to by any team. Alliance now are starting to pressure DZ, and this could become more crowded. We could also just kill each other.
Well, I think this is smart, right? Alliance, they only had a couple options. They could have went north like Gombre. They could have went straight through the choke point where Team Singularity was, but rotating around and taking the south side led them right to your Split 2 playoffs champs. And now we have an essential isolated 3v3. Both Dark Veils have been expended and everyone's really healthy, but Zero's got a Kraber.
Okay, well, we know this gun could turn a fight on a dime. Rising Gravity Lift is going to let Dark Zero escape the entirety of damage coming through from the Bangalore ultimate. However, Zero gets tagged by it, thanks to a little bit of zone damage as well, and is in a bit of a risky spot. Not a whole lot of cover until you get closer to the Grav Cannon. Not quite safe enough, not quite quick enough. We'll see if this gets sniffed out by Alliance, because Mandy is going on the scout.
Well, you call out the Kraber, they're the first that needs to go down, and Mandy, the super sub, going big, able to take out Dark Zero. Now retreating just a smidge to heal up, and they are isolated on the south side, but they have their work cut out for them, trying to make it north to that next break. But lo and behold, scanned by a survey beacon, someone wants to come out to play.
Ooh, and they got another team looking at them as well. Team Singularity look down from above. In comes the nade plus Horizon ult, and Mandy has to jump over the wall, disengaging from the rest of the squad, leaving Hakis and Yuki alone without a gravity lift. However, Singularity draw a lot of attention to themselves, and Elysium goes down there, up creek without a paddle, and we got an Arc Star in there.
We've got an Arc Star, and we've got to listen in. Let's jump on board with Alliance.
Yeah, let's go, let's go. Go, Manny, yeah, I'm coming. Swing in, swing in. Me, what the fuck? Where? Here. There's an armor swap here if you need. Right here on me. I'm taking the knockdown down. No, he's one. What? I did so much there, boys. Fuck me, dude.
Where are they? They're here on me, dude, and Alliance is going down. Team Singularity feeling the vibes. They just made one of the craziest rotations out of the choke, and they have elected to clear out the south side.
That is a really rough fight to lose for Alliance, and one that they know they should have been able to get away with. Having been shut down this time, they do still manage to secure top 10. It'll be a little bit of a consolation prize for them. Pioneers now have the opportunity to jump on ahead, and Moist still run the high ground where they started the game, where they very well may finish it. They picked up a little bit of KP along the way, but they are waiting for the game to come to them.
Team Singularity may have taken out Alliance, but they got punished immediately by KCP, who has their full 3-stack back. And now here's the deal with Sir Del on the Newcastle. We were talking about, hey, what's the worst thing? It's the nade spam. What's the best thing? Making unplayable spots playable.
They've certainly done that. Pioneers have so much more safety than they would be allowed by any other legend. And even with the rocks on low ground, it's an absolutely fine spot. With so many squads still left in the lobby, Pioneers are even going to be able to get aggressive onto Gunbury Otosan, while Onyx, they start a engagement of their own, taking down Easy Flax. Remember, Black Hand is not getting back in the game. It's another kill point picked up for Onyx, and a life well given.
That was kind of brutal, let me just tell you, man. Now Black Hand's a duo going into this end game. Gombre Otosan, they're going to fall. 6 squads remaining, but yeah, they lost it on an easy flash, but they've got a Kraber, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe we can connect a few with 7 bullets in the chamber. We look forward to that zone. Black Hand, if they can keep Pioneers from rotating on them, but Pioneers have found themselves, yes, they're playing a rock, but they're about to get sandwiched.
And this will require player K to really put down pressure with the Kraber. If Pioneers sense this weakness of a duo above them, and they don't get put down by a nice bit of damage at the start of their push, they're just going to keep going. Right now, even Nasky, feeling safe, is going to be able to push out from the rest of the squad, claim so much space for them, and challenge Moist for the high ground.
Looking for some angles there, but not necessarily overextending, throwing out the piercing spikes to put a mix into some things. But if you throw piercing spikes and then smoke it out, that is so confusing if you're the team that has all those abilities coming at you. You're just trying to make your way through the smokes, and then you step on a spike. That is going to be potential. But Moist Esports playing from a really solid position here on the south side of Stormcatcher, throwing up the Dark Veil. We've got to move, but KCP has left the rock. They're working their way up, as you see Player K and strafing. If they hadn't have lost out on Easy Flash, this would have been so unique.
It would have been a fantastic position. Honestly, still can net them a nice few points. Pulverex, who have made their way down, will have to contend with FaZe, who have ultimate height at the moment. Don't have to drop down. For FaZe, it's one more round of benefit. Phone does go low. Rex joins him, but this is a risky spot, and one that FaZe are not forced into by anything but their own hubris. It's a nice jump back up. Phonyhead keeps the squad safe.
That was a clean move there. As long as Frex stays up here, can focus on healing. They have plenty of shield bats, but being able to eliminate J-Lings, get back to the high ground, avoid the engagements, because you see Polfrex is still inside. They have to push out. I mean, there's a little bit of dance going on, and Pioneers hitting the grab lift, and their move trying to clean up.
Nice few bullets thrown in by Zane, the secret weapon.
And another
Pioneers. Player K has gone down, as we know. That leaves just one member left on the squad. Pioneers are going to play the outside, play both sides of the engagement, taking out Blackhand ultimately, and leaving just Moist right next door to them. They can eliminate this squad, they can secure a top 3 position, and it doesn't look like Moist can do a whole lot about it.
Pioneers now have broken into the top 10 with 25 points. 3 squads in their way for a match win, but you've got Moist Esports, Pulverex, and FaZe, and you don't have Moist anymore, top 3.
A nice elimination from Pioneers, and now they've got a really good spot. They're alone on this side of the ring, knowing that Pulverex and FaZe both have to come to them at the same time. It's a matter of holding this area, and with a Newcastle, you can get a more aggressive angle. Down drops FaZe, you're gonna have an insta-push on them for Pulverex. They've got to defend from both sides, and yet they've already lost Snipe down. FaZe are gonna be melted by this gravity cannon.
But it's going to be Pioneers pushing in. Pulverex hasn't even moved yet. Phony is down. FaZe is eliminated. Now it's Pioneers versus Pulverex, who have left and are making the push with a Dark Veil. That's right, from the contest. They've got Fuse in that Legend composition, and if you're breaking it out, the Knuckle Clusters, the Motherload. What does Nasky have to say about this?
It's just Nasky right now. Everyone else is trapped inside the Motherload. He's got to hold it down as the fire burns. Does get a nice cheeky angle on this fence. No knock yet, but this damage that Nasky is putting in is saving Pioneers' game. The insane on the other side. Pioneers going the aggressive push. This should be their game, and in the midst of all the smoke, Pioneers have got the edge to make it happen, but Pulverex clawing it back.
Look, maybe Pulverex just needs more Fuse. We need more Fuse. Congratulations to Pulverex, your match 5 winners. So impressive, right? They win that original contest against North Epson and finally get to play the game, and they make their way from Thunderwatch to the Stormcatcher zone and go all the way.
Pulverex, that was such a back and forth fight. They ended up getting a Dark Veil. They didn't have to deal with FaZe. They had a nice Motherload, but Nasky made this end game so impossible to play out cleanly. So much so that Pulverex were at a disadvantage going into that last main gunfight, and still managed to pull it out. That is mechanical skill at its best.
I know, watching Nasky jump up on the high ground of that fence and just look around that Dark Veil, while he still had his as well and never even had to utilize it. So I was so impressed with that, just bouncing back and forth on the high ground. At one point, it looked like it would have favored KCP, but the smoke, the chaos, all of it. Pulverex right there, 12 placement points, 8 eliminations. That's a 20-point game for them.
I honestly, I can't even say that it was the smokes, and that is going to have something to do with it. As you talked about, the combination of smoke as well as spikes from Catalyst really make fights impossible in the late game, and Pulverex, even having to face off against a squad that had more damage, that had Digis, were still able to fight it out. They took so few fights this game. Pulverex were so passive. They were like the Gandhi of Apex Legends after the initial contest.
Well, let's look at it from Pulverex's POV, that final circle, right? This is where FaZe had elected to actually push down onto KCP early. So that was kind of wild, giving Pulverex a little bit more time to assess that situation, where they wanted to approach. They see final 2 squads, and that Motherload is just ready and waiting unleashed, and here it goes. This is where things start to get nixy.
And at this point, I just want to see how much damage Nasky is actually physically able to do. It's a quick retreat from him. Remember, he's buying time for the rest of the squad, and Pulverex never pushed past the Dark Veil. They don't want to take that risk, but with Shunmi almost going down, they've got to split up and cover as much ground as possible. They have so little left in the ring, and Zane's finally able to come back over and do his thing, ultimately trading. Leaving Pulverex with, I mean, let's count how much is this?
Rampage ఉన్నప్పుడు వాడినప్పుడు కనిపిస్తే గట్టి కొడుతుంటే మూడు షాట్లకే వాడు షీల్డ్ క్రాక్ అవుతాడు. ఏ షీల్డ్ ఉన్నా వైట్ షీల్డ్ ఉంటే నాకు
20 points for Pulverex, but 20 points for Pioneers. They were able to get 11 eliminations in FaZe, who had made such a strong play onto J-Lings, getting back onto high ground. They only accumulated 3 eliminations, but Moist going out in 4th with 10 points.
I take back what I said. I think that Gandhi probably took out less than 8 people. They got a little bit bloody. Let's take a look at the bottom 10 from this match, because with Alliance and Singularity rounding out 9th and 10th, Dark Zero surprisingly land themselves in 11th.
Yeah, Singularity was in 9th as well with a good chunk of eliminations. That's why you just see pretty much a few here, a few there, and that's kind of what had happened with that initial contest there with Vic, able to pick up 2 eliminations. Very strong, but these contests, that's why they gotta get them out of the way. If you're contesting, do it in groups, because you want to get all of your drop spot POIs claimed prior to moving into the bracket stages, because you cannot afford to lose out.
I love that you touch on that, Tiff, because right now we're looking at the overall points. What we've got so far after 5 matches in this group, C and D, is turning out to be, as we started, pretty top heavy, but Singularity clutching up a 2nd place so far is a great place to be. But we've got a whole nother game going on, and it's what you've just talked about, the game of contests, and ultimately the game of winners and losers bracket, of ultimately finals, and being able to secure your drop spot. Contests may not look so hot right now, but we've talked about this on the desk. Today, you're aiming for top 10 more often than not. If you don't make it, you've still got time later. What you don't have time for is a contest in finals. If you're planning to get there, get rid of the team that's landing next to you.
No time for contests, with tons of talk on the caster desk, on the booth. But you know, we've also got here a ton of watch parties. I want to throw it over to Peeps, who is with Vicky, one of our watch partiers.
Tiff and Dia, thank you guys so much. We are here with the newest member of the ALGS Watch Party fam, Vicky. Vicky, oh, we got some fans in the house. How we feeling? How does it feel to, one, be the newest member of the ALGS Watch Party, right? But not only that, representing ALGS to the whole entire world of anybody that speaks Spanish.
This is like an awesome opportunity. I'm very grateful because I used to do watch parties for every ALGS. Like, I did them for 2 years from my setup in my home. And I think a lot of Hispanic members of the community really appreciated that, because a lot of them don't speak English or they didn't know a lot of the teams. So it's very exciting to be able to represent them and to have my stream as a way of them to understand and to watch their favorite teams.
I love that. Crowd loves that as well. They're loving you. They're loving you. So I gotta say this. I've known you for a while, I think maybe 3 years or something, and you've always been a grinder. But the last year and a half, you have absolutely blown up, right? Congrats on your success. But how does it feel to be one of the biggest streamers in the world?
That sounds like surreal to just imagine. I'm very grateful again because I love streaming. I started with my streams in 2020, so I just did it as a hobby. I never expected to get like big or anything. I just enjoyed playing with my friends and just interacting with the community in general. So I'm very happy because growing as a streamer is something that we all dream about, and knowing that you can create like this type of communities and come to this type of events with your favorite video game is always something I'm gonna be grateful for. And I mean, you have also blown up recently, so congratulations, and you deserve it as well.
Thank you, thank you. It's a blessing we play video games for a living, but I think that's it. Congrats again, keep killing it, and Dia and Tiff, take it away.
Thank you very much, Peebs, and it was nice to grab that interview. I was really excited to see Vicky joining us. I've tuned in for a few of her. She did like a Price is Right style stream for a little while, and we'll play with viewers. Very entertaining, and a little bit of love I want to throw over to Pokies as well, who covers this in Brazilian Portuguese, which is fantastic. We get to reach all of South America with these two, and they're amazing. So thank you both for your work. I don't expect that they're watching, although they got their own things going on. As we do prepare to jump into match 6, however, we're all pretty excited for this group, for the amount that we've seen these teams develop over the course of a single series. But we've still got some squads that do look for the more dominant game, and I'm thinking specifically of Dojo here, who had a difficult last match. This is something that I spoke about on the analyst desk, but this day of all days is likely the single most important for Dojo. Outside of risking elimination, this is where they're fighting not for their tournament lives, Tiff, they're fighting for the vibes, and the vibes are so important to Dojo. They themselves will admit it.
Yeah, that is something that I know we had a long discussion about on Monday, so stay tuned for that, because Dia and I, we were just kind of going back and forth on the Dojo and looking at, I mean, the vibes.
Okay, they got vibes.
They got vibes there. We see some Bronzy in the back as well. I just feel like it's going to take one game for them to really pop off and get that momentum moving forward. Because you think back to that last chance qualifier when we saw this team take the victory, right? The emotions on Timmy's face. Dude, I almost teared up watching when he posted that he qualified, and throughout, that was so powerful, right? So I want to see another moment for that, especially with champs, right? A lot of our teams, we have all the regions that have the last chance qualifiers, and so for those teams coming in from that aspect, show out here, show us what you've got, and then, hey, who knows what's going to happen for year 4.
I mean, speaking of the last chance qualifiers, a member who was critical in their qualification, it isn't even on the stage right now, is in the audience. Timmy's father was present during their LCQ run and managed to actually keep the team pretty darn happy with how they were performing. Keep, as we said, the vibes high, and he's in the audience. I saw his sign earlier. He's got the "Are You Winning, Son?" So if you've been here the whole time, you've likely seen him already, but it's been fantastic to see, as we so often do in Apex Legends, parents coming out to support the incredible athletes we've got on stage.
I mean, that's huge, right? We think of esports in general, and if you have your family in the crowd hyping you up, that warms my heart. That has to feel good knowing. I know that throughout this journey of, starting casting on the team as well, I've met a lot of the family, and Jen Burton's family is honestly one of my favorites as well over on DZ. Always here. I know we got Zero's dad in the audience, probably right in front of DZ somewhere, and that's amazing as well. The support always coming out, and it was crazy. The Split 2 playoffs, Papa Jen Burton came up to me and was like, here's the deal. DZ's gonna win. And I was like, they are? He goes, 100%. So if he sees me and says that again, I guess it's all over for everyone.
Yeah, it is scary to hear a two-time champion prophecy. That's what I was talking about.
There's the son. Are you winning, son? I mean, Timmy's a memer, right? If you've ever been in Timmy's stream, I'm pretty sure he has 100+ quick memes, and one of them being
it's really fantastic, and that's what's going to be really important. Now, we've talked about the Dojo a little bit. One of the teams that's flown under the radar a bit, but was really integral in the way last game played out, is Moist, and they had some big expectations coming into today that I'm looking forward to the development of. I didn't expect them to be a day 1 team, and this isn't pressure to become one. However, the pure amount of fragging potential that you've got on Moist, and the passion that we've got on this broadcast for APAC South, does have to come to fruition in the next little while, as we are going to run back a little bit of what we saw earlier in the day. Some of the teams that popped off, some of our highlights that took, say, even NRG to this position. It's a big tournament for NRG.
Well, it's a big tournament, it's a big game, so I want to see exactly what that looks like, right? They had that 20 elimination game to kind of kick things off, and it was so strong and fun to witness, but they have been a real powerhouse, and honestly, we haven't really spoken too much about them just yet on the desk. They haven't necessarily manifested in a team to watch, and it's not because we're forgetting about NRG by any means. It's just because I have already, like, I know they're going to make finals on Sunday. I know they're going to be there, but in what capacity, right? Sweet himself, we always talk about him being one of the greatest IGLs in the world, but he doesn't have that LAN championship that just really validates that experience, and I don't think he will say it himself until he has that.
I think it's fair to accept some humility as you prepare for, we said it at the start, but the biggest LAN so far of Apex Legends, and arguably the biggest LAN of Sweet's career, especially given the way the playoffs have gone, the way that I think many people are almost afraid to predict NRG in the same way as teams are now hesitant about jumping in for Alliance. Not because the team has, how do I say, not because the team has changed in some capacity, but simply because you want to hold your breath, you want to wait for them to take momentum on their own, and as a fan, as a commentator, you don't want to curse them before they start, and it's been very much the same story with NRG, and fortunately enough, with the, I would say, little amount of attention they've attracted, they've managed to already make big waves on the first day of championships.
Exactly, as we got a good comparison. We got Guild up on the board, 12 eliminations for that thus far, 9 assists. The survival time, very similar between Noises and such, but Noises is kind of playing on the crypto, playing a little bit more reserved character, trying to play the life for the team, but still doing fairly well. And honestly, to see Guild shine, it's really cool.
He's fantastic as a mechanical player. Guild is one of the original, or I would say, in the past 2 years, people that have cemented themselves as just controller players that are S tier. If you're gonna build a roster that needs somebody to do consistent damage, you're probably putting Guild on pretty high on your wish list. And so seeing, as you say, performance in this LAN so far is really good, and it's in a different environment where NRG are playing a bit of a different style, something that changed even when they picked Guild up initially. They took a little bit of a shift, they changed their identity, and now they're considering doing that again, even if it is only temporary in the group stage, and that is yet to be seen.
Exactly, so we'll only see what time will tell. Will NRG rise even further to the top? Will they keep that momentum going forward? I would love to see another game that enacts as that point sponge for them, but for now, locked and loaded as we kind of prep up game number 6, the final match of this series. But a lot of teams have been finding their pathway, and it's kind of interesting to see KCP, right? They've been rotating heavily early, utilizing that Newcastle, even often having white shields going into the top 8 teams left. That's been kind of interesting for them.
And I really like that they're running Newcastle as well, because while you think about Newcastle's abilities and the castle wall being really important, one of the other things is that Newcastle deals really well with changes to loot because of his ability to open support crates that almost nobody else is running. There are going to be a couple POIs. I was talking to Start a Fight earlier about some of their loot path runs where it's very difficult to actually find good amounts of shields, batteries, cells, whatever it may be. And Newcastle largely solves that problem simply by being able to run over to blue bins and get your team a bit of extra sustain. Some teams like Start a Fight have chosen to opt for Watson instead to deal with that. But Newcastle is absolutely a viable choice and brings a lot of other things to the table, not just the castle wall, but the revive as well, mobile shield, and he's a big, chunky, fortified lad.
Yeah, he definitely is fortified, that's for sure, but it's quite interesting. We're going to cut to a quick break, but when we come back, match number 6.
నా దానికి లేదంట బ్రో, కొత్తగా 7,000 సిరీస్ ఉన్నాయి కదా, దానికి ఉందంట. చీటికి కూడా ఇస్తారులే కానీ దీనికి కూడా ఇస్తారులే నా కాటకు కూడా ఇస్తారులే కానీ మరి లేకపోతే లేట్ అవుతుంది ఇక
Welcome back to Year 3 Apex Legends Global Series Championship. We got match number 6 coming your way shortly. I'm Spider-Tip, Dia and I are here to kind of joke around me, but not only that, more importantly, call the action.
Absolutely. And there will be action to call very soon, which I'm excited for. Game 6 right around the corner, and with a little bit more time and plenty of time for these teams to blossom during the course of this series. It's not the last time that you're going to see Group D. We do have A and D coming up after this, where we'll get the opportunity to see the teams from Group D try their shoes on a different stage, see if they can tangle a little bit better there. However, this is going to be the last time that we see Group C for today, so it's important to get your nice initial games in, because right now you gotta wait till tomorrow to do anything extra against Group A.
I love how we have DZ up on the screen. You're mentioning about trying your shoes on a different stage. I learned a lot of things in that green room. Not only is Genome a diehard fan, but for some reason, none of those boys wear shoes when gaming. And honestly, I don't either at home, but I'm just like, that's quite peculiar.
Do you wear shoes on airplanes?
Yeah. No, you do not break your feet out on airplanes. That is, no.
I have no comment to make.
Oh my gosh, get me out of this booth. I need to be saved right now. No one's wearing shoes.
Yeah.
Crowd, are you out there wearing shoes? Please tell me you guys are all wearing shoes out there.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, I can't tell.
Yeah, they're wearing shoes.
That's a shoe. That's a shoe, thank goodness. All right, well, we're queuing up match number 6. I saw Asta out there with a golden Nessie. If you haven't got your golden Nessie already, I think I heard they were exclusive to Japan, but for some reason we've got them here in Birmingham, UK, and I did buy 3. I might go buy 3 more.
I like it. I mean, they're, from what I heard, ALGS exclusive. That's just what I heard. I have been wrong.
More golden Nessies, a little bit of a hashtag RidWin. FaZe are supporters of Riddle. I'm a supporter of Riddle. And honestly, I saw a nice wig with a Riddle jersey too. And we were talking about our watch parties early on, and we've got some really great ones out there. If you haven't already, Nice Wig and Greek are also doing a watch party. Esports Rage, they have a full setup over there on the right-hand side for their Japanese broadcast. And they are some of my favorite casters. I'm a huge fan.
I'm gonna try and grab them some ramen later. We know they love ramen, and that alone is worth the experience, especially for all the viewers at home. It's incredible the support that Apex Legends gets out of APAC North. It's just pure, and that's almost entirely due to them.
Ooh, one day I'll visit over there, but I haven't made it to
One day.
Tokyo just yet, or that side of the world. I'm not too huge on traveling, but I would travel to go over there, and I want to now. But speaking of traveling, now while we get this match number 6 kind of underway, let's think back to the contest that we've witnessed, right? Kick originally supposed to go wall, decides to go Cascades, and it's actually proving very well for that South American team. But not only that, we're tied 1-1 on the poll for
North
Eption did take the win.
India
They were able to provide a lot of damage to other teams, right? Specifically onto NRG, taking that third party and eliminating them. So I'm curious to see what North Eption brings, and it's been a different iteration of North Eption almost every single land. So for this one to really find kind of that stability and the adaptability throughout group stages, maybe this time for that winner's bracket, they could end up there and find themselves in
What you appreciate about North Eption is that, well, the players may have changed, the style, the spirit of the game stays very similar. Their take on it, the legends that they run do change up, but North Action is largely a team that wants to fight you. And I really appreciate that about any team in Apex Legends. A team that will just go for it. In fact, my prediction for this group was Blackhand for that very reason. Blackhand were another team that very much could use their breakout. They actually had a pretty good start for the first game on Stormpoint in match number 4. They could finish Stormpoint strong with a little bit of luck this game.
And that's quite interesting, right? Because you think about all the changes that came into Apex Legends prior to Champs, all the ring changes. Typically, North Action's playstyle had been to remain in zone, crafting up, playing that incredibly hard edge, and it is completely different now. They are still edge, but it's a little more zone-oriented, and now with all of these teams enacting the contests, we're locked into the dropship. We're ready to see what happens at Thunderwatch. We're ready to see what happens at Cascade Falls. And as our plane line decides to cut from north to south, teams that land Lightning Rod, Alliance in particular, are going to have a ring console, a survey beacon, and crafting and priority to get there.
And I'll tell you what really scares me is the J-Legs also have a ring console, which means that they have even more information to work with. Their zone prediction can be even more perfect, but that is to see who they have to contest with, as Onyx currently fight their way out as they have been doing. Still relegated to the low ground a bit, but Kick Loose stall first.
Oh wow, so now we got a little bit of a 3v2 situation, and Rocky on the G7 Scout making it work. So let's see, with 21 bullets at a dream and some high ground, not looking too bad here. Crusader running that original loadout of the Wingman PK. This should be all for Onyx.
Honestly, it's how you know you're a good player. Pick up a Wingman PK and go for it. Onyx take a nice wide swing, 3 versus 2. And mop up Kick. It's actually even neat. They've collected them into a corner, and we've got a little bit of celebration, respect to their opponents that's been paid in the aftermath. It'll also mean that with this being the quickest 3v3 we've seen so far, Onyx may actually get to play a game similar to what they normally would, rotated timing that they've practiced.
It's definitely true. Actually, we're not going to get to see a Pulverex Perception contest because Pulverex decided to go elsewhere. So look at that. They want to play priority there because they've already had a map with plenty of points. No need to waste that. But check out where the zone's going, right? NRG, they've got a ring console. They've got crafting. They've got a survey beacon. And they've got priority to a zone. So seeing where NRG decides to move for this will go to show where everyone else will likely start.
Northcott just utterly empty right now. It wouldn't be crazy for NRG to stick around and try and hold on to checkpoint the ring as a result, or rather the ring console as a result. It's definitely a viable strategy. It may not be a super powerful end game position though, and I think they know that, having gotten the scan. So do you want to stick around, get a little bit more information, or do you want to gamble on the chance that you can find a game-winning spot? I'll tell you what Dark Zero want to do. They want to gamble. They have an idea of where the zone is going, and they are heading straight over to North Pad.
Hey, I mean, you talk about it, right? Coming from Mill, again, with 2 purples and a blue, and after that loot distribution being changed up, I can barely find a blue shield anywhere. But the Mill ring console has got crafting, and you have those bins in the center that almost always have all the good shields. So now they've got a quick rotation sitting on 53 points, and wait a second. Oh, didn't I pick Dark Zero as my talent prediction? Yeah, I think I did. I think I did. It's almost like I knew something.
Pretty good pick. Pretty good pick. Come on, Blackhand. I'm waiting for you. I fully believe, even with 1 game left, and we'll say they've got a nice spot. They did rotate in early, and having picked up Watson to solve the shield zone problem that they've been dealing with previously, do have a decent position for defense setup in the late stage of the game. They do have to make it there, however, and with white shields that can be a bit challenging. They've eaten some pokes so far. Moving over, they should be able to find a nice spot to play a little bit later. NRG need to get a little bit lucky in order to do so, but Sweet's going to be picked up, and they're going to be just fine.
So let's talk about this, right? Because we've already had one North Pad zone thus far, and that was in our earlier series this morning, right? So it's not necessarily the same. It's not encompassing all of the fingers north of North Pad, and that's where Fnatic and Dreamfire had positioned themselves, and where NRG currently is where Ascend was. TSM ends up doing really well that game, playing from Red Room. So look to the teams that are maybe trying to find themselves underneath here at North Pad, but teams that are still playing around down Beast. Gombare Otosan sitting on really nice shields, working on that early game, are working against Complexity right now.
One of the things that you have to recognize if you are picking this fight is that other teams are going to rotate on you. Moving up through down Beast is very popular, and it means that Gombare Otosan have to wipe this fight faster than not. Dogma goes low for a moment. Complexity play off the low ground, taking him out and leaving basically this all up to Chunghee. Manages to do it. Complexity go down, Jusna stays up, and it's a quick reset on Dogma before anyone else arrives.
They're absolutely juiced. Now Gombare, they land down Beast. They're going to have all the loot on the underside, which is usually at least one gold item, and for that to be the gold knockdown, it preferentializes all of their reses there so they can get back on their feet. And you're right, because now you have to think about all the teams that are going to rotate on that side of the map, up through down Beast, pushing towards North Pad. It's going to be a little tough, but speaking of tough, MT for Moist, this is not it.
Not the ideal way to finish the series, that's for sure. Fussy and Waltzy aren't able to make it, and MT is going to be playing around the corners of Red Room to survive as long as possible. It's the only thing you can do with 18 squads left. It's even still very difficult to actually find yourself any points. Dark Zero, a very different story, however, as their early rotate down has left them playing the open ground, something they actively elected to do, and likely so they could do exactly this. Farm some kills with the shield advantage they have.
I'm gonna say, okay, Gen 0 on the high ground. Zainu joining up, and they are just stacking this fight as TYK forced to throw up the Dark Veil, but I don't think the timing is going to be enough, and just as that begun, the fight has been cleaned up. Nathan cleaning up Moist Esports on the other side. We're down to 16 squads here, and Dark Zero are looking to potentially cement themselves at the top of this group series.
And I hate to say it, the shields barely even made a difference there.
Exactly.
Dark Zero took maybe 50 combined damage, and that's being generous. It was a decisive fight from them, and what really swung it was the use of cooldowns that they instantly threw in. It's not, they weren't waiting for a crack. They walked in with confidence, threw out a Horizon ult off a nice initial push, and just kept the pressure on. You didn't let the other team play the game. Gets Dark Zero a nice couple of kills, and there's definitely a reason why you and many of our talent predicted them. Dark Zero, they take no prisoners.
They take no prisoners, but you think back to the group stages and Split 2 playoffs, actually it was Alliance on their first showing, took out the first win in their group series, but things were a little different, right? It's a slower start, and some of these zones haven't necessarily favored them too much just yet, but trying to break into North Pad, if you haven't already, can be incredibly challenging. You think about the dojo, they've made it into that next zone coming from the wall, but Alliance coming all the way from Lightning Rod are just going to have, you know, a little bit more time to loot due to that flight path, but they're going to loot along their way. Crafting was at the wall, they'll likely hit it there, and they are, but North Eption lie just in the midst.
It's interesting that North Eption have chosen to play these nut buildings because there's not a lot that they can gain from this outside of catching Alliance off guard, outside of finding a team that just isn't prepared to take the fight. And at the World Championship level, unlikely to happen. Most people are going to be ready for a fight. Most teams like Alliance should be scouting ahead. So North Eption's decision-making here is almost a skill check to other teams in the area. Perhaps a rotational play for a little bit later on, as that will be available to them as they likely manage to find an evac tower along the way. Their rotation in is going to be mirrored on the other side, however, by Enter Force 36, playing around the bunkers and spotting out a respawn ship behind them. Gives a lot of data as to where their surrounding competition is. I wonder what their goal is here. Do they want to pick a fight? Do they want to rotate in a little further? We're about to find out.
Dogma from Gombare making their way back in on down B, so they've landed there, they're still there. Likelihood of them hitting that rotation will be soon. As we can see, it's pulling ever so closely towards North Pad, but I don't know if it'll pull up to the POI itself. itself, I think it's going to potentially end, but J-Lings all the way north are hedging their bets that it's going to pull all the way up there, and Alliance still trying to make their way into zone, but Dark Zero, you know, taking the time to hydrate. It's important, guys. If you're out there in chat, make sure you guys are hydrated.
One of the important things about zone flip pullover by North Pad as well is that
consistency maintain చేసుకుంటారు వాళ్ళు
seem rough because you're on the low ground gives you a lot of flexibility that other squads don't have. Now we're pretty sure this is going hard at North Pad. Call it an educated guess, a very educated guess. We watch a lot of Apex Legends, but there's always an outside chance that this pulls more out into the open, in which case teams that lie in bunker will have an inherent advantage over the squads that will need to make an exodus from North Pad. So when we see squads like Enterforce 36 and Dark Zero sitting out there, it's for good reason. Now Alliance, we saw sitting out over by Wall, and we wondered whether they'd be caught off guard. Right now, it's a 50-50, but they definitely didn't expect this.
They didn't expect Laika going crazy with the R9 wingman able to take down Yuki and Hack. It's now Mandy last alive in a 1v2 situation, but not before KCP says, this is our moment. We've got to go in. We have to move in exponentially quick, and they are fully healed, looking to clean this up. Disruptor rounds on that alternator, and they just have to get close.
Pioneers, the hero that neither team asked for. North Eption and North Eption just don't need it to happen. Pioneers walk up on Alliance. They now take high ground, and it's likely to be the end of both squads. Nice mobile shield as well, with the Pioneers taking any meaningful damage. Alliance go down first, and making it to top 15 is going to be a small victory for any squad still remaining.
Well, this is quite interesting, right? North Eption was able to get inside that IMC armor, which was exactly where they were playing from originally when Alliance had decided to push from the wall. So now, Pioneers, just as quickly as they came, as quickly as they have left, they've realized the opportunity is no longer going to be viable for them. Trying to break into this IMC armory would only be a death threat, and with FC Destroy playing this rock just in front of IMC and the fence in the building, it's not worth it.
It's fascinating. Since we've got one of our only Gibraltars in the lobby, evac towers actually gained a whole lot more usefulness. You no longer need to have the perfect landing because you can Gibby bubble your way to relative safety. Enterforce 36 were unable to do this as they unfortunately did not Giga Chad Gibby. However, they'll have some more options in their future games. For NRG, who don't need cover like that, they actually managed to get themselves a building. And we did talk about this earlier on, whether they would take the gamble and move up to North Pad early, or whether they would stick around. We have gambled, and it looks like on the top left corner of your screen, they've rolled right.
This was not meant for an early Harvester pull, where Oxygen had assumed that it was going to pull towards the left side of Harvester by the beacon, and then immediately it pulled to the choke.
Game crash
that could have happened here, but unfortunately for them, it did not. So
NRG
sitting
after game drop
right? They came out strong in game number 1. Can they end it strong in game 6? Currently sitting on 5 eliminations and 13 squads remaining. If they double down and win this with a ton of high kills, they could actually unseat Dark Zero for the series.
It's appreciable that they're focusing on height as well, because Dojo's position that is on high ground in North Pad is arguably one of the most powerful, and more often than not will get you a top 3-4 finish. And while we have seen exceptions to that rule even today, people prioritize it for a reason. What it isn't for Dojo right now is an active position. They don't have a whole lot of ways to lay down cover. They aren't running Rampart, which, you know, is always something that you can improve on. But it's still going to be a fantastic spot for them later on, regardless of how much
better
Hitting the evacuation tower, looking for a place to play, but they've got FC Destroy just ahead of them. We knew Pioneers was behind them. North Eption had to leave the IMC armory, so it's a rather tough rotation. And we talked about it, they don't have the Gibby, they can't throw out a bubble to land, so they're gonna run into an absolute midst of punishment from teams. But jumping on over to Dark Zero and 58 points on the series. They're throwing out the bangle. They're trying to get around this rock and eliminate that team and clear out their backside. And look at all the damage going out. They're doing just what they need.
That is absolutely worth the extra grenade. It's worth the wide swing. Dark Zero have done so much damage. Their priority is unquestionable. Zero does take a bit of a chunk, and instead of pushing this with Jen Burton lagging so far behind, we're all going to take a chill pill. Dark Zero will retain their position. You don't want to make yourself any weaker by overextending. Our FaZe are actually in a could go down. Ponyhead gets chunked pretty heavily and sniped down, ultimately commits to the high ground. But could very well have been a step too far by Onyx. Ends up being just the right amount. The Goldilocks of Apex Legends finds their way to a wonderful team wipe.
Very unfortunate. At that point, you're just sniped down in the trenches, looking up, and you see all three members of Onyx above you, and you're like, there is literally nothing I can do in this situation. But now Onyx are gonna get inundated with all of the forces. You have North Eption, you have FC Destroy, and North Eption just utilizing the Dark Veil to work around. They just need a good line of sight, and they find one, throw down a good chunk of damage, but no one is even putting their attention towards Lyca, and now able to back away, prioritize healing, and let the teammates do some work.
I'm amazed that Onyx even got away with that, and even now I may have spoken too soon. There's not a whole lot of cover available to them, but knocks aren't coming through just yet. Gumbariotasan even go down before this fight concludes, and North Eption aren't pushing. It is amazing that Onyx did not drop the entire squad in that moment. Now with North Eption on the push, however, they're still very much in danger.
Well, we knew Dark Zero was looking at a lot of these teams, and their rotation pattern kind of went a little bit different. And then Dark Zero decides, hey, we're not even going to engage on this. We're going to play zone and prioritize that. But Pioneers throwing down another evacuation tower. Now as a duo, they've lost out on Zane. They do have the banner, but they're not likely going to be able to make it to that respawn beacon before the closes.
If NRG can do it, Nasky's got to believe that he can do it. I think that's absolutely his attitude, is that if somebody else has already done it, there's no reason that I can't do it better. And honestly, so far, Nasky's done all right for himself, so I'm not gonna play games with that. However, Pioneers being just a duo does give them an inherent amount less pressure to the squads around them, and this castle wall certainly signifies that. It is not active. It is, if anything, more risky because they've announced that they cannot even fight for a good position. The team above them knows that. Dojo have to know that, having seen this as a duo, and any team that rotate in underneath has a chance of sniffing it out.
Well, they really don't have a lot of space to work with. The moment Dell moves just a little bit too far to his left, that gives Dojo such a nice angle on them to really deal a lot of damage, and it's going to destroy all of their health utility. But now the Dojo, knowing they need to move, take that angle to look straight down on the lower advantage here. With only two players up, Disciple wants a piece. It's going to fall to the hands of Nasky, but enemy grabs the trade. We're just looking for the last of the hipfire going out, just like that. KPP falling.
Wonderful played and fight from Dojo as well. Perfect execution. And on the other side, Dark Zero maybe falling a bit early. Clutch this up, but the R99 does not do him a miracle today. And Iron Blood Gaming get a well-deserved win.
You know what this is going to do? This is going to open the door for NRG to make a play for the top spot of this series. FC Destroy is going to fall, so let's jump over here, check in with NRG on 51 points, a plethora of elimination, and they are surrounded by North Eption, by Dojo, who are finally starting to pull some things together.
In a spot like this, it's all about picking your moment. Dojo almost overextend, but that Phoenix kit is going to save enemy, give them a quick reset. Top position where enemy immediately finds a fantastic angle. The ultimate Dojo, even better sightlines. Well, they haven't gotten to knock. It's two shield cracks and a team that is basically dead in front of them.
And that's going to be North Eption. They were able to grab a knock on to Ling from the high ground, but they have to keep moving. That ring is coming in, and it's going to push them off the high ground straight into an EMP. Pulverex ahead of them. North Eption will fall at the hands of NRG. Now, focusing on healing up, prioritizing the positioning. They're already sitting at 8 eliminations. They're looking for double digits.
NRG took a lot of damage off of this rotation through zone. They have no cover, and now they have no catalyst to block line of sight either. They have no choice but to push forward. Nathan gonna run in, grab a quick shield swap, see what kind of magic he can work, but he's being fried from behind, and Sweet's gotta play cover, jumping up on top. He's got an incredible car, but he doesn't quite find the knock. With IBG coming in for the third party, NRG will go down. We're into the top two squads. It's IBG versus a solo from Black Hand, and the fry from IBG is just a little too good. The 6th game goes to Iron Blood Gaming.
Quite impressive. Had they not taken out Dark Zero when they did, we would have had a complete way forward. Congratulations, Iron Blood Gaming. Well done.
This is a really good ending from them as well, and mostly about endgame
Together,
prevention. We saw a
let's
lot
go.
of teams, as we moved out of Northpad, mismanage the rotation, not be able to call the move fast enough. Dojo actually is an interesting example to talk about, not because they mismanaged it, but because perhaps they played it in a way where they had other options. So that's where I'm going to go with this. They chose to commit onto the low ground, as so many teams did, fighting over priority in a building that isn't going to be in zone. And that killed almost everyone. It almost killed IBG.
Yeah, that was really tough, right? Using that grab lift, going straight up to the high ground, but immediately having to fall off it when they could have just prioritized maybe going the other way. Things would have been different. And how was Blackhand able to survive as a solo? I don't know, maybe because there's no seer, and maybe they knew there was a solo down there, and they just were like, we don't need to push this just yet. We'll deal with it at the end.
Yeah, I am really enjoying the difference that we've seen from Split 2 playoffs. Not seeing as much seer in these lobbies have really appreciated the way that we're able to, or these teams have very quickly adapted to using the small amount of information that you get from Bloodhound scans to make split-second decisions. That's really fascinating to watch and even see other teams react to, as we've seen squads pick up Gibraltar as an answer, being able to stall out some of that push.
It's been fascinating to see them adapt. It's been fascinating to watch, but now I'm curious to hear what our analyst desk has to say about that series. Take it over, guys.
Thank you very much. Fantastic casting, closing out that series. I mean, you're talking about variety and meta. We're getting variety in the winners here, Mark.
Yeah, no repeat winners in that group whatsoever. It's very interesting to see, actually. You know, the disparity between some of the teams. The first 3 games that we casted on the desk, we were like, this is getting a little bit point spongy. Some of the big dogs coming through, you know, NRG, Alliance getting wins in those first 3 games. But then towards the end, you have Singularity, Pulverex, Iron Blood Gaming coming through with wins. And I think it's just proof, right, here at the ALGS Championships that you can't take anything for granted. Anyone can win a game here, and you've got to be on your best to perform the best and get those points on the board.
Yeah, honestly, very impressive for everyone. Obviously, we've got Onset Gaskin and Graceful up on the desk. Graceful, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you excited to be here?
Super excited to be here. Always been, you know, always been playing LANs personally rather than casting them, and now I'm very happy to try different fields in esports in general.
Okay, well, were you paying attention in those final moments? Because speaking of this last match, let's take a look back at the final circle. Walk us through what you took away.
So the thing that caught me the most by surprise, honestly, is Energy's late rotate in the zone. They didn't notice it at all. Dojo didn't notice it at all until it was too late, to where they're just caught in a pinch between IBG and Energy. And IBG pretty much just cleans up the rest of the game from there for free. But yeah, Energy's flank out of nowhere caught everybody off guard. IBG just plays super solid as a team. Hold hands is what we call it, or deathballing, is where you're literally just hugging each other, running as a tank unit. Because if you split, somebody gets caught off guard, that's where you see a flaw and teams take advantage immediately.
I think what's crazy about that final circle is the difference it made. NRG finishing 3rd instead of 2nd. Had they got those extra points, NRG would have topped the groups there, and that would have made a big difference in terms of what's kind of going down, confidence as we look through. But Dark Zero and NRG, only a point between them. I mean, that's what you want as NRG fans. We were asking the questions, are they going to be up there? And they've answered that today.
I think a lot of teams have either answered some of our questions or surprised us, depending on what region we're talking about in the moment, because we've had some standout performances across the board from so many of our squads. But now that this series is done, we can take an opportunity here to talk about those match results, see where some of these numbers ended up, because you mentioned it, we had NRG in a spot where they could have gotten a few more points on the board for themselves. And right now, obviously, in groups, we've got a little bit more leeway. Still tons of time for these teams to get some points on the board. But talk to me a little bit about how that could potentially change those standings.
I mean, it's interesting, right? When game number 1 finished, I was like, NRG looks so solid. Like, what was it, like a 32-point game, I think they had out the blocks. And I was like, okay, if they have like a couple of solid games here, they're going to be topping it by miles. But then you've got to remember that the quality of the lobby a lot of the times, it is no easy fight whatsoever. And it did change. Like Dan was saying, you know, you've got Dark Zero up there. They had a great series as well. But I think those last 3 games really changed things up, right? As soon as we moved maps, we changed over to Storm Point. It seems like some teams and some players, whatever it might have been, just adapted much better, and it was a stronger map for them. And that's the fascinating things whenever we have these 6-game sets, right? It's always, okay, we're comfortable now on World's Edge, but now we got to change over to Storm Point. And even though I would say throughout time things have got a little bit tighter, teams don't get as heavy point on one as in comparison to the other, you are starting to see still those teams on Storm Point who can perform.
Yeah, well, we'll look at those numbers. Dan, talk me through your thoughts on what we got out of this one.
Honestly, I think when we saw these two groups going up against each other, we knew there were heavy hitters. We knew there was going to be a couple of teams that were going to big up those points, that were going to maybe make all those other teams that were going to struggle a little bit in the mid-card, who want to be able to pick up, 4 or 5 every single time. The first 3 games that we casted, it was your usual suspects that were going to be up there, that were getting so many points. And if Dark Zero is in a lobby like that, maybe they'll be looking at, could we have got more points? Because they had a great start and they started to fall off and then they pick it back up again. 59 isn't a huge total. We have seen it a lot higher from certain teams in certain places, but in that final match 6 result, Ironblood Gaming putting 24 would have given them such a big confidence boost now going into the other sets.
Graceful, who else jumped out for you in the entire performance here for match number 6?
For match number 6, I think IBG, obviously, clearly the winner, Blackhand as well, playing well. I think Dojo, though, has been super consistent in general. The biggest thing across the entire series, though, I feel like teams are waking up. They're stepping up, they're waking up, they're finally getting those reps in. You have to remember, many of these teams, some have had roster changes. Seer got changed out recently, mid-scrims. They have been practicing a lot of new stuff. They can't just be heavy hitting immediately. They're using groups to warm up, get the tournament started, and it's just going to go even harder each and every day.
All right, well, we also have the series results here talking about how close it was. DZ Energy separated by 1 point at the top of the leaderboard for groups C and D. But we also, like we said, had some other standout performances. We saw a really nice ending out of Pioneers and Pulverex, and that was a team that we were all hoping would get more aggressive here in the championship mark.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look how close this is. This is probably one of the closest groups point-wise that we've had in quite some time, especially in LAN. 1 point separating the top 2, then it's a 10-point drop, but everybody after that is within a couple of points of each other. And as fun as it always is to look at the top of the leaderboard who's playing well, it's also very important that we highlight who didn't have the greatest of lobbies. Yes. And I'm looking down at Alliance. There was a lot of talk, ironically, coming into this tournament. Are Alliance a group stage team? Well, apparently not, especially in the first group that we've seen here, but there is going to be a lot more games to come, and they had some pretty rough circles as well. Keep that in mind, especially on World's Edge. So they've got a lot to prove. They'll be ready to perform. Of course, Mandy's sitting in for them as well, so we have to kind of, make sure that we're given the appropriate dues, but also you just expect them to win games, right? Every single time we see them. So for Alliance, maybe not the performance they wanted, but I'm sure there's a lot left in the tank.
And then down at the bottom, you've got Kick there, and I'm just begging them to kind of change some POIs at the moment. It doesn't seem like they are going to retreat, and if you're contesting every single map, then you are going to be down at the bottom of the table, and it's just at what point do you drop that ego a little bit?
All right, well, now even just comparing the first 2 series across the board, Graceful, what is your overall takeaway from the day so far?
I think that a lot of teams in general have been slow starting, but every single team in the lobby can win, even the entire LAN. They just have to find their groove, and it's about to head up, I think, yeah.
All right, well, that is a wrap on our second series of the day. We still have tons more Apex Legends action in store for all of you. It's time for us to send it to a short break, though, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
He's ripped 2 of them apart, and now it's a 2 versus 1!
Gildesons might get them all! Gild! It's all up to TMT!
Okay guys, thanks for watching the final results for today. This is C and D groups. And A and B results. I'll show. This is A and B results. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye bye. See you tomorrow.